All right, before we stall and yap for too long, today, on this beautiful, glorious day, we will be reading Lord of the Mysteries. I lost my fan. Volume 4. And we will be witnessing greatness. So the whole time, you're going to be reading with Curtin today, okay? Chapter 799 is called Patience. Before I forget my honorific, Easy's honor... Why do I keep reading that part? I keep reading Bullseye Easy honorific name. The reader who stalls for eternity, the tamer of beasts and dogs, the one who farms, LOTM, Easy Geeky. All right, you guys ready? I'm excited. Let's go right into it. You know who it is. You know what we're here to read. Like, comment, sub, and it'll mean the world to me. All right, let's get into it. Chapter 795 is called Patience. I feel like my audio is a little loud on my end. Let me know. As a Seguin who liked to stay home, the number of battles Emlyn had involved himself in could be counted on one hand. Furthermore, he had never attempted fighting in this state of a number of disadvantages. Oh my, we're getting a freaking vampire fight this chapter. I forgot about that. Be it his attack on a previous primordial moon believer or resisting Bishop Utroski from the Harvest Church, he basically had the numerical advantage in being the worst at one-on-one fights. Thinking back to the failure of his family with the three attempting to defeat the half-giant bishop, Elmlick's expression turned livid as though he had recalled the torture he had suffered back at the Harvest Church. As there were many residents living here, and with Gillis Kevin having sharp senses as an artificial vampire, he didn't dare stay outside the door for too long. He quickly walked past the area and walked to the end of the corridor and hid in the shadows. What should I do next? Emlyn leaned against a random object that blocked the crimson sunlight as his thoughts rapidly whirled in an attempt to find a solution with his pitiful amount of experience. Gradually, the words which the hanged man had taught the sun surfaced in his mind. Patience is an important premise when dealing with many situations. Only by being able to curb your urgings and irascibility will you be able to avoid the danger of the greatest extent. I feel like I'm reading wrong. At times, tolerance is very important. Tolerance. Emlyn nodded indiscriminately and knew what he needed to do. He planned on laying in ambush until Argos left. And this was in the artificial vampire residence. It was certain that he would leave when the time came. Emlyn could deal with a one-on-one situation. Patience, tolerance, waiting. Alan repeated these words inwardly so as to resist the damage surroundings were dealing to him. The air wafting through the first floor on the condominium was filled with the stench of piss, rotting moisture, and the unflushed smell of feces. Ugh. The odor of some of the residents, as well as all kinds of nauseating, unpleasant, and disgusting smells mixed together, they weren't like a poison that ate at Emlyn's senses. For the first time in his life, Emlyn wished that he could slice off his nose. He had the feeling as though he was stuck in the abyss. Or there's so much. We need an Abyss volume, man. If we don't get an Abyss volume, I'm a riot. Finally, he saw Gallus Kevin door open. A thin, dark brow figure walked out. His cheekbone protruded, and he had a high, sharp, and crooked nose. He was none other than the primordial moon believer Argos. At that moment, his face had patches of swollen festering that looked disgusting. Average lower class smell versus the average Audrey smell. It's crazy, dude. The difference, man. The difference in lifestyle in this series is wild, man. Indeed, as a young boss, Ian said that fellows wearing clothes that are clean and tidy, completely unlike the residents of Eastborough. Ellen became spirited as he walked Argos left the condominium. After patiently waiting for nearly 5 minutes, he stood up and decided to take action. As his target, Gallus Kevin, was an artificial vampire, Emlyn was rather aware of his opponent's strength and traits. Hence, he had made preparations in a targeted manner. Gallus Kevin sensed a sense of smell isn't weaker than mine when I just came of age. This actually cannot be confirmed. For him to stay in such an environment, he might have already lost his nose and brains. Besides, his spirituality can't be weak, and he has an innate instinct that's geared towards danger. His vision and hearing can't be too bad either. As Emlyn viewed his opponent with scorn, he consumed a potion and sprayed out a liquid to cover his body's scent again. Right on the heels of that, by consuming the potion and spraying it on like last time, he hid his body and a tire. Wow, I can't read. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm a little fatigued from the gym. It's going to take me a chapter or two. He hid his body in the tire, dispersing as though he had been wiped away by an eraser. In a dark, uninhabited corner, a palm-sized notebook, which was bronze green in color, had suddenly appeared out of thin air and thought it had passed through a transparent screen. It began flipping itself almost silently before fixing onto a white page that was filled with astronomy symbols. As these symbols vanished, the surroundings brightened up a little. This was the disruption ability of an astrologer. Then Layman's Travels was retracted, disappearing inch by inch, and it was completely concealed by an invisible screen. Dude, this is such a good item, man. Layman's Travels. Prepared, Emlyn recalled his plans. He lightened his footsteps and silently arrived outside Gallus Kevin's apartment without approaching the door. The notebook appeared out of thin air once again before being flipped to the door opening page. An illusory door immediately resounded in Emlyn's mind as it prompted him to reach out a hand towards the wall. At the same time, Emlyn cautiously pulled back Layman's Travels into his clothes using his invisible coat to hide it. When Emlyn Palm finally pressed to the wall, he saw a ghostly blue incorporeal blurry door appear out of thin eyes. It was embedded in the wall, but it also showed signs of masonry at the bottom. Cocking his ears to hear the goings on inside the house, he took a sniff of the air before taking a step back. He then passed through the ghostly blue door as it was passing a screen of water. Music? Oh wait, what am I doing? This is a battle. This is a fight. Bro, fight music? I know. Wait, I just realized that. Well, hold up. I probably would have put it as soon as he, like, lunged at him. But yeah, what am I saying? The fight's already starting. Okay, good catch, Cammy. Sorry. Yeah, we were a little too locked in. I completely forgot to play battle music. When Emlyn's palm finally pressed the wall, he saw a ghostly blue incorporeal... Let me reread this paragraph. Incorporeal blurry door open appeared before his eyes. It was embedded in the wall, but it also showed signs of masonry at the bottom. Cocking his ears to hear the goings-on inside the house, he took a sniff of the air before taking a step forward. He then passed through the ghostly blue door as if he was passing a screen of water. The scene before him changed immediately. It was filled with walls covered in stains and 3 wooden beds to the side, a worn-out cupboard, and all kinds of miscellaneous items. This was the inside of Gallus Kevin's apartment. Time to get 150 XP. As for the ghostly blue door behind Emlyn, it had long vanished if it had never experienced before. Cautiously surveying the area, Emlyn caught sight of his target, Gallus Kevin. This primordial moon believer was a good-looking mixed blood. He had long hair that reached his shoulders, and his eyes were a little red, as though he didn't fully acquire the eyes of a sanguine. At that moment, he was sitting by the side of the bed, staring at the door, his thoughts a mystery. Emlyn circled to his side without causing a commotion. He took out Layman's Travels, which he ensued was in a blind spot, and he flipped to a page that left his fingers slightly numb. It was a yellowish-brown goatskin page. The surface was filled with all kinds of ancient and distorted symbols and patterns. Together, they constructed a figure that looked like a thin tree with outstretched branches. After adjusting his angle, Emlyn slid his fingers across the page. Suddenly, the silver lightning illuminated the room as if it was daytime. A sizzling sound was heard as the lightning smote Gallus Kevin's on the head, charring the primordial moon believer instantly. His body convulsed as his eyes lost focus. The silver bolts of lightning continues... It keeps going? No, you're okay, dude. The silver bolts of lightning continues snaking around with Emlyn's fingers surfaced behind the frozen target's back. He reached out his right palm as he clenched his opponent's neck. Ka-chop. He calmly snapped Gallus Kevin's neck and yanked off his head and tossed the body away. It's over that quick? This is literally Twilight when you separate the head from the body, dude. Wait, what? He calmly snapped Gallus Kevin's neck and yanked off his head. This has to be a clone. Yanked off his head and tossed the body away, eliminating the possibility of letting his opponent heal himself with his strong restorative powers. Paw. Gallus Kevin's headless corpse collapsed to the ground as blood sprayed everywhere. An artificial vampire lost its life just like that. Emlyn's calm expression was quickly replaced with surprise. He looked at the head in his hand with disbelief. He realized that Gallus Kevin didn't realize what was happening even upon death. Fixed in his eyes were pain and puzzlement. It's that easy. It happened like a breeze. Although Emlyn was proud, he didn't believe that he could finish off an artificial vampire that easily. What's the catch? However, reality told him that it was easy as a breeze. A lightning strike that can cause paralysis together with my high movement speed had allowed me to instantly kill my target. No shot, dude. We got a Twilight fight and it ended that quickly. Man, the first Twilight movie, you had to wait until the freaking dismemberment part, and here he did it in like one page. The premise is that he's weak to lightning, allowing him... Oh, shit, you're right. We did say that. We did read that last stream. The premise is that he's weak to lightning, allowing him to be easily paralyzed. Also had interfered with the spiritual intuition ahead of time and avoided attacking him head-on by passing through the walls. Those were the key to my success. After a few seconds of surprise, Emlyn recalled the details and concluded plenty of useful experience. This made him truly realize the potency of matching beyond powers, as well as the value of Layman's Travels. It's no wonder Mr. Hangman was the first one to have thought of renting in. Emlyn reined in his thoughts and looked at the blood that gushed out of Gallus Kevin. His throat couldn't help but move. He hadn't had that much fresh blood in a while. However, he didn't dare drink it. This was because the deceased beyond characteristics had yet to appear. the blood would still contain parts of it, and drinking it would easily result in excessive beyond characteristics, adding the risk of losing control. Oh, that's true. That's true. You need like a sanguine's blood or like a vampire's blood. This wasn't conducive to his subsequent operations. Emlyn retracted his gaze and surveyed the surroundings. He found a stack of old newspapers in a tiny wooden chest. He planned on using that to store Gallus Kevin's head in, and before that, he sat down and waited for the beyond characteristic to appear. 2 minutes later, Emlyn suddenly looked up at the door. He heard the footsteps. Immediately after that, he caught scent of Argos. Emlyn's so cool. Dude, he's always been cool. Oh, he's always been sassy with Derek, but now he's pretty badass. And he had a lot of, like, sweet, like, wholesome moments with Father Trotsky towards the end. Why is the artificial vampire back? He returned midway. Emlyn White instantly became a little nervous, unsure how he was going to handle the issue. Thump. Argos knocked on the door first from the outside without making a sound. This resulted in an abnormal silence. Emlyn was stunned. He immediately understood that Argos had caught scent of the blood and knew that something had happened inside. What should I do? Rush out and finish him. No others would see me if I do so. I would then be caught by the official Beyonders. Emlyn instinctively took out a potion. Ad planned on hiding himself again. Suddenly he had an idea. Exhaling silently, Emlyn placed Gallus Kevin on the bed as he drank an invisibility potion and spewed out the corresponding amount of liquid. Slowly and very gently, he moved to a corner of the room and hid there. This way, it made it seem like the assassination was completed by the murderer that had long fled the scene. As time passed, aside from the occasional passing by the residents, there was silence both inside and outside. Suddenly, Gallus Kevin's window cracked open as a pair of eyes shot its gaze inside. After careful inspection, Argos, with its festering face, leaped into the room and slowly walked into the corpse, which was still indistinctly expelling the beyond characteristics. Oh, hasn't formed yet. In the corner, Emlyn White secretly took out Layman's Travels while Argos wasn't looking in his direction. He flipped to another page of Lightning Strike. No shot, 2 for 2. At this moment, Argos' sight landed on the bed and on his companion's head, as well as a stack of old newspapers and the tiny wooden chest. His pupils suddenly constricted. No shot he's gonna get a second one, right? All right, let's keep reading. Dude, I'm telling you, D, not only is it gonna be a rampage, it's gonna be 2 for 2. Watch right here. He's gonna get him again with a lightning strike. Chapter 776 is called Slowly Becoming Proficient. Just a little bit. Not good. Emlyn White traces Argos' gaze and realized that he had forgotten to deal with the old newspapers in the tiny wooden chest. So he left evidence. Although they were part of the room, they were placed in different parts of the room. Now they were put together, making it appear rather odd. It was as though someone had wanted to do something with them before having to give up on the time being. Then why would there be a need to give up? Was the person alarmed by knocking over the door? That means that the murderer hadn't left and is hiding in a particular corner of the room. Similar thoughts flashed in Argos' mind and Emlyn's mind at the same time. Dang. Okay, now we're gonna get like an actual fight where they're not off guard. However, one of them was feeling perplexed while the other was reversed, inferring that the other party's thoughts. No good. The two vampires retracted at the same time as Argos lunged to the side as he emitted thick black gases that resembled a bat's wings. As for Emlyn White, his finger quickly swiped across the open Layman's Travels. Suddenly, a silver hue appeared, illuminating the room. Again, the lightning that branched out didn't hit Argos and ended up hitting the ground beside the bed. It broke up into countless thin bolts that snaked towards conductive materials. Here, the wing which Argos used thick black gases to create seemed to attract the lightning. Wait, it's attracting it? It was pierced by the snaking lightning as they struck him, spreading across his body. Argos became numb for a second and crashed down to the ground before he could leap up. Emlyn hurriedly flipped through Layman's Travels and once again slid his finger across the lightning strike page, and he's going to take him out. Although he didn't know why there were so many pages of lightning strike, with them taking up nearly half of the yellowish-brown goatskin, he was overjoyed that he could keep on using them. The silver bolts of lightning crashed down, smiting Argos, causing his body to make black smoke despite having just recovered from his numbed state. Failing to leap away, his body began to convulse uncontrollably. Seizing this opportunity, Emlyn White bent his knees and leaped forward with his feet, approaching Argos with after images trailing behind him. Then he wrapped his right arm around the target's head, easily flashing behind him. Kacha. Argos directly saw his back, his eyes filled with blood as few festering parts of his face burst open as deep and illusionary darkness poured from the outside. Wait, his face? His eyes filled with blood as a few festering parts of his face burst open as deep and illusionary darkness poured out from the inside. Emily had no idea what had happened. He slipped backwards instinctively as he kept chanting his positioning. Argos didn't pursue as his eyes lost rationality. All that was left was pure malice, intent, madness, and clear blankness. He raised his hands and pressed them against his head before forcefully twisting it, allowing it to return to its normal orientation with a crisp crack. And around this artificial vampire, the darkness surged as though it wanted to devour everything. Then Argos stretched his neck from side to side as his body swelled and oozed out disgusting pus. So gross. He had come to Gallus Kevin tonight because his body had shown signs of losing control. There was a need to discuss a solution, and this just pushed him past that breaking point, right? He returned midway because he suddenly came to the realization that perhaps the harsh environment had caused the intense negative effects to him due to his extraordinary sense of smell sensitivity, thus resulting in him having signs of losing control. And at that moment, he completely broke down with a shadow of death hanging over him. He had lost control. Most clean Beyonder fight. This is such a cool fight, dude. But it's crazy. Like Emlyn took him out so quickly. Yes, he had layman's travels, but still, dude, it's crazy seeing like how strong these characters get as the volumes progress. Emlyn White's heart palpitated when Argos swept his gaze across him. He felt that he had encountered trouble against, as he couldn't help but curse the primordial moon believers for often making themselves into monsters. He didn't immediately pray to Mr. Fool for two reasons. First, there weren't any times as his opponent was about to launch an attack. Second, in a one-on-one situation, Emlyn believed that it was in too dangerous. Dealing with the Sequence 7 Rampager, he made every second count by flipping through layman's travels, quickly letting it land on the page with a lightning strike again. Thick, distorted bolts of silver lightning smote down heavily as it... I'm reading wrong. As it flailed its claw, striking the muttered Argos. And at that moment, the lightning that seemed to shatter the surging darkness, but it also seemed to be devouring by its two vanished... But it also seemed to be devoured by it. The two vanished at the same time, leaving behind Argos, who had finally locked his sights onto Emlyn. It's too late, dude. This artificial vampire who had lost control produced after images as he pounced towards his target. Emlyn crouched down and rolled, dodging the lethal strike, and at the same time, he reached his free right hand into his pocket and took out a metal bottle. Bam. As Argos quickly turned around, he instantly appeared near his enemy paw. Without any time to remove the cover, Emlyn clenched his fingers, pinched open a crack in the metal bottle. Then he threw the bottle ahead, letting the pure out radiant liquid inside splatter towards the approaching Argos. This was Sun Holy Water. Clean sweep? This was Sun Holy Water, which he had concocted with spirituality. It was extremely strong against vampires. It was a preparation that a potions professor had to do in advance. He is so sick, dude. Being splashed by the liquid, Argos let out a blood-curdling stream. Wisps of black smoke billowed from his body as he lost his strength in midair. Bang. Although he collided with Emlyn, he failed to make him lose his balance. Emlyn tumbled twice, but he didn't suffer any actual damage. While tumbling, Emlyn ignored the managing... Wow, I'm reading wrong. While tumbling, Emlyn ignored managing his injuries. He swapped his right hand, which had made contact with a few drops of the sun water, and quickly flipped Layman's Travel's paw. Another bolt of silver lightning smote down, causing Argos' tragic cries to come to an end. This is so cool, dude. This vampire who had lost control had appeared to be suffering the radiance of the sun from a close distance as he fell into a state of intense paralysis. Emlyn seized this opportunity and took out another bottle of the sun water. He unscrewed the cap and poured it towards his opponent. This time, Argos didn't even manage to let out a cry. His body began to melt like wax. It was only then that Emlyn heaved a sigh of relief. He then conjured a thick black fog behind him, turning into illusory bats the size of a palm as they swarmed towards his target. The black bats landed on Argos, enveloping him completely. Following that, they separated and flew back as Emlyn before vanishing. Argos' body had shrunk quite noticeably, and he finally couldn't hold out any longer. In his half-melted state, he slowly collapsed. Only then did Emlyn raise his right hand to check on the remnant pain. He saw that his palm and a few fingers wounds that were corroding. What would the Terror Club do without amazing sealed artifacts? I don't know. They would not have made it this far. I'll tell you that much. However, the flesh inside was rapidly squirming as they heaved themselves. It's over. Actually, he killed freaking 2 vampires. It's over. I actually finished him. Emlyn retracted his gaze and looked at Argos' corpse in slight disbelief. Although this hunt had quite a few ups and downs, he hadn't encountered any real danger the entire time. This made him realize that the existence of the Terror Club made him far stronger than he imagined. If Argos had checked Gallus Kevin's corpse first and noticed that the newspapers and wooden chests, he definitely would have figured out that I possessed beyond powers like lightning strike. He wouldn't have used wings of darkness while dodging to end up being hit by the lightning. Oh, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, it's true if he figured it out. This way, he wouldn't have discovered any abnormalities and wouldn't have made an evasive maneuvers ahead of time. My lightning strike would have struck him directly and things would have been easier. Viewing it from this angle, no matter what happened, I would be able to kill him as long as I didn't make a mistake in my handling of the matters. There's really weak, so I'm already this powerful. It's no wonder the ancestor made me join the Terror Club. This is a gathering that prepares the various races for the impending apocalypse. It's of a much higher level than the other secret organizations. Emlyn tipped his chin up a little, and he couldn't help but curl his lips. Following that, he has the biggest smile on his face right now. Following that, he heard footsteps outside, but no one dared to approach. Argo's screams must have alarmed surrounding residents, but they wouldn't dare to enter because they're afraid of the trouble. However, someone will definitely report it to the police. I need to clear the scene as quickly as possible and leave. Emlyn retracted his gaze from the door and walked to Gallus Kevin corpse. From the pooling blood, he picked up an item the size of a fist. It was completely red in color and resembled a heart. It was expanding and contracting slightly, and its surface was translucent. He could vaguely see a liquid flowing inside. Is it the characteristic? He could vaguely see a liquid flowing inside, and it was none other than the bionic characteristics of a Sequence 7 vampire of the Apocryphy pathway. This is my trophy. Emlyn was momentarily felt unaccustomed to it. After calming himself, he wrapped the bionic characteristics and Gallus Kevin head with the old newspapers and stuffed it into the wooden chest. After placing the wooden chest to the side, he yanked Argo's head, whose form looked like nothing like before. He then took out another bottle of medicine and scattered in every corner of the room. During this process, Emlyn wasn't flustered at all. It was as though he wasn't worried that the official Beyonders in Eastboro would rush over. A few minutes later, he picked up Argo's mutated Beyonder characteristics, glancing at its surface, which was nearly black in color. And this indistinct human face patterns behind him, a black gas was emanated. The black gas transformed into the countless tiny bats again and again and flew within the room. They combed with the potion's liquid that had been sprayed earlier, forming a silent black flame that spread outwards. The black flames burned away the blood and corpse as well as the traces of the lightning strike, leaving no evidence. All that was left was a layer of sticky liquid that resembled the asphalt of covering the different objects in the room. Then these liquid bodies turned into heavy black bats as they spiraled around Emlyn's body. It's so sick. Emlyn didn't have an extravagant hopes that his actions could completely interfere in any subsequent investigations. He only had one goal: to make the situation look okay. This made the police or official Beyonders who took on the case write off the matter as something of little value. After a simple investigation, they would file it away and not pay any further attention to it. After doing all this, Emlyn, with his cap and blackened face, surveyed the room. Following that, he bowed slightly at the Crimson Moon. Meanwhile, he flipped the pages in Layman's Travels and had it stop its teleportation. Emlyn's figure, along with the heavy bats, immediately turned transparent and formless as he vanished from the spot. After nearly 15 minutes, a policeman from Eastboro rushed inside. They crashed through the door, but didn't discover any residents or corpses. They yawned languidly and forced the onlooking residents to admit that they had been hallucinating, thus ending the investigation, leaving no evidence. This was the efficiency and the style of the Eastboro police. After leaving Eastboro, Emlyn first headed home and hit Layman's Travels. Then, with his spoils, he headed straight for the Odoros house in Westboro. He wanted to declare his victory and claim his reward. And what a good fight, dude. All right, let's just keep reading, dude. All right, chapter 797 is called Reward. Inside Odoros villas, Emlyn saw Cosme, who was also a baron like he was, but he ain't got no Layman's Travels on rat. This and Gwen, who seemed like a man in his prime, was Nibs, Odoros' spokesperson. I'm also a baron, and one that recently achieved adulthood at that. Emlyn mumbled inwardly. He got up from the sofa in the activity room and bowed. Good evening, Mr. Lord. Cosme was just about to say something when his nose twitched. He then cast his gaze towards the wooden chest beside Emlyn's feet. Oh, that's where the head is, right? The smell of fresh blood. As he asked in puzzlement, he seemed to connect the dots and added after a second of thought, "You killed another target." Emlyn curled his lips and shook his head. No. Then, before Cosme could ask further, he smiled, turned profound. Not one, but two. Two! The middle-aged gentleman was taken aback as he watched Emlyn bend down to open the lid. During this process, Emlyn's facial muscles winched a little as a series of actions had touched the wound on his right hand. Damn, dude. That's so good, dude. Holding back the change in expression, Emlyn allowed his arm to hang down slightly, allowing the chest to tilt and reveal its contents to the sanguine baron opposite of him. Two charred, bloody heads were stuffed inside a pile of old newspapers. By the side were two transparent objects which resembled hearts, one red with vitality and the other nearly black. This impactful scene was reflected in Cosme's eyes, and he looked at him surprised, staring at Emlyn's blankly as he blurted out, "You did this." Although he had only managed to recognize one head being Gallus Kevin's, but the two vampire Beyonder characteristics couldn't be faked. Emlyn put down the wooden chest and allowed his right hand to hang down naturally. Super what? impetuously, I can't read that word. He flicked his right hand very slightly along the corners of his trousers as he replied with a smile. Of course. This is the thing. After receiving a 7,000 pound reward back then, I bought a particular Baron's legacy at the particular Beyonder gathering. With it, I advanced. I don't wish to use the money to satisfy the murderers who hunt us sanguine, but I didn't wish for this legacy to land in the hands of others. Besides, the seller wasn't necessarily the hunter. Taking this opportunity, Emlyn revealed the fact that he had already become a Baron. Furthermore, even every word he said was the truth. This was a technique he had learned from the Terry Club. Damn, look at him putting his freaking practices to real work. Falling for his pure cinema, dude. I'm loving it already. I long knew, like, I feel like this volume is gonna have a lot of world building. Like, no shot we don't call this volume The Undying, and we don't get some crazy revelations with a Zik and Amon, or like a character death, or like freaking Klein dying, or like, again, right? Like, there has to be some crazy shit that happens, and The Undying volume. I long knew that you were a Baron. Do you think that your frequent purchases of all kinds of items or spirituality and the borrowing of books that explain potions would go unannounced? If it weren't because of certain factors, we would have questioned you long ago. What I'm surprised about is your compatibility. You don't even have a single mystical item, and with you only wishing to buy dolls, it's not easy to hunt 2 artificial vampires without causing a commotion, even for a Baron. Even I would need to make plenty of preparations and acquire details and intelligence before it's possible. Without anyone noticing it, Emlyn is already this strong. Cosme Dora couldn't help but lampoon as he revealed a fake smile, but it's pretty funny. So that's the reason. Emlyn, why did you hide it from us? Don't you wish to be addressed as Lord by the other Sanguine? Emlyn glanced. Ooh, that's going to feel good for him. Emlyn glanced at the Sanguine's expression and tilted his chin. I was planning on telling everyone, but since there was the hunting of the competition, I decided to give everyone a surprise. Cosme, I've already hunted 3 of the Primordial Moon Believers, and you gave 5 targets. Does this mean that I've won? He couldn't wait to change his form of address from Lord to Cosme. Cosme's eyelids twitched as he chuckled. Damn, dude, look at this dude. Yes, that's right. You can ignore the 2 other targets. Leave it to Russ, Bathory, and the rest. This way, they might still be eligible for a consolation prize. Having said that, Cosme found his attitude a little too cold, so he hurriedly asked concerned, were you injured? A little. Emlyn raised his right arm and stretched his fingers. To be frank, on this hunt that night, the worst injury he suffered after he teleported out of Eastborough, he had ripped apart his skin to wipe his blood across the covers of layman's travels. Cosme didn't develop the topic as he said after a few seconds of silence, congratulations on being the victor of this hunting competition. You will receive 2 prizes. First, if there's a chance of becoming a Viscount in the future, you will enter the final list of candidates, receiving free help from the ritual. Damn, dude, I'm not ready. I'm excited, dude. Second, you will obtain a mystical item. It's a ring personally created by the ancestor. Okay, that sounds pretty broken. You will obtain a mystical item. It's a ring personally created by the ancestor. Although it doesn't contain any godhood, it possesses potent and very mystical powers. As for the ancestor didn't name it, it was called Lilith's ring. Bruh. Also, according to the convention, these 2 Beyonder characteristics will belong to the entire Sanguine race. This way, we might be able to have 2 more newborns, and you would receive 3,000 pounds in cash in return. A ring personally created made by the ancestor. Although Emlyn was somewhat disappointed that the reward was a Viscount's Beyonder characteristic, with it only being a candidature and a free ritual. I read that wrong. The ring made by the Sanguines as Sir Lilith herself was enough to put things right. To be a proud Sanguine with a sense of racial superiority, this was the highest form of honor. As his joy was quelled, Emlyn, who had participated in several types of gatherings and had completed 2 hunts, felt that things weren't that simple. I was sent by the ancestor to Misterful, and now I'm receiving a ring from the ancestor. Isn't that too much of a coincidence? I don't know, man. Emlyn thought for a moment and he couldn't figure out the answer. He finally decided to pray to Mr. Fool later, describing the entire situation and see what advice he could give him. Noticing that Emlyn's joy had subsided and that he had remained silent for more than 10 seconds, Cosme cleared his throat. That ring and the cash will be given to you tomorrow. When the time comes, I'll summon Russ, Bathory and company, officially announcing your victory in the hunting competition. Then the ring will be given to you. No problem. Although Emlyn lacked the experience in such matters, he knew that the rewards couldn't be given in private and needs to be given in front of all the other participants. Without staying any longer, he bade farewell and left Odoro's villas to a rental carriage. As the carriage slowly drove off, Emlyn took a look at the crimson moon, which was hanging silently in the sky. His mind gradually calmed as he couldn't help but recall everything that had happened that very day. From that, he concluded lessons and gained experience. Finally, he began counting how many Beyonder powers he needed to record onto Layman's Travels. He needs to put 2 additional pages, right? Wait, so does he have to fill up the pages he used plus 2 additional pages? I used all of the 5 lightning strikes, 1 teleportation, and 1 door opening, 1 astronomy, a total of 8 times. In addition to that, I need to pay 2 additional powers, making it 10. This will be a little difficult. There are some beyonder powers that probably can't be recorded. For example, my self-recovery powers, I can only repeat them. After I obtain ancestor rings, I can try recording beyonder powers it possesses. Damn, dude. Lilith's rings above the great fog in the palace that looked like a giant's residence. Klein sat on the high back chair. This, like, being able to rent out Layman's Travels gives Terra Club fights such a unique twist now, because now it's like even though you're not teaming up with a fellow Terra Club member, you using their abilities in return kind of makes you feel like you're fighting alongside them, which is so cool, dude. Lilith's rings above the great fog in a palace that looked like a giant's residence. Klein sat on the high back chair belonging to the fool as he quietly pondered over Emlyn White's prayers. He had originally imagined that he would be woken up in the middle of the night, having to provide a particular inexperienced vampire help. But to his surprise, Emlyn had been... Dude, he looked down on him. So he thought he was going to give Emlyn help, but he finished. Emlyn had finished everything by 11 and had even submitted the mission end. Back then, Emlyn prayed to the fool because of the revelation from the ancient god Lilith. Now he'd received her ring. He's come such a long way since Volume 2. Regardless of who Lilith is, I need to be wary and observe. Klein seriously contemplated for a few seconds, especially after the whole beware of the red moon thing, right? Klein seriously contemplated for a few seconds before replying to Emlyn's prayers in a stated manner. When praying to me, or in particular in the gathering in the future, take off that ring. After giving his instructions, Klein returned to the real world. Without worrying about being woken up in the middle of the night, he slept till daybreak. After breakfast and taking a rest, it was time for his etiquette lessons with Wahana. It was a special lesson for the ball he was hosting as his residence on the weekend. Wahana's soft black hair followed at the ends of her dress, twirled while she let Dwayne Dantes into familiarizing himself with the opening door. In the brisk and comforting music, this etiquette teacher suddenly said, "I heard Ma'am Mary visited you yesterday afternoon." Yes, as Klein poignantly reflected on how there weren't any secrets in the world of social networks, he nodded frankly. Wahana nodded gently and said, after 2 seconds of silence, "I heard that Ma'am Mary had pledged all her shares to the bank to borrow a large sum of money. This is a warning from me to be careful so that I wouldn't fall into a scam. The help I previously provided had not only allowed me to quickly enter the social circles in Buckland Street, but it had also continuously brought me benefits. However, Ma'am Mary pledged of shares was to secretly acquire more shares." Klein listened in silence before revealing a warm smile. "Thank you." He paused and added, "I believe in the character of every friend, but in the fields of business, caution is forever the first principle. I've already gotten Walter to hire an independent lawyer and accounting team to perform the due diligence and come up with a professional that can protect my interests and avoid taxes in the best way possible. Before that, I won't make any decisions." Wahana raised her head a little and looked into Dwayne Taunton's deep blue eyes before suddenly sighing with a laugh. "You truly are a wise person." Klein originally wanted to attribute to it maturity by thinking back to how Wahana's husband had previously been scammed over his cloth, and he only managed to reduce his losses thanks to him. Such an answer easily made her imagine things and make comparisons. Since it would appear like a mockery, he changed his excuse and said with a chuckle, "My wisdom comes from the lessons I received in the past. It's hard to imagine you being duped." Wahana chuckled as she lowered her head. "It is due to all your experiences that you can appreciate the different kinds of charms for all kinds of ladies. When is your rumor ever going to end?" Klein said with a helpless smile, "Every flower had something beautiful." After familiarizing himself with the entire process and the corresponding dance, Klein walked Wahana out. Together with his valet Richardson, he took Ma'am Mary's investigation and headed for Coin Company in Sherwood Borough. That was a good chapter. Let's keep reading. Chapter 798. Let's keep this pacing going. This is our 4th chapter in 32 minutes. All right. Revisiting an old haunt, Sherwood Borough, outside the Coin Company. When Klein alighted from the carriage, he looked around as if he had never been here before, as though everything had a strong sense of novelty. In fact, he wasn't a stranger to the area. He knew the opposite of the street, that the guardedly department store where the middle class enjoyed patronizing, and that there was a shop not far away from the famous for its specialty desi pies. He had once again spent a considerable amount of time here waiting for Dora Gale to tell him so as to obtain evidence to his acts of adultery. Retracting his gaze, Klein walked towards the Coin Company with Richardson. Ma'am Mary and her ladies' maids were already waiting there. In the relatively conservative Lowen Kingdom, a lady servant had to be of the same sex, otherwise it would have resulted in any nasty gossip, affecting her social relationships and marriage. Therefore, even though Ma'am Mary, lady's maid, needs to play the role of her secretly to a certain extent, with her understanding societal etiquette, commercial knowledge and having a certain level of negotiation skills, all she could do was select from women with good education or the relevant working experience without considering any men. Similarly, the gentleman needed to have valettes and commercial secretaries of the same sex. Of course, even so, there were always people who couldn't rein themselves in and engage in the immoral acts. Every year, there were cases of servants and their employers having relationships. Among them, the maids were mostly the victims. They were either cheated, forced, or enticed to become the male employer lover. When they were eventually discovered, they would be fired, losing their jobs. Their reputations would be destroyed, making them ineligible options for servants again. Many a time, they had to become prostitutes. Whoa. Good afternoon, Dwayne Mary, welcoming him with a smile. Locked in today, unless you don't remember what happened. No, we're good. No, we are really locked in right now. I think we're good. Klein bowed and said, good afternoon, ma'am. It really is a flourishing day. Such a topic was roughly equivalent to talking about the weather. After Mary exchanged pleasantries with him, she led Dwayne Dantes through the coin company entrance and said with a smile, later there will be a professional giving you an explanation as they show you around. After about half an hour, head on up, I prepared a buffet and invited a few friends in different circles. This is her trying to expand my social circle. Very sincere. Klein nodded slightly and said, as someone not from this area, I always look forward to knowing more friends. Having just come to Backland, no, you're nothing like that. If I had the liberty of saying it, you're a true Backland gentleman who had received excellent education. Mary replied politely. As they conversed, they passed through the door and entered the reception area, which had an excellent lighting. A stocky man in a suit with a beautiful mustache stood there waiting. This is Luke Samir. He is our koi company's first manager. Mary introduced him to Dwayne Dantes. Actually, I know him. Klein looked at Luke and nodded with a smile. To him, Luke Samir was a rather staid, professional gentleman. He enjoyed machinery and was very gentlemanly gentlemanly person at banquets. He didn't belittle the poor detective who had yet to make a name for himself. No, nor did he deliberately curry favor with a few mid-ranking civil servants of Backland Municipal Department that lived on Mink Street. This is my friend Dwayne Dantes. He's interested in an anthracite and high-quality charcoal. Help me give him detailed explanations, Mary said to Luke. Luke, who had been informed ahead of time, took a step forward and looked at the tycoon from Desi Bay. He gave a warm smile and said respectfully, Mr. Dantes, this is the coin company's headquarters. We have long-term agreements with several anthracite mines. We supply that's such a hard word to say. Anthracite? Is it a kite? Really? Oh, it looks like site. I lost my place. Son of a bitch. Where was I? Is it really anthracite? Why is it spelled site with a C and not a K if it's kite? With several anthracite mines, we supply Sherwood, Holston North, and Westboro with, I go now? No, good, dude. Anthracite and high-quality charcoal satisfying 30% of their overall demand. We also have the chance of clinching a huge contract with the Navy. I've never seen Luke with such an expression. Klein followed him around Coin Company with an unperturbed expression as he listened to Luke introduce the various areas. From time to time, he would inquire without any expression in his attitude. Half an hour later, they went up to the second floor and entered a huge meeting room. The place was already set up with tables and clinging close to the walls. Plates of food were randomly placed on them with mainly ham, smoked meat, sausages, bread, salads, cakes, puddings, and other cold dishes. However, there were a few hot dishes. Just as he stepped in, Dwayne Dantes was introduced to two men who were talking close to Mary. This is reporter Mike Joseph from the Daily Observer. This is an excellent surgeon, Dr. Aaron shares. In Backland, you will often need them. As Klein listened to Mary, he smiled at the two gentlemen, the corners of his lips nearly twitching. These are all friends I'm very familiar with. Well, I'm even more familiar with the fetus in the womb of Aaron's wife. Out of context, that sounds so gross. Out of context, that sounds so bad. But within LOTM's context, that makes sense. Mike Joseph didn't look much different from last year. Wait, I lost my place. Why does that sound wrong? Right here, okay, at least he acknowledges how wrong that sounds. Why does that sound wrong? As Klein lampooned, he patiently waited for Mary to introduce Dwayne Dantes to two men before politely greeting Mike and Aaron. Mike Joseph didn't look much different from last year. He had thin brows, rough skins, and charming blue eyes. As for Aaron Sherrills, although he was instinctively a cold and reserved man, he didn't make it obvious. Everything that happened in the recent half year had been smooth for him. In terms of mood and confidence, he was riding high. Upon hearing Dantes was a tycoon from Desi, Mike took out took out his 9 card and handed it over to Smile. You don't mind me advertising, right? No, of course not. If you wish to publish an advertisement, find me, be it the Daily Observer of the Tuscan Times. I can provide you with a discounted price. As he spoke, Mike winked, indicating that he was joking. You are nothing but a reporter. With all these fake identification documents, why didn't you mention the discount price advertisement to Charlotte Moriarty in the past? You are looking down on the detective, were you? Klein lampooned and exchanged name cards with him. I've always had such needs. Following that, he turned to Aaron and handed another name card to him. I was recently ill and recovered only recently. I'm very aware of how important a doctor is. I'm a surgeon, so I believe you wouldn't wish to meet me that much. Despite saying so, Aaron still received the name cards. No, I'd love to meet you. I even wish to join the party of your child's birth. Damn. Klein mumbled, deliberately leading the conversation to the field of medicine and having a good conversation with Mike and Aaron. Damn. Look at this dude. He had previously been stressing over how to close ties with Aaron to reestablish connections with a particular unborn fetus. After all, the paper crane was about to tear at any moment, making it unusable for even one more attempt. As for Charlotte Moriarty, it was difficult for him to openly appear in Backland to pay Aaron a visit, much less participate in the birth party. There aren't any problems now. With Ma'am Mary's introductions, I can very naturally get close to Aaron. When the time comes, I'll definitely be invited. I might even be made the godfather of a particular snake. That's a really good movie, by the way. If you haven't watched it, go watch The Godfather Part 1. Damn amazing movie. Of a particular snake of Mercury, after all, we are all believers of the goddess. Will this make a particular fetus angry? I'd be careful. I definitely wouldn't mention this unless Aaron mentions it. Klein thought in delight. He skillfully held himself back without appearing overly passionate on his first meeting. After a simple chat, he was introduced to other guests and Mary. He's trying to keep it chill on his first introduction. During this process, Klein didn't forget to get some food and water, making him appear to easily adapt himself to the environment. After completing a round, Mary stopped and said after some deliberation, everyone here is my friend. This means that you didn't invite anyone from other camp and you're also including me as your friend. Klein nodded gently. I probably shouldn't ask as a gentleman, but as a businessman, I need to know who is a person or who are the people vying for the coin company's controlling shares, right? Mary fell silent for 2 seconds. Baron Sinders and his friends, they wish to publicly listen to coin company and earn the sky-high valuation that will eventually happen. They are completely unconcerned with the company's future development. Baron Sinders, one of the richest men in Lowen, by donating to the Conservative Party, he became an aristocrat and is a banker, factory owner, and a powerful businessman. It's hard to tell where he stands, so even though he relied on the Conservative Party to obtain his aristocratic title, he's more aligned with the new party while being biased towards the merchants. Klein thought and asked with a smile, why didn't you get Mr. Hall to help? His father is a powerful noble and banker. He should be able to provide you with the necessary help. Get him young? Out of context, that sounds really bad. But yes, he is trying to get to that unborn fetus as quickly as he can to get on their good side. Why didn't you get Mr. Hall to help? His father is a powerful noble and banker. He should be able to provide you with the necessary help. Mary said with a warm smile, Mr. Hall doesn't wish to involve himself in this matter. He claims to be the chief secretary of the National Atmospheric Pollution Council, so he couldn't be involved in commercial activities that deal with the anthracite or charcoal. A man whose true ambitions lies in politics, however, he probably doesn't wish to be at odds with the Baron Sindras. If I were to choose another butler back then, I'd likely have established ties with the Baron Sindras. He's so rich, so if he really wants to raise the price, I wouldn't be able to beat him. With a trope of him using money to crush me appear. Klein didn't ask further as he said, I will wait for the investigation report. Realizing that Dwayne Dantes wasn't directly backing him, Mary said with a slight gratitude, in this age, chivalrous people are always few and far between. You are one of them. He's so excited. Klein smiled without promising anything. After the buffet was over, he began returning to Northborough on his high-end four-wheeled carriage. As he daydreamed while looking out the window, Klein suddenly said to Richardson, turn towards St. Samuel Cathedral. He had failed to figure out the exact answer for the reason for the anomaly in the cathedral, which was later called. This made him wonder if he should find a chance to make contact with the keepers. He also remembered that every afternoon there would at least be a keeper who prayed to the goddess in the prayer hall. I feel like we're getting one step closer to getting a keeper, and then we go inside and we get the book. How should I make contact? And the environment, even in conservation, will appear noisy, and this will easily incur the suspicions of others. Klein frowned slightly as he decided to observe before coming up with a solution. The carriage didn't change directions as it continued driving towards Buckland Street, but it didn't stop, instead continued past it. Inside the carriage, Klein closed his eyes to calm his slightly anxious feelings. All right, next chapter, 799, is called Spying. Chapter 799, Spying. One chapter away from the big 800, man. Damn. Northborough St. Samuel Cathedral. Just as Klein entered the main prayer hall, he used the points of light that shone from the back of the altar to survey his surroundings, taking in all the believers inside. In one glance, Klein rapidly locked onto a target. He followed the aisle and walked forward without showing any abnormal signs. In the first row was an elder wearing a black clergyman's robe, but he exuded a cold aura. His face was pale and his hair was withered and yellow. He had his eyes closed tightly as he prayed with great focus. He was one of the keepers that Klein had previously sensed. His shift is usually on Friday. Klein didn't approach him and instead sat 2 pews away from him. After finding a spot to sit down, he handed over his hat and cane to Richardson. Then, while sitting down, he tapped his left thumb on the first segment of his index finger twice, suddenly activating his spirit body threads vision. Suddenly, black illusionary threads appeared in front of Klein as they densely extended out of different spirit bodies endlessly. Having just taken his seat, Klein shifted his gaze, casting it onto the keeper. He nearly exclaimed from what he saw, but thanks to his self-control as a clown, and his ability to expect abnormal situations, he managed to relax and maintain his staid attitude. In his vision, although the yellow-haired elder had spirit body threads and extended out, his body was entirely black and cold. On the inside of the darkness swallowed the origins of illusionary threads in a way that was completely different from ordinary Beyonders. How? Different from ordinary Beyonders. Indeed, they have already been eroded by the core seal, causing a mutation at the level of the soul. From the looks of it, the problem is closer to my second guess. They are, in a sense, part of the core seal. Once they show signs of losing control, they will immediately trigger the item's instinctive reaction that forcibly quells them. It's no wonder that keepers need to be a voluntarily roll and be advanced in their years. They probably understand the outcome. Klein signed as they prepare to deactivate his spirit thread sense and retract his gaze. So they only want people that willingly know that they could die, and they also only wanted people that are like older in age, like people that understand the risks. Klein sighed as he prepared to deactivate his spirit body thread, sensing and retracting his gaze. At this moment, he saw a pair of eyes. They were hidden sage. They were black without any emotions with them. Beside the eyes, they were producing wrinkles that extended bit by bit. Nope. As though they were distorted, strange mystical symbols. They were the keeper's eyes. At some point in time, he had straightened his body, turned around, and looked blankly at Dwayne Dantes. Klein's scalp instantly went numb as he forced a smile and nodded at him as though it was a normal meeting of the days. The keeper slowly moved his head in response. Then Klein fell as though he was extracting from his surroundings as things turned blurry. Wait. Then Klein felt as though he was extracted from his surroundings as things turned blurry before turning clear. At that instant, he knew that he had been pulled into a dream. Hence, as he maintained his image as Dwayne Dantes, he sized up the surroundings only to realize that he was still inside St. Samuel Cathedral. However, all the fuse that were either damaged or overturned and strewn everywhere. It looked as though it had met with a raid. The altar up ahead was filled with cracks and weeds. The thick layer of dust made it seem like it had been in such a desolate condition since a long time ago. The keeper with yellow, withered hair was in front of the collapsed donation box, coldly staring at Dwayne Dantes, who was suited in black. I've been in contact with Channis Gates so much. Wait, what was that, D? After being in contact with Channis Gates so much, they developed some problems and basically slowly wither away. So, and that's why they said, like, they technically become part of the seal. So only the old Beyonders and volunteers can do it. They are noble. That's kind of fucked up, dude. The Beyonder world is so cruel, dude. It is such a cruel world to live in. Upon seeing Klein look over, he widened his mouth to reveal white, sharp, irregular teeth. And these teeth were embedded with blurry, indistinct, and tiny figures. They had completely facial features and limbs, and their expressions were different, but were colored with the same pain as though they were imprisoned, there and unable to escape. Grunt, the keeper's throat let out a growl that sounded like a beast, and his back hunched over. By his spine and waist, his clothes swelled as 4 blood vessels covered arms without any skins growing out. Right on the heels of that, they grew fine black hair, and the tips of his fingers grew sharp nails with a smackering sound. In just 3 short seconds, the keeper, who looked normal, had turned into an 8-legged monster that sprawled on the ground. It looked like a spider that had silently woven into the web in the night while awaiting its prey, and also like a deformed black wolf that struck intense fear into one's heart. Meanwhile, 2 gigantic palms filled with black hair extended out and desolate altar without any warning. They pressed onto the sides of the black gases, condensed into the slippery tentacles that extended in every direction. Soon they filled the entire prayer hall. What the fuck is going on? The aura that left him trembling, the extreme sense of fear, and the huge illusory figure were penetrating an invisible barrier that manifested more clearly. What? He lost control. The keeper lost control? He lost control. That keeper lost control. Klein stood there subconsciously wishing to react and use his uniqueness to forcibly escape the dream. But suddenly he figured out the series of events that had happened. His expression changed as he wore a terrified expression and he ran to the door. Trembling, it looked like he was struggling in a dream, and the time it took to take a breath, a dark chill spread out from outside the world like a tidal wave, inundating the entire dream and quelling everything. Klein snapped his eyes open and realized that he had fallen asleep at some point in time. As for the yellow-haired keeper, he had long turned his head to continue praying. What? Dwayne Dante's eyes darted. Wait, if he lost control, what's happening to him now in the real world? And not because it looked like he lost control in the dream. Dwayne Dante's eyes started around as he looked around in horror, as though he was still immersed in a dream and unable to escape the horror that had gripped him. After nearly a minute, he took 2 deep breaths and looked at the sacred emblem again, drawing of the sign crimson moons on the chest. Only then did Klein have the time to recall the experience he had and began speculating as to what had happened. As I had spied on the spirit body threads, it caused him to show signs of losing control. As I had spied on his spirit body threads, it caused him to show signs of losing control, thus causing an excessive reaction by pulling me into a dream and attempting to deal with me. Later, the Corso behind Chanuske sensed the anomaly and quelled the problem. Oh! So Chanuske immediately took care of the problem. Those keepers are being affected and also did not digest their potions, so they are quite unstable. Fuck, man. That is such a hard life for keepers. Now, the crux of the matter is, if the keeper still remembers the source of his near mutation, if he's already used to it, he should find the cause of the problem very vaguely considering his present state. Of course, it might not be my problem. Perhaps he was already on the brink of losing control. Klein looked at the elder once again and observed what he would do next to determine how he would react. If all else fails, I'll directly use creeping hunger and scrape with traveling. Klein rapidly made up his mind as he patiently waited for the possible repercussions. After a few minutes, he said Bishop Electra walked in from the side of the door towards him. Klein's heart tightened as he spread open his left fingers in preparation to activate creeping hunger. At that moment, he suddenly had an idea and stopped his actions. If the keeper had already informed the bishops about my problematic situation via dream, I would be the victim of a collective assault by the churches beyond us, and that's not happening. After all, putting me in a dream can avoid harming the other believers. Therefore, they have no need to find a bishop I'm familiar with to come over. It's likely more to extend the regards and to placate me. Klein retracted his gaze and continued in praying pose. In less than a minute, he finally sensed that someone approached. As he looked up and saw Bishop Electra softly say, "You don't look too well." It's probably an effect from the goddess. I fell asleep without realizing it and had a nightmare. I still feel like I still feel a little afraid, Klein said with a self-deprecating smile. Bishop Electra sat beside him and said with a stated manner, "Dreams are sometimes the manifestation of the fear within you. You will feel better as long as you sincerely pray to the goddess and consume holy water. Of course, the most important thing is to not suppress yourself usually. Learn to confess to the goddess at times. Wailing in secret can reduce a lot of distress." Klein secretly observed the bishop's attitude and read his tone before heaving a sigh of relief. "I understand." He cast his gaze forward again, bowed his head, and clasped his hands to begin praying silently. While doing so, he saw the keeper in front of him stand up with the side of the door where a bishop was waiting. Klein silently exhaled as he truly became one with the strange environment. Suddenly, he heard a voice that was his, but it wasn't something that he couldn't control. "Did you think what you did was well hidden?" "No, not at all. Have you forgotten that you've touched the Evernight Goddess holy artifact?" Wait, who's saying this? Is somebody speaking to Klein? "Have you forgotten?" Wait. Klein suddenly exhaled as he truly became one with the serene environment. Suddenly, he heard a voice that was his. He heard his voice? Oh, he's talking to himself. But it wasn't something that he can't control his own thoughts? But it wasn't something that he could control. "Did you think what you did was well hidden?" "No, not at all. Have you forgotten that you've touched the Evernight Goddess holy artifact?" What the? He's hearing his own thoughts? Okay, right away, what I can think, it might not be it, but I feel like as he gets stronger, Klein is becoming schizophrenic. No, that's not it. As Klein gets stronger, I've always been under the idea that the world will eventually develop like a subconscious. So what I can see happening is eventually the world becomes independent of Klein. Like he can control the world, right? But I feel like at some point the world will become like autonomous. Like, or he'd become sentient, and like maybe that's like the world becoming sentient. I don't know, man. I'm gonna quickly pause. I'm gonna eat for like 10 minutes, and then we'll be right back. All right, we're back. We had some pretty bomb chicken and rice. We're back. It was a little spicy. We put some spicy sauce in it, so I'm a little on edge right now. But welcome back. Chapter 800. Another new milestone, bro. Psychology. When it's not psychology. Psychological becoming better. Is it maybe the world speaking to him? And so now he's like psychology becoming better? Okay, all right, let's find out what that means. Who is it? Who is the one speaking? Klein's muscles tensed up as he nearly opened his eyes. Do I have everything updated? Yes, everything was updated before we went out. Perfect. Okay, cool. We're good. The plot thickens indeed. Let's find out what happens. Klein's muscles tensed up as he nearly opened his eyes. At that moment, wow, it's eating while you're streaming is such a bad idea, man. Food coma, you get bloated. It's so gross. Whew. At that moment, his back oozed with sweat that soaked his shirt. What he was more alarmed was that the wasn't the words said, but that it was directly sounded in his heart and has modulated the voice to sound exactly like his. Although I maintained my lucidity in that dream, I still had my spirit body tainted by the psyche that was on the verge of losing control. Or someone using that keeper to pass me a message. Countless guesses ran through Klein's mind. Finally combing the contents of what was said and his own situation, he came up with a preliminary judgment. The number of people who knows about my identity as Klein is few to begin with. It has to be Leonard. It's Leonard. Leonard figured it out. Our dear poet figured it out. Oh, was Cameron being censored? Wait, what did he say? It has to be Leonard, dude. Although I maintained my lucidity in that dream, I still had my spirit body tainted by the psyche that was on the verge of losing control. Or someone using that keeper to pass me a message. Countless guesses ran through Klein's mind. Finally, combing the contents that was said from his own situation, he came to preliminary judgment. The number of people who knows about my identity as Klein Moretti is few to begin with. Likewise, for those who know that Klein Moretti had once sworn an oath while touching a holy artifact, is it Kristen Sesamir? What if it's the Evernight? No, you think it's her? No, I don't think Evernight is directly talking to him. No, I feel like it'd be too soon for that. Who had once sworn an oath while touching a holy artifact. Furthermore, there's almost no intersection between the two. Mr. Zick had heard me mention that the format mattered before, but if he wants to give me any reminders, he can directly do it. He can directly do it through Messenger. There's no need to use such a frightening method. Will Ossipton might know. After all, he's a snake of Mercury who represents fate. But by the same logic, he can directly contact me. Of course, I can limit the possibility that he suddenly had the thought of frightening me. I just thought in the afternoon about having a chance of becoming his godfather. It's the reader's easy. It gets meta, but I can't wait for him to turn into Deadpool and break the fourth wall. That'd be pretty funny. The Antigonus family notebook had corrupted the keeper. Just like how... Does the Antigonus family notebook have human characteristics and it's speaking through the keeper to Klein? No, it's not that. The Antigonus family notebook had corrupted the keeper, just like how it used a misfortune cloth puppet to deliver the symbols. But if it really is the Antigonus family notebook, why didn't it just give me the potion formula directly, or try negotiating with me to help in a notebook jailbreak? St. Simon Cathedral is the headquarters of Backlund Diocese, making it a higher level than St. Selena Cathedral. The notebook shouldn't have the ability to do anything further. It should be securely sealed. Apart from them, there's also one entity who is aware of both matters, the Evernight Goddess. Okay, here we go. However, with a deity's pride, she has no need to pretend to act as a passerby to call me out with polite and a strange tone. Yeah, no. Breaking the four's wall. That's such a funny ass joke, dude. I'm in St. Simon Cathedral. So, wow, dude, my nose is so stuffy from eating. Oh, that was so spicy. Woo, give me a sec. It's gonna take me a chapter for that to go away. I apologize. I'm a St. Simon Cathedral, so all she needs to do is produce a revelation and dozens of beyonders who will appear to mow me down. And as a diocese headquarters with sufficient preparations, they can probably disrupt traveling, therefore there's no need to go through so much trouble. There's still one more person who's aware of both the matters. That's myself. Before planning my operations, I'm actually considered the corresponding problem. Back then, my conclusion was that I didn't need to worry too much about it because only after advancing to Faceless will some of the Grey Fox powers enter the real world. allowing certain demigods to sense my uniqueness. Before this, only Beyonders from the monster pathway could discover a tiny bit of my uniqueness. And back when I touched the holy sword and made the oath, I had yet to become a clown, so they wouldn't have sensed it. Just because of the secret connection establishing from the oath, it made the goddess slowly sense something about me. It's been so long and I haven't seen her take any action. That female angel? What female angel? She should be an angel. She has even smiled at me when she wiped away. I'm sorry, are we talking about the angel from volume 2? Wait. Is she talking to Klein? It's been so long and I haven't seen her take any action. That female angel, huh? 0017? That female what? Wait, oh my god, who is she, bro? How does she know Klein? Why, like, what does she want to do? What does she want with Klein? That female angel, she should be an angel. She even smiled at me when she wiped away Mr. A. Therefore, the goddess might be happy to see me take away the Antigonus family notebook. Although I'm not sure of her motives, I can only accept it and subsequently think of ways to deal with it at my current level. This is ultimately safer than climbing the main peak of the Hornicus mountain range. I still think we should go there. Of course, that is built on the premise that the lady which wiped away Mr. A is an angel of the church. Although I had undergone all kinds of acting during Faceless Stage and got to know myself well, I've consumed additional potions without any complimentary digesting them. And Marionettis requires even a marionette to adhere to a specific persona. This is also so easily causes a personality disassociation. Also, to steal the Antigonus family notebook and to act as Dwayne thought is, I'm under immense stress. Yeah, because knowing Dwayne wouldn't necessarily steal it. If you go by mysteries in all caps, I know, I get it. Now we're truly getting to the mysteries. I'm under immense stress. I am subconsciously wavering at my suspicions. In this state, the keeper corrupted psyche of nearly losing control had agitated my spirit body, causing me to have a split personality. Okay. Just as Klein thought of this, the familiar yet unfamiliar voice resounded in his mind again. Hey, your consciousness are too idolized. All of your actions are fundamentally all thanks to luck. We might get to 900 today, Boza. You never know, man. How long will that take us with our average 10 minutes? 10 minutes a chapter? I can't do math. If that high-ranking deck on Crescent Sesamir with a holy sword was here in Backland to handle the Beyonder cases, can you guarantee that the holy sword wouldn't sense you when you are in the same cathedral? Both of you are linked, and both of you linked by an oath. If Decon Sesamir were to come, I'll abandon this plan. Besides, I'll also not be possible to avoid it ahead of time. I'll find an excuse or reason to be out of town for some time. Klein mumbled inwardly. Then he heard the voice belonging to himself and sounded in his mind. This makes it a situation prone to many accidents, unpredictable developments. Before coming to the cathedral, didn't you also consider that the mere observation of spare body threads would result in a mutation? My nervousness back then was the anxiety that something happened beyond my expectations. However, as it's a mere observation without me making any direct contact, I didn't believe that there would be too great of a problem. I should be more cautious in the future. Also, accidents and developments exist for the evening. Who exactly are you? Klein closed his eyes as he pretended to focus on praying. The voice hesitated and said, I'm Klein. You... Wait, what? I am Klein. What the fuck? Original Klein? The voice hesitated and said, I'm Klein. You are... What the... You are Zominguri? No. I'm Zominguri. You are Klein. Whoa. Wait. Yo, holy shit, dude. He went full schizophrenic. What the fuck is going on, dude? Holy shit, dude. I'm starting to get a little shaky. No shot. Indeed, Klein felt his hair stand on end once again. I'm getting a tear in my eye. He decided to leave Siege side of the cathedral, immediately return home, and resolve the problem of his character's disassociation. No shot. When the symptoms first appear, the situation is easier to resolve. Once the other personality stabilizes and becomes stronger, it will begin to snatch control of your body. I might even need external help when that happens. He opened his eyes and looked at Electra with a tranquil expression. I feel like I've calmed down. Wait. Plot thickens indeed. We can use this for the the immortality ritual where you like attach a soul to a body. Wait. Klein has split personality disorder because he looked at a keeper that was losing control. Is that what's going on? So now he has like a different persona in his head going on? That is so crazy. I feel like I've calmed down. Ever since I got a mental illness, my mind is a lot better. As he spoke, Klein inwardly gave his self-deprecating comment. By the way, this is like my favorite character trope. When like when a person has split personalities, or like there's like inner monologues talking to himself, that's like Fight Club goes crazy. Like that is one of my favorite movies of all time, man. Fight Club, or like just any other movies where there's like a split persona talking to you. It is such a cool like premise. Oh, he enjoyed lampooning, and this is gonna be temporarily for like the rest of the volume. He enjoyed lampooning partially because it was in his character to do so, and partly to enforce his personality. It was ultimately to remind himself who he was, just to not lose himself in his acting. Bishop Electra smiled. May the goddess bless you, bro. Dude, that is so sick. Did you say persona? Persona. May the goddess bless you. I love Persona 2, by the way. As he spoke, he took a cup of water from a priest's hand and passed it down to Dwayne Dantes. Without any explanation needed, Klein knew that it was a holy water. He often drank it in the past, hence hiding his anxiety. He received it in a composed manner and downed it. As a refreshing feeling slushed down his throat, jolting his mind, and he became a lot more awake. Even the voice in his mind weakened. This has the effect of placating the spirit body. The church does view Dwayne Dantes with great importance. Of course, this is created by the Beyonders. As Klein nodded at Bishop Electra, he drew the signs of the Crimson Moon and steadily walked to the altar and donated 50 pounds in a donation box. After doing everything, he led Richardson and left the cathedral, riding the carriage back to Butland Street. On the strip back, he didn't feed the pigeons because an ordinary person who had just encountered something would hardly have the peace of mind to do so. After returning home, the silent Klein used the excuse of an afternoon nap to dismiss his servants. In his master bedroom's bathroom, he took 4 steps counterclockwise and headed above the great fog. Passing through the roars and ravings, he didn't feel like his body be purified. Is there going to be another Klein besides the world now? Is that what's going to happen? Sitting in the high back chair of the fool, Klein immediately studied his spirit body situation. He discovered that there were some signs of chaos without it being pure. That does not sound good. Okay. The corresponding aura colors were somewhat spotted. After serious contemplation for 2 minutes and ignoring the echoing noise in his head, Klein conjured the world. German Spura made him devoutly pray. Honorable Mr. Fool, please inform the moon that I wish to rent the mental terror candle for half a day. I know he has the means of obtaining it. Very early on, his identity as a world had been prepared for Sherlock Moriarty, so Klein wasn't worried about it. South of the bridge, Harvest Church, Emlyn White, who was anticipating his obtaining of leather rings in the evening, suddenly saw the endless gray fog in the world. Alarmed, he muttered in silence, how does he know that I can get the mental terror card? Is this where he figures it out? Oh, man. The Lord of Bathroom strikes again. This is getting really good, dude. This is so sick. All right, chapter 801 is called Plea. Chapter 801, yeah, dude, we need to upgrade at least that part of our stream setup right here. Chapter 801 is called Plea. After a brief moment of stupefaction, Emlyn couldn't help but look around. He suspected the world was lurking around, and as though he was one of the nearby believers. After all, he had never mentioned the mental terror candle at the Terror Club. Bishop Petrosky seldom had conflicts with others, so he almost never used any mystical items. If it wasn't because Emlyn had been planted with psychological cues to frequently head to the Harvest Church and receive the heads up for Sherlock Moriarty, he wouldn't have asked the bishop and learned of the existence of the mental terror card. At that instant, everyone looked like the world to Emlyn, but in the plump middle-aged man, the granny with a grayish headscarf of the fashionable beauty, he felt that all of them looked like they had something similar to the world. I must figure it out. He's actually so aware of my surroundings. I haven't mentioned certain things even while in front of Mr. Fool. Emlyn was left in utter shock as he stood and walked to the clergyman's break room at the back. In a quiet and empty environment, he replied, Honorable Mr. Fool, I wish to directly communicate with the world. In less than 10 seconds, Emlyn saw a dark red glow surge forward like a tidal wave and devour him. Then he found himself above the great fog. He was inside the majestic palace that was seated at his seat, and at the other end of the model table with the blurry face of the world, he who was waiting for him. Compared to before, Emlyn had changed tremendously. He wasn't in a rush to speak to the world, and he instead bowed to Mr. Fool, who was leisurely watching the other end of the table before looking at this target. How did you know that I can get the mental terror card? Under Klein's control, the world said with a hoarse laugh, we might have met before? Maybe. He didn't speak further and only mentioned the key point. As for whether Emlyn could figure out the situation, that wasn't his problem. Of course, Klein believed that Emlyn lacked the ability to connect the world to Sherlock Moriarty since he lacked the necessary clues. Come on, he can figure it out. Emlyn frowned bit by bit as he had a few targets of suspicion, but he wasn't able to determine who was the world. Believe me, I have no intentions towards a member of the Terror Club, the world added when he saw Emlyn in a state of prolonged silence. There will be a day when I'll find you. Emily suddenly muttered to himself and asked, what are you going to do with a mental tarot card? I need to have a substantial reason to borrow such a mystical item. Klein controlled his urge to rub his temples. He made the world turn solemn to say, to treat my psychological problems. Treat psychological problems. Emily couldn't help but shrink his body back before straightening it again. Looking back at the world, his eyes clearly indicated that the world really was a dangerous lunatic. The mental tarot candle does have such effects. Emily thought for a moment and said, I can only borrow it for half a day. There wouldn't be any problems, right? Klein held back the horror and pleas that were running through his mind as he controlled the world to answer, no problem. If the mental tarot candle was effective, Klein could finish the problem within 15 minutes. If it wasn't of any use, it would be the same even if he possessed it for a day or a month. Therefore, the rental duration wasn't critical. He didn't mind such restrictions at all. Emlyn did a count and said the rental fee would cost £300, as well as 5 pages of Beyond Our Powers and Layman's Travels. Damn, he's good. He decided to outsource half of the debt he had, 5 pages. How many pages did this fellow use? That's so funny. Like, all right, you got to take on the commission now. You got to pay half of it. 5 pages. How many pages did this fellow use? As Klein lampooned, he made the word reply, that wouldn't be an issue. After closing the deal, Emily immediately returned to the real world and walked into the Harvest Church break room for the clergyman. Casting a gaze to the side of the altar and waited for Bishop Utrowski to finish talking to the believers, Emily suddenly fell into a dilemma. Although he sounded confident in front of the world, he had never tried borrowing similar items from the bishop. He had no idea what kind of attitude the bishop would have. As his gaze started around, Emily consciously served in the tiny prayer hall. I helped Father rescue many commoners who were infected by the plague, and have been teaching those who wish to learn about herbs. I've made the faith of Earth Mother spread quite significantly in this borough. What's wrong with borrowing the mental tarot candle for half a day? Emlyn raised his chin and walked to the Bishop Petrosky, who needed to look up and cleared up his throat. I have a friend that has a psychological problem. I wish to borrow the mental tarot card. He directly mentioned his contributions because his pride didn't permit him to do so. Utrowski looked down at the priest-robed Emlyn and smiled warmly. Okay. Like, dude, they have such a good bond. Emlyn be like, I pray for the whole book. I'm gonna use the whole damn book. And now you gotta help me fill up the pages. That's it. Emlyn was stunned, finding it unbelievable that the bishop would agree so easily. He didn't immediately accept it, and he couldn't help but ask, aren't you afraid that I'll lose the candle? Utrowski replied with a smile, everyone and every item has its end. They will all return to the earth, buried deep within the soul, and sprout, grow, and bloom, or in one incarnation after another. Fuck, man. That is such a deep quote. Holy shit. Father Utrowski, man. This guy, like, makes me think of life sometimes. Let me raise the volume up on my end. Let me reread that part. Hold up. Utrowski replied with a smile. Everyone and every item has its end. They will all return to the earth, buried deep within the soul, and sprout, grow, and bloom, one incarnation after another. That is the fate of all entities. If the mental tarot candle is lost, it just means that my connection with it comes to an end. I will need to patiently await the arrangements of fate and mother have for me. Whether the mental tarot candle is lost depends on fate, but whether I end up being killed by you is also fate. Emlyn lampooned without asking further. He received a strange count. Fuck, man. That quote has me thinking about something that happened RL. Damn, that's fucking wild. Whether the mental tarot candle is lost depends on fate, but whether I end up being killed with you is also fate. Emlyn lampooned without asking further. He received the strange candle from the half-giant bishop. Following that, he used the excuse of needing to treat his friends to leave the Harvest Church. He randomly found an inn and set up the sacrificial ritual. Like a Buddha? Above the grey fog, Clang once again received the mental tarot candle. More than half of the mystical item was burnt, and its surface was covered with what looked like human skin. There were a few warts that protruded out. Okay, I'll say this part, since I'm not revealing anything. The missus told me about someone that passed away, and then following that, another relative of the missus' friend's individual passed away. So they both simultaneously passed away within a close time span. And she was telling me about her day, and after that happened, she noticed like 2 butterflies, you know, like flying around. And she was like, oh shit, that's them. And I was like, damn, that's really deep. So I'm reading Father Utrowski's thing, and I'm like, holy shit, man, that's kind of wild. Like, it has you thinking about life a lot, man. Following that, he used the excuse of needing to treat his friend to leave Harvest Church. He randomly found an inn and set up the sacrificial ritual. Above the grave fire, Clang once again received the mental tarot candle. Yeah, dude, it was a beautiful thing. When she was explaining it, I'm like, damn, man, that kind of brought me to tears. I was like, that's a beautiful story. It's a sad story, but it was also a beautiful story. when she told me about that part. More than half of the mystical items were burnt, and the surface was covered with what looked like human skin. There were a few warts that protruded out. The candle wick was very short and entirely black in color. It was covered in the thin, densely packed skill-like patterns. Klein didn't delay, for he didn't wish to give his alternate personality a chance to grow. He wanted to resolve the problem completely while it was still weak. Otherwise, while waiting for him, who awaited for him was irreversible fate of losing control. Furthermore, the mysterious space above the Great Fog would completely screen the negative effects of the combat between the two personalities. Few, Klein slowly exhaled as he extended his hands to summon the Sea God Scepter. At that moment, he didn't do any divination because he couldn't be sure who me referred to. The outcome would naturally be meaningless. Pa. Klein snapped his fingers and lit the mental terror candle. Above the pitch black wick, a flame with light blue spirituality silently glowed, illuminating the palace that looked like a giant's residence. Unknowingly, the environment changed as a cupboard, desk, bunk bed, and gas meter appeared in Klein's eyes. The crimson moonlight shone in from outside the windows, covering every item with a crimson veil layer. This was the apartment where the Morettis had lived in. Aw, this was the place where Klein Moretti had shot. Oh shit, this was the place where Klein Moretti had shot himself to death. At that moment, a figure was sitting at the bottom of the bunk, licking the Sea God Scepter, wielding Klein with a warped expression. He had traits like black hair, brown eyes, thin build, average-looking features, and a rather deep outline, and a scholarly air to him. He was another Klein. This Klein revealed a fierce expression. He said, "You occupied my body, and now you wish for my soul to be obliterated? What the fuck? I should be Klein Moretti, you despicable, shameless transmigrator, you parasite." You parasite. Shit, man. I wonder if that's implying something. He appeared to have just grown in strength, and he wasn't able to, like, for him to drop the word "you parasite," that's a very strong word to drop. Hold up. He appeared to have just grown in strength, and he wasn't able to use the objects in the external world. I'm sorry, is he gonna fight himself? Klein didn't reply as he walked over with a heavy expression. The expression of Klein slowly changed as fear occupied his eyes. His body scrunched as he pleaded with a slight tremble, "Let me go, let me go. You snatched my brother, my sister, my life from me. I'm about to cry. Isn't that enough? I'll remain quietly in your body, helping you analyze problems and giving you suggestions. I'll definitely not wrestle control with you over the body." Dude, what the fuck? This is such a deep chapter now all of a sudden. Let me go, let me go. Klein remained silent as he raised his Sea God Scepter, wielding his right hand. The Klein was already washed with tears as he yelled angrily and fearfully, oh man, I'm about to cry. "I only wanted to remind you, if I wasn't," I'm about to cry. Oh shit, even though like this isn't this is so sad. "If I wasn't trying to remind you, why would I have exposed myself? Let me go, let me go. I have no ill intentions." Oh shit, this is straight up O'Neill. "I have no ill intentions." Klein suddenly looked up at him and made the blue gems on the tip of Sea God Scepter light up one after another. Lightning bolts instantly appeared as they twisted and entangled Klein like a storm. Amid shrill cries, the figure rapidly dissipated as a bolt of lightning wiped all traces of it. As expected of myself, to know the soft spots in my heart and which are the most effective ways to plea. However, I've already come to know who I am. I'm Zoe McGurry, who has fused with Klein's memories and emotions. If I were to let you go, it would be equivalent to splitting the two up, admitting that they are opposing parties. That way, I'll immediately lose control once I return to the real world. Klein lowered the scepter and because if you acknowledge you're different, you would have lost control when you returned. I'll immediately lose control once I return to the real world. Klein lowered his scepter and closed his eyes as he sighed silently. Then he ultimately maintained his lucidity as he left the mind world. What a good chapter, dude. The way that he pleaded for life. Dude, it was like, the way he pleaded for life was just like old Neil, man. Let me go, let me go. I have no intentions. I would have definitely fallen for that. I would have fallen for that. I would have fallen for everything in the series so long ago. Damn, man. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of that one Final Fantasy 16 scene, dude. I got a little emotional today, man. Gotta go for bed. No, it's okay, man. We'll have the video up. I got a little emotional today. So we're gonna play Emil's Sacrifice after that chapter, because I feel like it's kind of fitting. The chapter 802 is called Follow-Up Solutions. When Klein opened his eyes again, the threats and pleas in his mind had vanished. The light blue flame before his eyes continued burning on the pitch black wick. He seriously inspected the state of his spirit body and confirmed that the signs of the chaos were gone. His aura's colors had turned pure and were no longer spotted. It's finally resolved. Klein heaved a sigh of relief and lowered the Sea God Scepter. With a snap of his fingers, he extinguished the mental terror candle. He didn't immediately return to the real world. He sat quietly above the gray fog as he used the silent palace to calm the remnant negative emotions that his inner heart could invent. After this moment, Klein gained a deeper understanding that the path of Beyonder was a path of constantly fought with madness. All the Beyonders would push to the brink of losing control, or they would have psychological problems if they weren't careful due to the internal reasons of the external stimulation. I'm going to lower the volume down a bit. Stimuli, and once the symptoms appeared, not resolving them in time might leave them in a situation that would be abnormally difficult to resolve. The split personality that they created was a result of the internal and external factors. The cause is a result of me being the transmigrator, yet I fused with Klein Moretti's memory fragments and received parts of his emotions. I was naturally inclined to having a disassociation, together with me trying to steal the Antigonus family notebook. Recently, it's akin to me walking along the boundary of the abyss to act as Dwayne Dantes. The stress is immense, so after being agitated and mentally corrupted by the Keeper's near loss of control, the problem erupted. As Klein raised his hand to rub his temples, he vanished from above the gray fog. Just as he returned to his body, Klein felt his mind and spirit were a lot more relaxed. It felt like a dusty window had been carefully wiped clean, and any additional faceless potions had consumed was fully digested. The alternative personality that appeared is really a result of all the past psychological problems. I was able to resolve the problems with the mental terror candle, which is equivalent to receiving a complete and effective psychoanalysis. I wouldn't have any latent risks in this aspect in short term. However, I need to be constantly taking notes and frequently regulating myself. I mustn't be careless. Klein walked out, so this could probably happen again down the future. Good morning, guys. Klein walked out the rostrum, came to the balcony, and looked at the distant mountains and nearby vegetation. He was in quite a good condition. He could clearly sense that his self-recognition and self-acknowledgement had deepened. The constant sense of disidentification had greatly weakened as a result. I never expected my victory over my split personality would bring such benefits. If it wasn't because of the generation of another split personality would result in one that's stronger and harder to deal with, I would have wished to split a few personalities, killing myself several times. Klein shook his head with a scoff as he gave his self-deprecating laugh. To be frank, just one instance of split personalities was rather dangerous and unresolvable for anybody else, since he was aware of whether to acquire the mental terror candle, the essence of the problem, and his experience in resolving it in the past. He was able to eliminate the latent risks and not allow his split personality to strengthen it otherwise. Otherwise, the best outcome would be the state in which Bishop Wachowski was in, and the worst outcome would be a gradual loss of control until it became inevitable. Furthermore, I still have a psychiatrist as backup, Klein chuckled as he strolled back to his room and sat in the reclining chair. He recalled that he had encountered during the day, and from there he obtained the points that he needed to take note of it in the future. If a mid-sequence Beyonder of the sleepless pathway loses control, they will be able to directly cause mental corruption by pulling others into a dream. I need to be wary of that and Wait, let me read that. If a mid-sequence Beyonder of the sleepless pathway loses control, they will be able to directly cause mental corruptions by pulling others into a dream. I need to be wary of that in the future before becoming a high. And if it's only that, I wonder how it is for other mid-sequence Beyonders of different pathways. Like for a parasite, or like if you're part of the parasite pathway, like would they latch onto you when they lose controls, and then like their corrupted psyche gets latched onto you, maybe, and then that makes you go mad over time? Before becoming a high sequence Beyonder, the rampagers of most pathways aren't capable of doing this. Never mind. Often they will mutate into monsters and use the corresponding Beyonder powers to control or attack their targets. It's difficult for them to transmit their corruption. Apart from the mid-sequence Beyonders from the sleepless pathway, the spectator pathway should be capable of doing so as well. When faced with similar enemies, not rushing to wipe them out would really result in a situation where you have no way of defending yourself. Also, although I'm aware of the Keeper's conditions, we will not confirm nor die. Thank you, D. Having figured out the relationship with the core seal, the corresponding problems have arisen. If I were to disguise myself and infiltrate inside, how should I create the performance of being eroded by the core seal and not have my disguise be seen through? Klein carefully contemplated for a moment and was completely out of ideas. All he could do was stand up, walk to his desk, and draw a picture comprising of the symbols that implied concealment and mystery prying. He was summoning erodes, the full body mirror in the master bedroom suddenly undiluted with the invisible waves as silver light appeared, forming Loaness text. Exalted Great Master, your loyal and humble servant erodes is constantly at your service. My actions from before have caused a certain damage to your image. I'm very appalled and ashamed. Will you accept my apology? You actually know to admit your faults. Klein scoffed and said, don't make the same mistake again in the future. All right, the full body mirror presented new words. How may I be of service? There's something Klein deliberated and said. The keepers of the Church of the Evernight are contained by the core seal's powers behind Chandler's Gate. They are in different conditions of the typical Beyonders. Is there any way to perfect the disguise? The silver words change and outline new target and new text. Great master, there's only one method. To sacrifice your marionette. Wait, we're going to sacrifice him? To sacrifice your marionette and allow it to receive the contamination of the core seal? It will gradually change and become identical to the keepers. Then you can hold it in your body to fool the core seal. Oh, so now your marionette gets corrupted, but you can still hold on to that, and it looks like it's you. That actually works. It's an idea. However, a marionette that's made from a Sequence 5 Rave can't be bought with money. I really need to pay an extremely high price to obtain a high sequence potion formulas and ingredients. Klein thought and said, then how do I get the marionette to receive the core seal's contamination? Typically speaking, a Wraith marionette might be detected by the seal before being forcibly purified and dispelled just as it approaches Chanda's Gate, or even just appear in the prayer hall. I can't believe we're going to do a recon mission and go into Chanda's Gate, man. Like, we're going to do a heist mission, bro. We will not going to use some trickery. Typically speaking, a Wraith marionette might be... Let me read this part. A Wraith marionette might be detected by the seal before being forcibly purified and dispelled just as it approaches Chan's Gate, or even just appear in the prayer hall. The full body's mirrors waved, stirred again as it accentuated the figure. The figure wore an old-fashioned veiled hat. She was tall with long chestnut hair. She was none other than Queen Mystic Bernadette. Great master, you can seek her help. Rhodes explained with a sentence made from her silver words. Her, Queen Mystic, isn't from the Evernight pathway. How can she provide any help, or does she have a sealed artifact that corresponds to the high sequence of the Evernight pathway, making it similar to the core seal behind Chan's Gate? Thankfully, Admiral Stars needs a drop of blood from a mythical creature. When the time comes, apart from providing an item that can satisfy Will Ospton, there's still a middleman fee for me. This will be the middleman fee. Klein thought as he nodded and said, very good, you may return. Yes, exalted great master, your humble servant Rhodes awaits your next summoning. As a silver line of text appeared, Rhodes outlined a palm of a handkerchief in his hand as he shook it. The corners of Klein's mouth twitched as he looked at it, momentarily unsure of how to respond. Westboro, within the Odero family villa, Emlyn White wore a faint smile as he randomly found a single-seater to sit in the activity room. Diagonally across him, another sanguine baron, Roose Bothry, was holding a wine cup filled with blood. He was observing him with narrowed eyes. Without concealing his disgust and hatred, Roose Bothry had not only been injured during the hunt for the first primordial moon believer, but he had also had Emlyn steal away his spoils of war. Oh, he's mad at him now, right? Such an act from you will only please me. Fucking Emlyn. He's so happy. Such an act from you will only please me. Emlyn chuckled inwardly as he turned his head to look at Cosme Eudora, who had just entered. He waited for Baron to declare the results and reward him. Cosme, I wonder what he's gonna get, man. Cosme forced himself to ignore. Oh, he's gonna get Lilith's ring. I wonder what the ring is gonna have though. Cosme forced himself to ignore Emlyn gaze as he walked to the fireplace and said to all the Sanguine present, I'm gathering all of you today because the final victor had emerged from the hunting competition. Who is it? The Sanguines looked around as they exchanged looks, guessing as it who could have clinched victory. Most of their gazes landed on Roose Bothry, with no one believing that it could be Emlyn White. Damn. Only Russ Bothry had a hunch as he looked in surprise at the darn fellow. Cosme secretly sighed and said, Emlyn White has already hunted 3 targets, automatically clinching victory. What? A young Sanguine blurted out in disbelief. The Sanguine was a race with fewer members than humans. In Backland, they are all part of the smaller community, therefore they weren't unfamiliar with each other. Everyone knew what kind of Sanguine Emlyn was. I'm sorry, does Emlyn have... He has a poor reputation within the Sanguines. Oh, snap. I'm just realizing that. Like, the Sanguines are looking down on him. I don't like that. He's gonna, like, work his way up. Oh, it's gonna be so good. Yeah? All right, let's keep reading, dude. All right, chapter 800 and T. It's almost tea time, so we can soothe our voice, and then we can keep streaming a lot longer. That is the goal. But chapter 803 is called Name Rectification. Amongst all the Sanguines present, even if Emlyn wasn't the oddest, he was definitely among the top 10. As a member of... Wait. Amongst all the Sanguine present, even if Emlyn wasn't the oddest, he was definitely among the top 10. Okay, so he's in the top 10 bracket. As a member of the race born with a long lifespan, having one or more hobbies to kill time was common. Emlyn wasn't the only one who liked dolls, but that wasn't a problem. Aside from purchasing new dolls and matching them with new clothes, or obtaining blood from hospitals to drink, he almost never left his home, nor did he enjoy interacting with his fellow kingsmen. Oh, he keeps to himself. Unless he desired relatively fresh blood needed to obtain some historical knowledge or exchange for certain ingredients, he never participated in any of the corresponding gatherings. Such a lifestyle was nearly identical to the aging, high-ranking Sanguine who had no choice but to line specifically made coffins to barely maintain their existence. It looks It looked nothing like that of a fellow who had recently matured. As a result, Emlyn became a topic of idle conversation at many sanguine gatherings. And the years before, people only mentioned it in passing, jeering at him in private, just like the normal gossip about different freaks in Backland. When they heard that Emlyn walked into the Harvest Church because he got lost and ended up being captured and locked up in underground by the Earth Mother's bishop, his reputation slid into the irreversible state of being the brunt of the jokes, as well as being a disgrace to the Sanguines. Aw, that's sad. Yet, and he made such a good friend as a result, and then they still belittle him because of that. Yet, this disgraced fellow had hunted 3 consecutive primordial moon believers. Those were artificial vampires. Could it be that he had employed the help from the Church of the Earth Mother's clergymen, or that he hired some especially powerful bounty hunters? Thoughts flashed through the minds of the Sanguine as they speculated over how Emlyn had clinched victory. At this moment, Cosmin coughed and lightly said Emlyn had already found the corresponding characteristics, legacy, and became a baron. Baron? They don't know! He's our weirdo? He's definitely our weirdo, and we love him for that. Baron, when the members of the Sanguine looked at Emlyn again, they weren't any looks of doubt and puzzlement. Instead, their eyes were filled with shock, astonishment, and surprise. Now they're respecting him. For the first time in his life, Emlyn was being stared at by the Kingsman in such a manner. Aw, he doesn't know how to act. He suddenly felt ethereal as his mind filled with joy. I'm so proud for him, man. It just made him wish to proudly tip his chin and say, all of you should be addressing me as Lord. Okay, hold up. Chill, dude. Don't say that yet. People are getting mad. This satisfaction is identical to me buying a doll that I've been saving up and craving for. Emlyn sighed silently as he held back his tongue. He wore a faint smile as he slowly surveyed the area. Then, while buttoning his chest, he got up and walked to Cosmin Door's side. After the other Sanguine snapped back to his senses, they looked at the 2 barons with mixed looks. Cosmin finally said the champion of the hunting competition will enter the final list of Viscount candidates and retain the free help from the ritual. In addition, he will also receive a ring created by the ancestor. As he spoke, Cosmin took out a silver jewelry box engraved with complicated patterns. Snapped and opened, he showed it to all the Sanguine present. It was a translucent ring that seemed to be made of light red amber. It had a blood red gem embedded in it. It was the size of a fingernail, and it emitted a faint glow. It's called Lilith's Ring. It allows the wearer to be even more charming and always be in the optimal state of being under the full moon. Cosmin gave a rough introduction. It can also make the surroundings be under the effects of a full moon. Hence, the corresponding Beyonder powers were greatly enhanced. At the same time, it can also be projected at a door that leads deep into the spirit world. Cosmin paused and added, this door is a door of summoning. It can... Oh, it's so cool. This door is the door of summoning. It can let creatures deep in the spirit world use it to arrive to the real world. However, it can only be used once in a fixed amount of time. When the spirit world creatures pass through this door, it's equivalent to signing a corresponding contract with the wearer. They will serve the wearer for a specific amount of time, possibly around 5 minutes. If the service, bros tasting the joy of fire, period needs to be maintained for even longer, the wearer needs to personally communicate with the spirit world creature to re-sign a contract for a longer duration. Under normal circumstances, the strength of the summoned spirit creature would be equivalent to slightly stronger than the wearer, but there's the possibility of them being such weaker, much stronger. There was once a Viscount who relied on the ring to summon a demigod level spirit creature, and it probably killed him, right? The stronger a spirit world creature, the strength, the more they can resist the aggrievement in the door summoning contract itself and harm the wearer. If you encounter such a situation, you must decisively dispel the projection and end the summoning. Its negative effects is blood-thirsting disease. You will need to drink at least 1 blood vial of human blood every hour to relieve it. Otherwise, your blood will boil and evaporate. In less than 15 minutes, it can cause the death of a baron. I feel like... Oh, no, I was thinking if he uses the blood vial Father Trusky have, it can, like, counteract it. But no, that doesn't make sense. I'm not against that. I do yearn to drink blood more frequently, but the problem is that I'm unable to obtain that much blood. Emlyn held back his joy and agitation as he considered how he could resolve the negative effects. At this moment, Cosmi turned to glance at him. The additional blood will be provided by the race. Then the problem turns into the modification of a bottle so as to carry around that much blood. Emlyn scanned the other Sanguines, who wore a look of envy and jealousy as he asked, if I don't wear it, will I get the bloodthirsty disease? No. Cosmi firmly shook his head. Emlyn stared at Lilith's ring and asked again, if I were to wear it for 59 minutes and take it off, will I get the bloodthirsty ring? Cosmi's facial muscles twitched and he said, when you wear the ring, you will be inflicted with a bloodthirsting disease. Can I wear it for 59 minutes out of 60 minutes? You have to drink 1 vial of human blood to have it subside for an hour. During this process, if you were to take it off and put it on again, the bloodthirsting seed will be activated again, regardless of whether it's been an hour or not. You'll have to drink blood again. Do you understand what I'm saying? Of course, this isn't a complicated problem, Emlyn said with a tusk. Cosmi retracted his gaze and looked at the other Sanguines. I'll be giving you the ring to the champion of the hunting ground competition, Emlyn White. Congratulations, Emlyn. He turned and extended his ring hand towards Emlyn to shake his hand. Then he handed over the blood-colored Lilith string to Emlyn. Thank you, Emlyn smiled in a reserved manner. Cosme stops looking at him as he said to the Gwen, there are 2 targets left. There are prey, and they are still be a reward for them. At 10 p.m. above the Great Fog, Klein received layman's travels which Emlyn had sacrificed, and he learned of the usage of the so-called Lilith string. The other aspects aren't noteworthy, but the thing to pay attention to is the door summoning, which leads deep into the spirit world. Perhaps there will come a day where the one passing through the door is an ancient goddess Lilith, or maybe Mr. Door. Of course, many conditions need to be met. As Klein made a bold hypothesis, he flipped open layman's travels and checked the Beyonder powers, which Emlyn had used and replenished. He used up all the lightning strikes. Traveling is gone as well. This fellow really doesn't feel the pinch when using the powers of others. He's like, it's free real estate, bro. I'll use them when I please. He added a Wings of Darkness. It can help the user receive an enhancement in speed and the ability of brief flight, as well as it transforming into a colony of illusory blood-sucking bats to attack the enemy. That's what he was using, dude. That's such a cool ability. 1 is full moon. It can make a certain region appear to be in a state of full moon. 1 spirituality would be rejuvenated, and the aspects of death would grow stronger. This is recorded from Lilith's ring. 1 is Claw of Corrosion. Wait, are these now the rings abilities? 1 is full moon. It can make a certain rain appear to be in the state of a full moon. 1 spirituality would be rejuvenated, and the aspects of death would grow stronger. This is recorded from Lilith's ring. It's an actual cool pathway. This is a badass pathway. 1 is Claw of Corrosion. It can cause one's fingernail to grow another segment with mysterious symbols and patterns. They would be sharp enough to slice through steel. It would also come with potent conservative abilities, making it the nemesis of defensive methods like scales and skin. 1 is Animal Sense. It can communicate with animals and control them while also sharing their senses. If used well, this has wondrous effects. However, I've never seen Emlyn use it before. What a waste. 1 is Abyss Shackles. It's a spell belonging to the Darkness Domain. The Darkness the Darkness Pathway? Darkness Domain? When they say domain, are they saying pathway? It's a spell it's a spell belonging to the darkness pathway. It can make the darkness or shadows condense into the chain that controls or restrains enemies. There's no door summoning. That's right. It should be very difficult to record. With Emlyn's personality, he wouldn't give it up after a few failures. As Klein flipped through layman's travels, he used divination as mystical item knowledge to interpret the new Beyonder powers. Retracting his gaze, he summoned the Sea God Scepter over, added a few pages of lightning strike. This was in line with his fear of lacking firepower. Then Klein used the sun brooch to record holy light summoning and holy water creation, allowing layman's travels Beyonder powers to become more varied. After doing all this, he closed the notebook and picked up the mental terror candle, Abyss. It's an actual cool pathway. After doing all this, he closed the notebook and picked up the mental terror candle. After settling the split personality in the afternoon, he didn't immediately return to the mystical item. Instead, he had the idea that since it belonged to the spectator domain, it was possible that it could help him explore the sea of the collective subconscious inside Grizel's travels. Therefore, he planned on delaying it for half a day before returning it to Emlyn. To his surprise, he found from his research that the mental terror candle didn't have any effects of placating the mind or eliminating negative emotions. All it could do was let one enter the depths of the target's mind, and from there, one could plant a cue or resolve a problem. Few climbed even started through the bestowment ritual, returned the mental terror candle and layman's travels to Emlyn and Force respectively. Returning to the real world, he had a comfortable bath and he read some papers and magazines before heading to bed. Amidst his reverie, Klein suddenly woke up aware that someone had entered his dream. Bernadette? He saw the scene before him change as the sky was dark and deep. Oh, it's Will. They were adored with resplendent diamonds that left him awed and strained. A distant away, a singing voice sounded. The ethereal... Wait, no, maybe it's not him. A distant away, a singing voice sounded. The ethereal and common voice reached straight into his heart. Meanwhile, the clouds moved and the crimson half moon revealed itself. Okay, now we're seeing the red moon. Scattering down its mild glow. All of this made Klein feel as though he had arrived in the Evernight Goddess' divine kingdom. In the dream, he felt relaxed and comfortable. Klein suddenly realized the situation he was in. This is the arrival of a Beyonder from the Church of the Evernight. This Beyonder was using the dream to placate the tycoon Dwayne Tontus so as to heal the mental scars he suffered in the afternoon. What are you doing only to disturb my sleep? Klein suddenly signed helplessly. Wait. Are they doing this to help him? Let me read this last part. This was the arrival of a Beyonder from the Church of the Evernight. This Beyonder was using the dream to placate the tycoon. Let me double check what placate means. No definition found. Okay, to Plea the Tycoon, Dwayne Dantes so as to heal the mental scars he suffered in the afternoon. They're helping him, right? Yeah, healing the damage he got. Like, you know what's crazy? They're probably gonna realize he's already been healed. He's gonna be like, how the f did he heal himself? What are you doing? What are you doing only to disturb my sleep? Kind of suddenly sighed helplessly. For a second, I thought Evernight appeared, bro. I was like, what the fuck? Did she just appear? I was like, oh shit. All right, next chapter. Chapter 804 is Archaeological Team. As he said, Klein indulged himself by relaxing like an ordinary person, enjoying a rare instance of serenity and comfort in his dream. After about 15 minutes, he finally waited to the point where the church beoners that sent to placate him had left. Finally, I can sleep in peace. Klein planned on opening his eyes out of habit before falling asleep again, but he realized that once he wasn't on high alert and on ground, the remnant sense of tranquility in his dream would allow him to directly fall into a deep sleep. That night, the tranquility of his sleep was extremely good, and he only managed to wake up at daybreak. Outside, the sun had just peeked out over the horizon. While the moon remained shiny in the sky, there was a slight howl from the winds. Klein lazily dazed in bed for nearly 10 minutes before picking up the golden pocket watch by his bedside table and snapping it open. It's not even 6:30. Should I roll over and continue sleeping, or should I wake up? Klein observed his physical condition and found his mind clear and brimming with energy. He didn't have any hint of feeling lethargic, so he decided to get out of bed and wash up before walking to his balcony to take a look at the orange vista. In the season, due to the wind, Backlund didn't have thick smog. Together with the environmental measures put in place over the past few months, the skies were often blue and air fresh. The gardeners were already busy in the garden, and the parlor maid of the handyman were handing to the market. Other than them, the surroundings were calm and peaceful. The invigorated Klein, as he temporarily forgot all his problems. He felt that the world belonged to him at that moment. With a faint smile, he silently enjoyed the scenery in the next 15 minutes. In the next 15 minutes, servants would walk out from the surrounding houses in pairs of threes. They were either holding the baskets or leading horses. The entire borough seemed to come to life as the sunlight grew brighter. This is what life should be like. Klein suddenly sighed as he had the sudden urge to take a stroll. He turned around and left the balcony and walked to the door. Outside the master bedroom, Richardson was already waiting outside. It was impossible to guess what time he had woken up. This was the most difficult thing about a valet. He needs to sleep later than his employers, but also wake up earlier than him. There's another hour before breakfast, sir. If you wish for it to be brought forward, the kitchen will be ready within 15 minutes. Richardson didn't ask Wayne Dantes why he had suddenly woken up so early. Klein chortled and said, "There's no need to bring it forward. I plan on taking a stroll first." "Very well, sir." Richardson entered the bedroom, and based on his employer's suggestion, he chose a coat and helped him wear it. Finally, Klein wore a silver top hat and held a gold inlaid cane before walking down to the first floor. Leaving the residence, he strolled down the street that was lined with intis parasol trees and black street lamps until he reached the other end. Along the way, each resident's garden emanated a faint fragrance as the green leaves of the trees created a sense of tranquility from the high above. Pedestrians in pairs of threes in what seems to be like a sparse street. The occasional carriage that drove by would break the silence before quickly leaving. Klein enjoyed the morning, taking in the pleasantries of waking up early. He felt that the negative emotions from yesterday were evaporating bit by bit and vanishing. Beyonders need to learn how to create conditions for themselves to regulate their moods. By taking this stroll, the bishops of St. Samuel Cathedral will likely know that Dwayne Dantes has completely recovered. They won't disturb my sleep in the middle of the night. As Klein's thoughts wandered, his gaze swept past 39 Buckland Street. It was the Member of Parliament Motch's residence. Its external perimeter was in one form of the sharp iron rods, allowing the passerby to appreciate the beauty of the garden within through the gaps. While moving his gaze away, Klein saw a familiar figure. It was Hazel with her long black-green hair and dark brown eyes. This beautiful and proud lady was strolling through the garden traits with her maid, looking around from time to time. She woke up early as well. Her quality of sleep is excellent because she doesn't need to head down the sewers in the middle of the night. Klein lampooned and attracted his gaze as he continued proceeding forward. Glancing at Richardson, who was silently following behind him, Klein suddenly thought of the news reports, magazines, articles, and novels he had recently read about southern continent. He conscientiously kept up with the content of the region because that would flesh out his persona as Dwayne Dantes. After all, a lot of what he knew about the southern continent stemmed from the pirates, adventurers, and the Fox Sea's strongest hunter, Anderson. He had no idea if they were exaggerated or fabricated. Man, I feel like it's a little bit of both. Knowing Anderson's personality, the information I've read recently and in the past were about people who struck it rich in the southern continent before returning or had just decided to stay here. This makes Backland residents believe that there's gold everywhere in the southern continent and that there are opportunities to strike rich. Even common wood and sap can be used for many things, allowing one to exchange for plenty of pounds. That's why the kingdom frequently goes to war with countries like Fasik and Intis to via the colonial lands. If not for the commoners' inability to save up for the ferry tickets or dare to smuggle themselves there, I'm sure a large number of people would swarm it. As for Kleinslot's world, he casually asked his valet, "What's your impression of the southern continent? Yo, Geeky, are you gonna stream for long? You said your whole day." Yeah, I have the whole day, so I'll probably keep going for a good while. As long as I don't lose my voice, knock on wood, I think we're fine, Cammy. You remember that Richardson was born in the manor over there. He had only been brought in Backland when he was an adult. Yeah, I want to see like how much I can read today. Yeah, all right. Richardson paused for a few seconds and said, "Sir, I actually don't know much about the southern continent because I spent most of my time at the manor. I had few opportunities to head out. Just tell me of your impressions, your true impressions. You don't have to hold back. I just want to have a general understanding. As you know, they all believe me to be an expert of the southern continent, but in fact, my experiences are only limited to a few places and merchants." Client said with a chuckle. Richardson nodded and bowed his head as he looked at his toes that were walking forward. "My impression of the southern continent is hunger, exhaustion, pain, as well as pinging for the world after death." Hunger, exhaustion, pain. Klein repeated those three words as he walked into Buckland Street without making any further inquiries. East Chester County, in a building beside Stone University, Audrey was looking at the collections obtained by the Relic Search and Preservation Foundation. She had originally planned on coming Tuesday afternoon, but Associate Professor Michelle Duth had participated in an academic conference in Backland, therefore only returning today. As a result, she had no choice but to change her plans. This pair of boots was discovered by a farmer in the mountain ruins in Stone. Its sharpened traits matched societal trends of the fourth epoch. Mitchell introduced the item inside the glass cabinet to the beautiful aristocrat. Audrey looked over with interest and discovered that the ends of the boots were curled like a clown's. The height of the curled parts weren't uniform. One was 3 centimeters, another was 5 centimeters. They didn't look like a pair. The fourth epoch's asymmetrical style. Yeah, what's up? Welcome back. Oh, so this is the fourth epoch's asymmetrical style. I wonder what level it is for the 3 on the left and the 5 on the right. Audrey retracted her gaze and followed Associate Professor Mitchell to the next exhibit. At the end of the tour, Mitchell pointed at the glass case diagonally ahead of them and said, "This coat of arms was delivered a few days ago. It involved very ancient worship of dragons." I forgot what it was. Was it in Amon's tomb where they said how they found glass, but glass never existed in the fourth epoch? That was mentioned, right? Glass never existed in the fourth epoch due to their style or whatever. And they're like, how is there glass in this tomb? Dragons. Audrey strode forward in reserved manner, saw the grayish-white dragon with its wings spread out engraved on the coat of arms. No, it was not that. Oh, it was probably something else then. "Where does it come from?" Audrey asked just as she did before. Mitchell answered, "It's from a village named Hartlark. This Lowanist word doesn't have an archetype in ancient Fasik. Apparently, it was written like how it's read. Hearthlark." Let's text to speech.
Heartlark.
Oh, Heartlark. Heartlark. That's the village where I previously visited that had the folk tradition of worshipping dragons. And to see a collective subconscious of the people there, there's a mind dragon in it. Oh, the one Audrey went to last volume. The 20-year war notebook, which I previously obtained from the associate professor Michelle, was from a local knight named Lindelira. He was suspected to have something to do with the mind dragon. Audrey nodded and thought as she deliberated over the words, wishing to ask about the person who had found the coat of arms. At that moment, Associate Professor Michelle's expression turned abnormally heavy. Accompanying the discovery of this coat of arms was a tragedy. A tragedy. Audrey didn't hide her surprise. Associate Professor Michelle signed and said, "An archaeological team entered the village to study the folk tradition of worshipping dragons. But that night, one of the members went mad, and this mental illness was apparently contagious. The entire archaeological team later went mad, killing themselves or each other. In the end, none of them survived. This coat of arms was found among the remains. It was first taken away by the police, and after confirming that it's without problems, only then did they donate to us." I'm waiting for this epic moment. Ooh, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. An archaeological team entered the village, and the members went mad, one after another. Audrey's eyes dilated as she inwardly repeated Associate Professor Michel's words. Suddenly, an idea came to mind. Psychology alchemists. The member of the archaeological team were members of the psychology alchemists. Okay, next chapter. Meeting up. What could possibly go down? Let's see what happens. All right, next chapter. Meeting up. No? Oh, I thought you changed your profile picture. My bad. Chapter 805 is called Meeting Up. Inside the building of the Relics Church and Preservation Foundation, Audrey, whose thoughts were undergoing an upheaval, blinked. She took note of her body language and expressions as they drew a crimson moon on her chest in a half-genuine manner. She said with a sigh, "What a tragedy. I hope that their spirits can rest in peace." The reason she had guessed that the archaeological team had comprised of members of the psychology alchemists was that she had previously received a mission to help the organization obtain a notebook related to the 20-year war from the Associate Professor Michel. And this notebook belonged to the knight of the I already forgot how to pronounce it. Harklet village Lindelira. Back then, Audrey had made a request to Mr. Fool and relied on magic mirror divination to determine the origins of the notebook. She discovered that it was deeply connected to the village that worshipped dragons, and she knew ahead of time that there was a mind dragon hiding within the sea of the selective subconscious. She ultimately chose to hand over the notebook to the psychology alchemist in consideration of her lacking sequence and strength. That also meant... what? That also meant that the psychology alchemist had quite a significant chance of locking onto Heartlock Village through the notebook before heading over to find their target. Another factor that Audrey used in her judgment was a strange mental illness that the archaeological team suffered. Oh, the one that got them one by one, right? It had spread like a plague, causing the people to go mad in batches. In the real world, there was a probability that mental illness was hereditary, but it was almost impossible to be contagious. But in the mysterious world, in the world of the mind and the conscientious, chaos and madness could be spread to others through spirit channeling, dreams, and subconscious. And hidden in Harklock Village was a mind dragon that had lived for years. I feel like that's probably part of it, or as to why they're getting affected. The psychology alchemist had found the Harklock Village through the notebook, and the threatened mind dragon used the ingenious method to spread the mental corruption. He might have achieved this through the sea of collective subconscious. The Beyonders The Beyonder world sure is dangerous that this small team must have been formed by a selection of the Beyonders, but they ended their lives in such a simple and ridiculous manner. As Audrey thought about it, she, mind dragon, was glad that she had made a sufficiently rational decision. She hadn't willfully used the knight's notebook to explore the Harklock village. Otherwise, there would probably have been an additional name to the list of the members who went mad. Thanks to Mr. Fool, thanks to the other members of the Terror Club, thanks to Quillingus, who previously infiltrated it in disguise, they allowed me to still recognize the hidden dangers despite my lack of actual experience in the domain of mysticism. It made me sufficiently cautious. Audrey silently thought in gratitude. At that moment, her recalling her performance when she first joined the Terror Club had made her wish to bury her head in her pillows to roar at herself. Audrey, you were the naive and immature back then. Thankfully, you met Mr. Fool. If it were any other secret in existence, you would have long gone mad or turned into a monster. Mr. Fool is such a nice man. Such a nice orthodox god. By the side, Associate Professor Michel noticed that Audrey had been silent. He said with a heavy voice, "Yes, it truly is a tragedy that strikes one with fear. I only wish that the government had already handled the matter and prevented the contagious mental illness from becoming a plague. Don't worry, unless the mind dragon loses control and plans to challenge the 3 churches, there won't be any more victims of that mental illness," Audrey replied silently. So, no chance of it spreading anymore. From her point of view, official Beyonders had already taken on the case after a contagious mental illness was definitely going to be under the purview of the official Beyonders. Therefore, the dragon coat of arms in the glass case must have been determined to be fine before being donated to the foundation. The police department didn't have the authority. While Audrey felt pity for the archaeological team who were suspected to be psychology alchemist members, and though she had experienced a tragedy for herself, she was curious if the mind dragon remained in the vicinity of the Harklock village. To hide in the sea of the collective subconscious with one's actual body would probably make it difficult to be discovered. However, 3 churches have a long history. In the 4th epoch or even earlier, they must have had bouts with mind dragons, so perhaps they have the corresponding records about it. Besides, the psychology alchemist is in control of the spectator pathway and has the existence of the high sequence Beyonders. Their comprehension of the sea of the collective subconscious can't be much weaker than the mind dragons. After suffering a terrible failure due to the lack of information, they will definitely send a very powerful team, Although the mind dragon was stronger, than what the psychology alchemist expected. It probably wouldn't stay there to be discovered. It should have left. Audrey made an inference based on what she knew. She didn't have any thoughts of visiting Archaeological village to figure out the truth because she long knew that present her lacked the strength to deal with the mind dragon. Her only intentions were to mention the matters to the next Tar Club and to see if the other members could provide any feedback or any valuable knowledge. For example, it might be the mind dragon had entered the sea of the collective subconscious because of the local worship of dragons, or it could be that the mind dragons in... Wait, let me read this part a little bit slower. Or it could be that the mind dragon's inhabituation of the sea of the collective subconscious caused the villagers to dream of it, thus being subconsciously influenced and having the tradition of worshipping the dragon. Oh, so it's not like he purposely did it. It just, his psyche was so strong it influenced the villagers. On Friday afternoon, Klein received the invitation list for the ball tomorrow. He began to seriously memorize the topics he needed to discuss with different guests. When meeting Member Parliament Motched, I need to make remarks about the recent good air in Backland and make a few jokes about the Lowen Kingdom Imperial Science Institute. As damn, he gonna be making fun of Oh, wait, no. Lowen Imperial Science Institute. As Klein memorized each line, he suddenly heard stacked illusory pleas. A man, based on how long it's been, it's most likely Mr. Hangman. In thought, Klein put down the piece of paper in his hands and gulped down a mouthful of black tea before leaving the half-open room with a big balcony to head for the master bathroom. He took 4 steps counterclockwise and went above the great fog as he discovered that it was indeed Mr. Hangman. This man had requested Honorable Mr. Fool to inform the world that he had arrived at the capital of the Rorschach Archipelago, city of generosity, Bayam. We haven't been there since Volume 3, dude. He could head for the primitive island in 2 days after he replenished his supplies. He wanted the world to begin preparations so that they could meet in time. He also... This is going to be such a good part, dude, of the volume when they meet up. He also indicated that if he lacked the means to head to the primitive, he could arrange for the world to secretly board the Blue Avenger. Board the Blue Avenger and bring a bunch of sailors from the Church of the Storms to the vicinity of the primitive island. How long can the Sanguine's anesthetic gas you bought from Emmeline last? Will there be enough time to explore? Klein thought for a moment and conjured the world of Gurman Sparrow, making him pray devoutly. There's no need to go through that much trouble. You should have freedom of movements in Bayam. Meet at the cemetery outside the city at midnight tonight. Before that, replenish your stores. Bayam in and in. Alger frowned. Sorry, I had to burp. Alger frowned slightly after hearing the world Gurman Sparrow's words. He didn't have the freedom or movement in the city of Generosity. This was because the sailors were eager to head to the places like the Red Theater. Yo, what's up, dude? Yo, we went to the gym earlier today too, Red Devil. What's today? Pull, push, or legs. There were definitely no returning tonight. After waking up in a day, for me, it was a pull day. It was to vent the repression and misery that resulted from drinking out at sea for extended periods of time. Push. I had push yesterday. Today was pull. Tomorrow's legs though. That also meant that even if Olger disappeared from a night and a day, no one will discover it. Is the world implying that we use this interval? This is indeed better than using the Sanguine's anesthetic gas. I've already used it twice, so who knows if someone is already suspicious and it is waiting for his theory to be validated. Oh, about a ship, how did we head for the primitive island? Oh, layman's travels. Miss Magician did mention that it has the beyond powers of teleportation. However, there's only one page, making it possible for a return trip. Olger relied on his strong ability to connect matters to vaguely guess the Gurman Sparrow's intent, but he believed that the necessary conditions were lacking. With those doubts in mind, he found his contact with the Resistance and replenished the storm charms that were made with the 10. When it was 11 at night, Olger secretly left the inn, headed out of the city under the shadows. He wasn't worried that the sailors would discover his disappearance because he, too, had physical needs. It was possible that he was sleeping in a lady's bed in a Red Theater and was unwilling to return. And there were many such brothels in Mayhem. With many workers in existence, it was impossible to say that there was something wrong with him because he wasn't at the Red Theater. Once he left Bayam, Olger walked on a narrow road where the horse carriages could pass as he headed for the mountainside of the mountain range beside the sea. Suddenly, his gaze froze as he noticed something. Under the crimson moonlight illumination, the mountain that was originally existed had vanished. What? A mountain vanished? And the area underneath, such the piled stones, vegetation, terrain changed almost completely. This Olger had come from the Resistance private harbor earlier. He had managed to pay close attention to the mountain, hence he only noticed the abnormality at the moment. Did something happen? The mountain collapsed. It's actually collapsed. Right, it was really mentioned in the papers that Bayam encountered a shallow earthquake, with its might being focused in the mountain range outside the city. Also, the church's decon said that German Sparrow nearly destroyed Bayam and that the manor had demigods involved. 800, let's go, man. I know, dude. We're making progress today. Both of them occurred during the same period. It's been an hour and 57's reading, and we read 795 to 805. Hell yeah, dude. Both of them occurred during the same period. Could it be caused by the German Sparrow? He instigated a demigod level battle, and he managed to successfully escape while killing Admiral Blood. Alger's people, he's like, yo, he's fucking sick, dude. He instigated a demigod battle, and he managed to successfully escape while killing Admiral Blood. Alger's pupils dilated as his footsteps slowed down to a halt. He suddenly understood why the Church's storms had placed great importance on German Sparrow, and why he had a bounty worth as much as 50,000 pounds. In the underground cemetery up ahead, a cold wind blew across it and towards Alger in the silent night. It made him tremble involuntarily. At that moment, Alger's heart stirred as he turned his head to look right. Under a giant tree, a figure quickly outlined itself in the shade. The figure had his hand on the top of his hat while slowly looking up, revealing a thin... Oh, it's him! Yo, dude! Revealing a thin face and cut features, the motionless dark brown eyes were none other than German Sparrow. Oh, this is gonna be such a good team up, dude. Oh, snap, bro. Chapter 806. Entering the island in the middle of the night. Oh, it's gonna be so sick, dude. Chapter 806. Entering the island in the middle of the night. He did teleport over. How extravagant. Alger tensed up before relaxing. However, he did not let his guard down at all. Upon meeting German Sparrow again, he discovered that there wasn't much of a change to him. However, his every action had the indescribable air of a powerhouse. And the... Shit, this is so sick, dude. Dude, when Alger and Gervin meet up, shit goes down. Get the music ready? All right, you let me know. When you guys tell me to play walls closing in or whatever it has to be, you guys let me know. Sequence 5 vanished from Alger. He slowly walked over with a lantern in hand. When he saw German Sparrow, he deliberately probed. The traces you left behind might not vanish for the next few centuries or even millennia. He was trying to confirm if the mountain's collapse had anything to do with German Sparrow. Klein shot a glance at the modified terrain as he released his grip on the top pad in small and gently manner. The one who contributed the most is causing this damage was Sea King. Man, he actually triggered a demigod battle that could have destroyed Bayam, causing the Sea God to directly attack. Yet despite such circumstances, he survived and left with Admiral Blood. It's completely unimaginable and unbelievable. Alger began to suspect if German Sparrow had a grade 1 sealed artifact on him, an item at a demigod level. Maybe. The easy Chinese viewers are growing a little bit. Yeah, they're growing, right? That's the one thing I've noticed. That's cool, dude. Grade 1 sealed artifact on him, an item of the demigod level. He didn't express his shock and surprise, nor did he dare to probe further. Instead, he asked, "Do you plan on heading to the primitive island now?" Of course, Klein answered calmly. It was late at night, a period when Dwayne Dantes was asleep. No one would disturb him, but he had shown him once it was daytime. Of course, to prevent any unexpected circumstances, Klein had summoned the Rhodes to monitor the mirror illusion and provide a response. It's thanks to the Church of the Evernight for having ended its dream treatment of Mr. Tycoon. Otherwise, I would have definitely have to delay the operation. Klein couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Alger observed himself and discovered that he wasn't able to obtain any mystical items in a short span of time. He then took out an iron black ring that protruded out like a thorn and wore it on his left thumb. Bearing with excruciating headache, he nodded slightly. I hope for a pleasant partnership. Then he saw German Sparrow walk over with a stoic expression, reach out his hand and grab his shoulders. At that instant, Alger's first reaction was that German Sparrow was attacking him. Wait, what? He thinks he's trying to fight him? He instinctively wanted to turn to the side to dodge the attack, only to recall his previous guess. Amidst his racing thoughts, he withheld his subconscious reaction and allowed the crazy adventurer to place his palm on his left shoulder. Damn, dude. He is getting scared of him, dude. Right on the heels of that, he noticed the German Sparrow's left hand turned transparent as though it was burying the shadows of the spirit world. Then the blacks before his eyes grew darker and the crimson moon turned brighter. All kinds of colors seemed to layer upon layer. Oh, he's taking him into the spirit world. Yo. Countless nearly formless figures receded backwards as Alger tore through the spirit world with German Sparrow's help. Creeping hunger teleport. So that's how it is. Just as he had such a thought surface in his mind, he saw his body plummet as the saturated colors around him receded. Everything had returned to normal. It's so cool that he can just go through the spirit world like that now. It is so cool. Remember how back then it was freaking Azik that helped him do that, but now he's doing that with creeping hunger? So cool, dude. Beach, reefs, trees. This is the deserted island. Alger surveyed the area and was just about to speak when the colors around him saturated as the layered phenomenon happened once again. Klein has mastered the art of aura farming. Not only aura farming, ancient aura farming. Oh man, it's so cool. When they said, I forgot who was the one that said, wasn't Leonard's Parasite the one that said, oh, he has ancient aura? That shit was funny. I mean, it was badass, but it's funny, man. It's crazy. This time when he left the Spur world, he was in midair with undulating waves beneath him. Although Olger had never worked with German Sparrow on the actual combat before, the experience him immediately created a spiraling wind and allowed them to float. It was a tactic display of teamwork. Look at that. They've never teamed up like that together, and look at them working together. Hence, the teleportation triggered successfully once again as Olger and German Sparrow's figure rapidly phased away. When the surroundings were restored again, the two had arrived at the periphery of the gigantic island. There was a heavy mist in the midair, and the crimson moonlight was unable to fully penetrate. This not only failed to disperse the darkness in the forest and mountain, but it also added an eerie charm to it. Where here, Olger said as he looked around, Klein wore an indifferent expression, but in fact he was cautiously observing his surroundings. He found the place extremely quiet. There weren't any birds tweeting, wolves howling, or bugs chirping. It exuded a deathly silence. As though guessing his feelings, Olger raised the lantern and illuminated the shrubs ahead, where there was a natural trail made up of a beast-type footprints. He said, if you come in today, it will be quite a lively sight. You will even see birds that only exist in myths, flies in the forest. Very nice collab. It is a really good collab. Did I lose my place? I didn't lose my place. But at night, the power that rules this place will change. Many beyond creatures will hide as they await daybreak. Mr. Hangman has come here for more than once. At the very least, he has experience of a day and night here. Klein silently nodded without speaking further. Olger thought for a few seconds and put it ahead. If we follow this trail and enter the dark forest all the way to the end, we will arrive at the ancient ruins of the unknown age. Walls closing in? Shut up. Really? Alright, let's play it, dude. The volume's going to be a little low, but we're raising it a little bit, okay? Let me know if it's too low or too loud, and we'll see. I'll gauge it right here. On the way, we can hunt the beyond creatures that we encounter are able to deal with. If it's killed independently, the corresponding ingredients will belong to the killer. Those who jointly killed will be held in your custody. When we leave this place, we can take turns to choose. We will determine the owner based on our contribution to decide who has the priority to choose, as well as the number of priority choices. Oh, I can't wait. Instead of being in a rush to take action, he first made clear the route and planned to split the loot. It was to prevent any conflict that would result from the exploration. To let me have custody of the loot we received from a joint kill, Mr. Hangman is being very sincere. Klein raised his right hand and pressed down his half-top hat and chuckled. No problem. Go to partnership, Olger the Glazer and Klein the Ore Farmer. I love it. So far, I think this is my favorite duo. When Olger teams up with Klein, or like when he teams up with German's persona. I love it. Olger heaved a sigh of relief and continued. Our main goal is to explore the ancient ruins. You know which one is going to be better, though? When Klein teamed up with Leonard. That's going to be a good duo. Olger heaved a sigh of relief, or maybe Trissy. Oh, those are going to be good duos. Olger heaved a sigh of relief and continued. Our main goal is to explore the ancient ruins. The spoils we obtain along the way are supplementary. Once we finish the exploration, it's best we leave immediately without heading to the other zones or taking other paths. As for anything in the future, it's up to you to decide when and where you would like to explore. Olger emphasized this matter because he was afraid of German Sparrow's greed. After all, Beyonders were not perpetual machines. They were bound to be a point where they were exhausted. After rounds of explorations, they were bound to close to their limits. If it were to force themselves to hunt Beyonder creatures in other zones, perhaps the identifications of hunter and prey would switch. Even if the crazy adventurer was very powerful and unafraid of such a danger, to be in a state of drained spirituality would trigger signs of losing control. Do you think I'm not sharing the same thoughts as you? I'm the one worried that you'd be the one who's overly greedy, rashly proceeding deeper just to obtain more. Klein smiled and said, I'm a polite person. Polite? Olger was a little puzzled by German's choice of words. The corners of Klein's mouth curled as his expression turned darker into darkness. When visiting, they have such good chemistry, dude. When visiting someone's place for the first time, overstaying would be impolite. This fellow's train of thoughts or logical behavior is completely different from that of any other normal person's. As expected of the crazy adventurer, Olger was first taken aback before he raised the lantern and took a step forward in the dim of the red shadows. Let's set off. Klein lowered his hands to naturally droop down as he walked beside Olger like he was on a hike. Then to quickly enter the dark forest and that had nearly zero moonlight shining. Then he saw the trees. Oh my god, I'm reading wrong. They saw that the trees were thick and tall with luxuriant leaves. Even the smallest trees were thicker than the span of a person's arm. And the trait they all had in common was that of the bark appeared scaly. They were densely packed together as though they would come to life on their squirm at any moment. It's like a mutated dragu tree, a snake-skilled tree. Klein retracted his gaze and noticed the weeds at his feet that didn't seem problematic. None of them spoke as they maintained a state of abnormal silence. They didn't wish to say something to eliminate the arcanist just because it was too quiet. As they walked, the duo saw the distribution of trees ahead of true sparser, thanks to the lantern's light. Thump, thump, thump. A dull knocking sound echoed through the area as Alger and Gurman approached it because clear and obvious. When the duo entered the sparse area, the lantern's light finally revealed the hunch of a prostrate figures. Amongst the tree figures were humans, baboons, goats, and tigers. They were either holding rocks or using their claws and teeth to constantly burnish the stacked trees and rocks as though they were building a palace. While in obstruction from the luxuriant leaves, the crimson moonlight that penetrated the heavy mist cloaked these figures, dyeing them with a faint blood-red layer. They are humans. Klein's eyes focus as he... What? They are humans? Klein's eyes focus as he immediately spread his left finger. Alger slowed down, preparing his vocal cords to be activated at any moment. Oh, because he's a songster now. Suddenly, the figures seemed to sense something as they stopped their actions unison before uniformly turning around to look at the other two outsiders. They either had pale faces, withered skin, or festering bodies. None of them looked alive. Corpses, a beyonder Corpses? A beyonder creatures driving these corpses to build up a palace for it. Klein cast his gaze past them and saw a dark cave that led deep into the ground. The surrounding... Oh, I'm so happy I caught me pausing the video. Oh, that's awkward. Okay. Ooh, that would have been bad. The surroundings were covered in weeds as white feathers stayed with yellow oil scattered among them. Feathers, corpses. These instantly reminded Klein of the products of the numinous Episcopate Artificial Death Project, as well as the infectious aura that made him grow feathers. This zone's sovereign wouldn't be weak. He calmly made a judgment. At that moment, Alger, who had carefully observed for a while, hesitated for 2 seconds before suggesting, I've never seen such a situation before. I'm not sure of the level of the beyond creatures. Why don't we circle around it and choose a target which we have more confidence in? His instincts told him that something extremely dangerous was hidden in a dark underground cave. I was waiting for you to say that. Maintaining his persona as Gurman Spurrow, Klein heaved a sigh of relief as he chuckled. Will this be impolite? Just as he said that, the land quaked as though a creature beneath them was rolled over in its bed. Next chapter. Mediocre Luck, chapter 807. Alright, next chapter, chapter 807 is called Mediocre Luck. Sensing the land quake, Alger's heart tightened as he glanced at Gurman Spurrow, using his action to replace his words. The sound of the wind howls beside him, allowing him to run more easily and quickly to the side. The reason why Alger had done so was because he was worried that Gurman Spurrow would suddenly go mad and decide to hunt the terrifying creature inside the dark underground cave. It was that... If that were to happen, even if they ultimately clinched a victory, it would have been extremely disadvantageous for the subsequent explorations. As an experienced sailor, he knew that decisive action spurred companions who remained indecisive into the subconsciously following his actions. Upon seeing this, Klein heaved a sigh of relief as he gave up the discussion about politeness. He widened his stride and ran behind the hanged man. Following that, he sensed a strong wind blow at his feet, thrusting him forward. This significantly reduced the need to overcome gravity, allowing him to obtain the additional mobility that instantly doubled his speed. Amidst the rustling sound, Klein and Alger ran out of the sparse woods and circled around the flank of the eerie darkness. At this moment, their heartbeats suddenly slowed. It was as though they hadn't been engaging in intense exercise, and were instead in a state of reverie that resulted from the tanning of the afternoon sun. Klein immediately felt his body turn cold as an inexplicable and baffling sense of gloom arose as they tried to invading his body. Meanwhile, he saw the light from Alger's lanterns be swallowed inch by inch by a gigantic black shadow. A corresponding scene naturally surfaced in his mind. In the depths of the dark underground cave, a thick, humongous serpent snaked out. It had dark green scales with exaggerated eyes that seemed to burn with fire. In between its scales were white feathers covered in yellowish, oily stains. Along its back was a pair of thick wings that could be spread. With slithering and flying, this giant serpent raised its both hands, coiling itself around a thick tree and extending its pitch-black tongue. It stared intently at the two figures as that had barged into the surrounding area. Around it, the trees were rapidly withering along with the weeds. Countless corpses burrowed out of the soil as an invisible shadow surged from the side. Feathered serpent? It was a feathered serpent. In the southern continent, it was a symbol of holiness. It was the emblem of the descendant of death, the Eggers family. What? A Zix family? Klein and Alger didn't pause as they held back the coldness of their bodies and their slowless heartbeats. Under the intense winds, they charred into the depths of the dark forest, pulling a distance away from the sparse trees. The plot thickens. Wait, what? Let me reread this part again. In the dark southern continent, it was a symbol of holiness, a feathered serpent. It was the emblem of the descendants of death. Oh wait, is it Iger or is it like egg? Oh, like an egg. Duh, eggs. It's like it's literally says egg. Eggers. Okay. Klein and Alger didn't pause as they held back the coldness of their bodies and their slowing heartbeats. Under the intense winds, they charged into the depths of the dark forest, pulling a distance away from their sparse trees. But dump. The duo's heartbeat gradually returned to normal as the coldness of their bodies were dispersed by the heart generating from the intense exercise. They just described that feather snakes are connected to eggers and not the egg family. No, I know, my bad. Wait. Feathered serpent. Now, this makes me question why there were so many white feathers when the true creator was revealed for the first time in the Dunghua. That I don't get. I don't remember there being all these crazy white feathers. Does that just imply the egg family? Does that just imply like that he's like a high sequence? Or like that he's at the level of angel or like at the level of a god, and that's why you see all those feathers? Just an artistic choice. Okay, all right. That had me thinking. I was very curious as to why there were so many white feathers when Dunn looked at the true creator. It's anime only. No need to consider important. Okay, all right. I see what you guys are doing there. Okay. Demigod level. Alger similarly slowed down as the blood vessel in his forehead pulsed. Wait. I skipped a sentence. Ba-dump. The duo's heartbeat gradually returned to normal as the coldness of their bodies were dispersed by the heart generated from the intense exercise. Klein's spiritual intuition told him that the danger had passed, hence he slowed down his pace and turned to the glance back. He said calmly while facing the depths of the darkness, a demigod-level feathered serpent. Demigod level, Alger similarly slowed down as the blood vessels in his forehead pulsed. He paused for 2 seconds and exhaled lightly. Don't worry about it. The beyonder creatures here are very territorial. Unless they wish to hunt, they would not enter other zones, especially when it's near the mountain. That feathered serpent wouldn't chase after us? Okay. Klein nodded and said, the beyonder creatures here are very strong. Alger retracted his gaze and replied with a shake of his head. No, there are also many weak ones. I've been here at night before, but I've only ever discovered the traces left behind by beyonder creatures at the demigod level without encountering them. I actually encountered one this time. Such matters are mainly about luck. There has been a lot of luck recently. The chances of this happening again isn't too high. As a seafarer, being able to calculate was a necessary ability. Are you looking down on me, the king of yellow and black who wields good luck? Klein gave a self-deprecating laugh, and as he said with a deadpan expression, absolute judgments often result in opposite results. When translated into Earth speak, it was, don't raise death flags. When translated into Earth speak. Don't raise death flags. There were so many death flags in volume 1 we've done. He was like very self-aware. He was like, maybe I'll be next, and he was next. In fact, if it wasn't a feathered serpent at a demigod level and instead something at sequence 5, Klang would be happy to bully it. After all, Azik's copper whistle in hand, the beyonder creatures in the death domain would lose at least half their combat strength. As for encountering a beyonder creature at the demigod level, he wasn't too alarmed. That was because the hangman had previously mentioned it, and he made the corresponding preparations. He had the Fate's Siphon Charm, 3 pages of the demigod level beyonder powers in layman's travels, and the ability to travel. Although it wasn't necessarily the case that he could resist a demigod, it was enough to help him create opportunities to escape. As long as I do not encounter angels, Klein suddenly added inwardly. After hearing German Sparrow, Algar was somewhat puzzled that this was because the crazy adventurer was clearly to inform him to be more careful and cautious. A cold and crazy fellow, that's right. If he's just crazy, he wouldn't have lived to this day. Alger looked up at the skies. He tried hard to look past him in the midst and distinguish the blurry stars. After the 2 minutes, he retracted his gaze and pointed it in a direction. Well, we'll head in that direction. Klein had long drawn his iron black death nail. He allowed the muzzle to naturally point downward as he silently followed alongside Alger. He wore a cold and composed expression that had no signs of anxiety. After traversing the extremely dim forest for some time, Alger suddenly stopped. As he looked to his left, he said in a deep voice, if we head forward more, there will be an illusionary chime tree. I hope to handle it by myself. The second beyonder creature we encounter will be handled by you. I won't involve myself in the hunt. Unless you can't handle it alone. Alger swallowed the second half of his sentence. He wasn't like the hunters who were often seen at sea. people who often couldn't hold their tongues as they habitually said things that infuriated others. The main beyond ingredients which Miss Justice needs, Mr. Hangman has quite a bit of venturing experience under his belt. He knows that being frank at times is more useful than concealing matters, and that negotiating is more effective than scheming. Client, that's a good guy right there. Client maintained German-spread persona as he nodded with a hint of gentlemanness amidst his coldness. I think that's the most XP we've seen so far, 300. I think that's the most. Okay, if you can't deal with it, it's best you shout for help. Otherwise, I'll treat it as your persistence. The style of a crazy adventurer appears to be different from Hunter's, but in certain aspects, they are surprisingly similar. Olger suddenly drew a breath as he continued forward with his lantern. As they walked, they heard weak chiming sounds. They were immediately felt as though they were home, their bodies and minds at ease. We are yappers. The yappers who read LO2EM. 300 is the most. Bet. Oh, is that like the cap? Klein acutely sensed that his wariness was melting away in an irreversible manner. No matter how much he emphasized it to himself, he was unable to tense up. At that instant, he even had the urge to head for the source of the chimes, believing that there was something extremely dear and familiar to him located over there. As they were quite a distance away, the chiming was sporadic. Klein was barely able to hold himself back as he turned to look at Mr. Hangman. Olger no longer looked at the state as before. The eyes of his rugged face was slightly red. It was unknown that he had recalled something that caused him to plunge into some emotional state. I wonder what Mr. Hangman looks like when he's crying. It must be quite terrifying. Klein couldn't help but muse. At this moment, Olger said softly with a hoarse voice, "Leave it to me." Just as he said that, he put down the lantern and slightly turned the sinister ring on his left thumb. He made a protruded thorn that looked like it was stained with old bloodstains turned brighter. This was his mystical item, Whip of Mind. Its side effects was to place the wearer in a state of constant headaches, one so bad that the wearer would yearn to slam their head into the wall. Oh, the Whip of Mind. Wasn't there like a whip of slowness before? However, at that moment, the excruciating headache made Olger maintain his basic lucidity amidst the chimes without being truly hypnotized. At times, a side effect might actually provide benefits to the wearer. As Olger remained poignant, he took... I guess it's just a matter of perspective. As Olger remained poignant, he took out a wooden box from his pocket and snapped it open. Inside it was a gray rat. Mr. Hangman wishes to use the rat as bait so as to attract the illusionary chime tree's attention before taking down the opportunity to attack it. Not bad, he made adequate preparations. He already had a detailed plan ahead of time. As an experienced adventurer, Klein instantly guessed at the hangman's thought process. Olger held up the rat and shook it when his expression suddenly turned odd. The gray rat was no longer moving. It was breathing and was cold. It wasn't able to take on the responsibility of being bait. Back when they encountered the demigod level feathered serpent, Olger was in the periphery of the entity's focus and had escaped quickly without being overly affected. The gray rat he carried with him was only an ordinary animal. It didn't have a strong constriction vitality, so it perished from the effects of the feathered serpent. Instead, Mr. Hangman now understands the principal plans often can't keep up with change. His luck is mediocre. Upon seeing this scene, Klein couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth. He wanted to laugh, but he didn't make a sound, afraid that it would destroy his persona. Such situations were rare to be experienced in meticulous Hangman. Olger quickly reined in his motions as he produced forward with a dead gray rat. Klein bent down and reached out for the lantern as he unhurriedly followed behind him. The chimes grew clearer as it made them more and more silent, with the urge to run towards it becoming greater. After taking another few steps forward, Klein finally saw the strange tree. Above its brownish green trunk were thin cracks. Deep inside each crack was a darkness that looked as though different eyes were growing inside them. Ugh. The branches that extended outwards had chime-like metal gray objects hanging from them. They were swinging automatically, letting out melodious sounds, and on the branch closer to the trunk, there was a fist-sized colorless translucent fruit. Olger stared into the direction as he pressed at his throat before saying to Germansborough with a heavy voice, "It's best you cover your ears and converge your spirituality." Yapaholics in chat. Dude, may the yapping never end. May it never end indeed. Next chapter, 808. Oh my goodness. 808. You say this is one of your favorite chapters? I now have high expectations. Let's see how it turns out. Oh, I didn't do my timestamp for last chapter. Ah, messed up big time. Chapter 808, we have recovered our timestamps. We're A-okay. It's called Awful Singing. Oh, I know why this is your favorite chapter. Olger probably sings Like if he doesn't have auto tune on, right? Or like when you're at a live concert and it doesn't sound like they do on the YouTube videos. Upon hearing the hanged man, Klein's heart skipped a beat. He had an ominous premonition as he ignored his persona, putting down the lantern and took out 2 slips of paper. He then crumpled them into the ball and stuffed them into his ears. Seeing German Sparrow do it without any questions, Augur heaved a sigh of relief. He reflected on how nice it was to work with an experienced fellow. Even though he was an adventurer known to be crazy, he was someone who followed reasonable instructions. He knew what and what not to do, just as he was about to throw the dead rat, which still retained some of its warmth, at the illusionary chime tree to divert its attention. He suddenly saw the shrub shake as a yellow-skinned, black-striped tiger appeared. Amidst the melodic chimes, the tiger walked towards the strange tree normally, but its eyes were glazed over. It felt indiscriminately creepy. When Augur saw this, he lowered his arm and abandoned his attempt at throwing the dead rat. Resisting the headache, he calmly watched as the tiger walked closer to the tree due to the growing influence of the melody. It crouched down, raised its right claw, and barred its claws, slicing itself at the neck. Despite the oozing blood, the tiger seemed to have lost all sense of pain. It continued digging in deeper, engrossing the wounds before it began to skin itself, revealing a naked body covered in mangled flesh and blood. The chimes gradually weakened as the branch suddenly came alive. It extended downward, stabbing it into the tiger's sorry, unprotected body. Augur, who was already prepared, immediately drew his dagger, opened his mouth, and sang hoarsely, "Break, break, break." On the cold gray stones, OC, break, break, break. At the foot of the cages, OC. It has a author's note, so I assume that's a reference to something. His voice had bold overtones, but it was completely out of tune. It was at complete odds with the comprehension of both humans and creatures. It was a jarring boom that had a metallic sound to it. It was filled with powers that left one frustrated and disgusted. Meanwhile, the illusionary chime tree branches trembled as they retracted like they were huddling together. Following that, a melodious chime lessened the terrifying noise to a small extent. At Augur's side, although Klein had used paper ball to stuff his ears and had converged his spirituality, he immediately felt his forehead's blood vessel throb. He instantly had the urge to kill the singing and destroy everything before him. Furthermore, his mind had the feeling of being ripped apart. His muscles and vessels were squirming as a result. Others charged people money to sing. Mr. Hangman's singing charges you with death. Klein lampooned as he resisted the irascibility in his art. Break, break, break. Every word Augur said burst out like waves of striking reefs. Bolts of silver lightning descended in turns, as though in a euphoric phrase. As silver flashed light lit up one after another, they smote down the illusionary chime tree's surface, causing it to tremble incessantly. Its branches shook and numb in a random manner, making it difficult for it to produce the melodic, hypnotic music. Augur took this opportunity and threw the dead rat and thrust a dagger in his hand forward. With a howling wind, invisible blades swooshed over, slicing at a branch at the top of the nearest illusionary chime tree chunk. Ah yes, the beauty of Augur singing. It's funny, dude. Augur singing has a unique effect of making others homicidal. Acha. The codeless palms. You think by default he learned how to sing beautifully, but he didn't. The colorless palm-sized translucent fruit fell as it was swept at by the gust of winds and flew into Augur's palm. The tree bark, which was covered with eye-like cracks, froze as the remaining branches dropped down, having lost their ability to move. Indeed, as long as you gather the correct intel ahead of time beyond our vegetation at the same level is a lot easier to deal with than animals due to its lacking intelligence. Augur took out a golden container and he had prepared, and he put away the illusionary chime tree's fruit. Then he turned around to look at German Sparrow. Let's continue. He suddenly stopped speaking at the word forward, vanished from his vocal cords. At that instant, he saw German Sparrow's cold expression look somewhat warped. The whites around his brown irises were slightly red, as though he would unleash an attack upon him at any moment. Augur felt tense as he slowly drew a gasp and completed his sentence. Let's continue work. Let's go. German Sparrow replied softly. He first circled around at the withered illusionary chime tree and walked deep into the dark forest. He didn't get any bark branches or materials that were rich in spirituality because they were bound to encounter many beyonder creatures later. Furthermore, he didn't have any so-called storage artifacts. Naturally, he left whatever space he had for a worthwhile spoils. See, he's wearing for the good one. He's waiting for the good spoils of war. Besides, having too many things on him would only weigh him down to prevent him from fully displaying his agility of a clown. Unfortunately, doors are materials without any vitality or blood, making it impossible to enter Grisel's travels. I can let my marionette bring them in, but that will be very troublesome and determine the subsequent exploration. As Klein signed, he calmed his mind, extracting himself from the remnant effects of the hangman singing. This was the most jarring and terrible singing that he heard in both his lives. If the hangman continued for another 1 or 2 minutes, he couldn't guarantee that he could stop himself from beating him up. He's like, shut the fuck up, dude. Using just paper dolls to stuff my ear. Oh shit, dude. That's funny. Oh shit. Using just paper dolls to stuff my ears and converging my spirituality can only weaken the effects. There's no way to really block it out. Even a deaf person can hear it. This includes an exchange of spirituality level. This is probably the most indefensible attack from an ocean songster. Furthermore, there's no way of dodging it once it happens. There's only lightning strike, which can be dodged ahead of time. This is a rather powerful sequence 5 as well. However, why does Mr. Hangman's singing feel completely different from Elven songster Sciatus? As Klein surmised an ally's exploration, he was somewhat puzzled. At this moment, the lantern holding Alger, who was walking beside him, couldn't help but consider the question. Even Germansborough can't stand my singing. How should I act as an ocean songster? Oh, he realized that? Even Germansborough can't stand my singing. How should I act as an ocean songster? In that silent environment, the two quickly proceeded forward. He's like, shit, man, maybe my singing is bad. In the silent environment, the two quickly proceeded forward amidst the thick trees that appeared to be covered in the snake's skin as they approached the ancient ruins. With a seafarer besides him, Klein saved himself the trouble of using dowsing rod seeking. He focused on watching out for any sudden attacks. The dark and silent environment resembled a horror story. As the two proceeded forward for an unknown amount of time, they discovered that these trees were beginning to systematically become sparse. This was completely different from the situation back when they met the demigod-level feathered serpent. The trees there had abruptly become sparse while they were encountering now was a progressive change, and made them have the misconception that they were about to leave the dark forest. My theory is that Alger has been cursed by the Lord of Storms to have a bad voice because he is not devoted enough. Oh! That's a good theory. Oh, so he's like, because you truly don't devote myself to you, I will give you bad singing. That's a pretty good theory, dude. After pausing through the zone, we will arrive at the periphery. I wouldn't even be able to think that up. I just assumed he's just a really bad singer. I'm not a good singer. I'm not going to pretend and tell you I'm a good singer. So, from one bad singer to another, I just thought he was a bad singer. After passing through the zone, we arrived at the periphery of the ancient ruins. Alger broke the silence. He paused and then added, seemingly causally, based on my experience, it becomes more dangerous as we approach it. The signs of the demigod creature I found last time was around here. However, oddly, the periphery of the ancient ruins doesn't have any signs of beyond creatures. However, I have no idea about deep inside it. This is probably because there are even more terrifying existences inside the ancient ruins. That zone is it's terrifying, so other creatures do not dare to approach it. Klein mumbled inwardly. He had a sense for the danger level of the expedition. He had previously performed the corresponding divination above the Great Fog, and the revelation he received was that it had its ups and downs as well as its problems. However, leaving safely wasn't much of a problem. After the hangman said to Klein chuckled, "You likely know what my guess is." He didn't say anything further as he entered the zone with sparse vegetation. Alger silently walked beside him, increasingly convinced about his judgment of Germansborough. He was calm and crazy. After proceeding dozens of meters forward, they suddenly saw a pair of ghostly blue eyes situated at where the lantern's glow could reach. It was a black baboon crouched on the branch. Its fur was naturally curled as it had its head grew black crystals. These crystals grew upwards in a random manner, forming a strange crown. Upon seeing the black baboons, Klein and Alger simultaneously had the urge to bow their heads to not look directly at it. They felt as though it was the ruler of the nearby region, their sovereign, honor relying on the excruciating headache which the whip of mind brought him in order to escape its influence. As he hurriedly took a step to the left in an attempt to avoid any direct clashes. It's a curly-haired baboon, bro. Let's go, dude. It's the almighty curly-haired baboon, right? Legendary curly-haired baboon. It's like the one, right? It's like the curly-haired baboon. He left the unknown beyond a creature to Germansborough. No way, he kills him. They had agreed to it prior. However, despite walking to the left, he ended up walking forward. His legs also hobbled as though he suddenly needed crutches. Subconsciously, Alger drew his dagger, causing sharp wind blades to swish towards the curly-haired baboon. At that moment, that baboon grinned. The wind blades suddenly changed direction in midair, moving in every direction at random to perfect it. I lost my place. Klein gave up his plans and approaching through ordinary methods. His left glove instantly turned transparent as it turned invisible. I skipped a sentence. The wind blade suddenly changed direction in midair, moving in every direction at random to perfectly avoid hitting the target. Upon seeing the scene, Klein gave up his plans on approaching through ordinary methods. His left glove instantly turned transparent as he turned invisible. Alger stopped his actions that resulted from his stress when he saw German Sparrow in the top hat appear behind the black curly-haired baboon. The distance between them was less than 5 meters. Right on the heels of that, the black curly-haired baboon's body abruptly stiffened as though it lost most of its body. It even tried hard to raise its palm, trying hard to dig at its eyes in an attempt to distort something. At this moment, German Sparrow had already made use of this delay to raise the iron black revolver to its right hand, aimed at the dark barrel and its head. Then, without any emotions, the crazy adventurer pulled the trigger. Oh, so this was a note from earlier from the song. Expert from Alfred Tainson's Break, Break, Break. Oh, so it's a song? I didn't understand the song reference. But next chapter, 809. The Danger Amidst the Darkness. Bang. All right, let's keep reading, dude. Chapter 809. After we stalled for a little bit and we kind of gained our voice back. Oh, yeah, I lied. Let me drink a little bit of water. It's my HoloLive cup from when we were at Anime Expo. And we went to the Dodgers game. Reading a lot of chapters today, huh? Yeah, we're grinding through these chapters today. This is our 15th chapter. Chapter 809 is called The Danger Amidst the Darkness. Bang. The loudest gunshot reverberated in the space in the open rain as they extended outwards. If it was an ordinary island with an ordinary forest at night, it would have alarmed the birds and beasts, sending them scattering away. But here, everything remained quiet, so quiet that it didn't seem like any living creatures existed. As for the black curly-haired baboon, its head had burst open, splattering blood and brain matter everywhere like it was raining. The black crystal at its head shattered as well, with not a single piece remaining intact. But without tense music, just Klein lampooning calmly while he sees her. Better have a scene of Klein being tracked. Oh, username? Ah, that'd be pretty wild if they add that, dude. Oh shit, that'd be crazy. And then only we know it's Magoose, but for newcomers, I'd be like, who is that supposed to be? By approaching with traveling, the black crystal ball at its head shattered as well, with no single piece of remnant intact. Klein bent his arms and slowly retracted Death Note, which was still spewing out smoke. He watches as a group mutated curly-haired baboon stalked about stocky body, one more than the muscular than the humans, collapsed to the ground. By approaching with traveling, forcibly controlling with Wraith and seizing the opportunity to deal a lethal strike with Death Knell, it was an instant kill. Klein wasn't doing this to flaunt his strength, but via his observations. He believed that the mutated curly-haired baboon had unique powers. If he didn't quickly finish it off while it didn't understand anything about him, there was a very high chance that the situation would be reversed, making the battle rather tricky. Besides, on such a dangerous primitive island, it was imperative he avoided the situation from escalating, for no one knew what things could be lured by an intense battle. Therefore, after Klein possessed the mutated curly-haired baboon with a wraith, he gave up on the more reliable and more unnoticeable method of controlling the spirit body threats, because it took longer. Instead, he chose to cock the gun and use Death Knell to finish it off while it was stiff and slow as a result of the Wraith's influence. The effects were identical to his expectations, the possible accidents that could happen midway, whereas he imagined with the help of distortion and disorder, the mutated curly-haired baboon did possess the ability to extract itself from the unfavorable situations of the Wraith possession, and it would allow the bullet's trajectory to violate the laws of psyches and avoid its body. Unfortunately, its efforts had come to an abrupt stop before it could change its effects. Klein had seized the moment of sluggishness to decisively deliver the lethal strike. If he had switched to controlling the spirit body threats, the outcome might have been very different. It's worth it to suffer a weakness for it. Furthermore, there's a higher chance of me being needed to use Death Knell later, compared to realizing what I'm afraid of in a more dangerous environment. It's better to know the problem ahead of time and avoid a similar situation. That's the better option. Klein allowed his revolver to point downwards as he walked to the side of the mutated curly-haired baboon. At this moment, under the Wraith's control, the bionic characteristic of the bionic creature rapidly appeared. Alger held up the lantern as he watched the scene from a distance away. It took him nearly a minute to snap back to his senses. Frozen in his mind was ultimately the scene of the flare for German Sparrow's muzzle and the bursting head of the curly-haired baboon. The disorder they encountered in the beginning had made him understand the bionic creatures they had encountered was at a sequence higher than that of the illusionary chime tree. It was a relatively difficult creature to deal with, one that required sufficient caution during combat. Furthermore, there wasn't any guarantee of victory, yet Sparrow had finished the battle in 3 seconds. The speed at which it happened was as though it was engaged in target practice. Being a Sequence 5 Beyonder as well, the difference was unbelievable. Combining a short distance teleportation ability and a strange power that can control an enemy for a certain amount of time, along with the wait, hold on, I'm getting lost. Along with that astonishingly potent revolver, the effects are unimaginably terrifying. If I were to encounter it for the first time, I would have definitely been killed instantly, and even if I'm prepared, it wouldn't be an easy to resist it. The best solution is to use my singing to affect my surroundings indiscriminately. It will prevent Sparrow from successfully completing a teleportation, as expected of a crazy adventure with a bounty of 50,000 pounds. Even without Mr. Fool's help, just him alone isn't weaker than Admiral Hell. It's possible. Aura? Shit, dude. It's sick. It's so hype seeing Augur be like, shit, man. He's good, dude. It's possible that he's even stronger. While sighing poignantly, Augur reined in his thoughts as he considered how he could deal with the situation if he were in the curly-haired baboon's shoes. Compared to the descriptions from others at his own guesses, witnessing it himself was more convincing than shocking. Inside the corpse of the curly-haired baboon, where the shattered black crystals was a faint blob of light quickly appearing and converged together, turning it into a translucent pitch-black fist that was tightly clenching. Indifferently to other thoughts, it first produced a feeling of strength and sinisterness. The palms, lines, luster, and fingernails seemed to follow ordinary principles, but they were filled with abnormal charm. It seemed to hide large amounts of madness and disorder. Sequence 5, Mentor of Disorder from the Black Emperor Pathway. I wonder what weakness I receive. I hope it's not too odd, huh? I can use Death Knell as much as I want in the next 6 hours. As Klein muttered, he bent down to pick up the Beyonder characteristic and stored it in a prepared metal container. In fact, he could attempt to graze the curly-haired baboon and see if he could obtain the corresponding Beyonder powers of the Mentor of Disorder. Oh, he could probably graze him? You know what it's more hype than all your days? It's when the glazing is actually deserved. It is, dude. It is. Oh, you know what? That's true. Originally, Augur's like, oh, he's always glazing him. But yet now it's actually warranted, dude. Oh, man. It's so cool. I can use Death Knell as much as I want in the next... Wait. Inside the corpse of the curly-haired baboon, where the shattered black crystals, a faint blob of light quickly appeared and converged together, then turned into blue pitch black. Wait, I got lost. Indifferently to their thoughts, at first producing a feeling of strength and sinisterness, the palm lines, luster, and fingernails seemed to follow the ordinary principles, but they were filled with abnormal charms that seemed to hide large amounts of madness and disorder. Sequence 5, Mentor of Disorder from the Black Emperor Pathway. I wonder what weaknesses I received. I hope it's not too bad, huh? I can use Death Knell as much as I want in the next 6 hours. What if he's scared of monkeys or curly-haired baboons? This would be pretty bad timing if that's what it is. As Klein muttered, he bent down to pick up the Beyonder characteristic and stored it in the prepared metal container. In fact, he could attempt to graze the curly-haired baboon and see if he could obtain the corresponding Beyonder powers of a Mentor of Disorder, so as to swap away his gloves, barons of corruptions. But ultimately, he did give up on that idea since he wasn't sure what the Beyonder creature had done that made it deserve such torture. His encounter had been an encounter on the battlefield. Ensuring his enemy's death was nothing out of the ordinary, but grazing was an extremely excruciating pain that left his soul yearning for liberation. Klein had his own principles and stubbornness. He didn't easily violate them, so he often cautiously chose his targets. Of course, to him, creatures of lower intelligence were not the same as humans. Even if he attempted to graze it, it wasn't crossing the line. However, many of his past experiences told him that persisting to keep his principles and not relax the requirements for himself was not only a moral question, but something to prevent himself from losing control. I feel like it's more of a moral thing, but yes, also from losing control. He couldn't keep pushing the envelope just because he thought it was nothing. As the trivialities accumulated, it would eventually result in a terrible mistake. In this crazy and chaotic, mysterious world, actions aren't from others to see, but for myself. A person can fool humans and even deities, but they can't fool themselves. I wonder if high sequence Beyonders from the Spectator Pathway can fool themselves. At Klein's thoughts race, he took out Grizel's trowels that he hid near his chest, intending to smear the curly-haired baboon's blood over its cover. At this moment, his heart sensed up as his hair along his neck stood up. This was an intense premonition of danger, and in the premonition, no scene has surfaced in Klein's mind. Not good. Klein instantly found his heart wrapped in layers of shadows, as everything before his eyes seemed to be covered in layers of dark glass. Without the luxury of time to consider what was happening, the glove on his left palm turned transparent once again. His figure turned invisible before he appeared beside Augur, reaching out to grab his shoulders. At that instant, Augur also sensed the abnormality. His heart contracted and expanded like the source of a storm as his blood surged through his veins, and arteries like a tidal wave. Meanwhile, he saw Germansparrow's right hand, which was grabbed his shoulders. From his fingernails, it was turning gray and turning dull. Bit by bit, just like any stone that could be found anywhere in the dark forest, and his feet, knees, and muscles were turning stiff as though no longer belonging to him. The two figures quickly turned transparent as he vanished from their location and entered a saturated and clearly overlapped spur world as he quickly traversed in the direction of the ancient ruins. Suddenly, the red, green, black, and other stacked colors before Klein's eyes uniformly darkened as they produced fine patterns that resembled the raven's black hair. A chill rose down from the souls as Klein didn't hesitate to leave the spirit world and the hangman returned to the real world, and they landed in the area mixed with rubble and weeds. Now far away was a mostly collapsed building. Through the corners of his eyes, the hangman had already turned grayish white from his waist down, as though he had turned into stone sculpture. Paw. Klein snapped his fingers, igniting the grass tens of meters away in preparation to leap over. At that moment, he suddenly felt his heart palpitate as the body began to tremble voluntarily. The appearance of the soaring flames were terrifying to him. The weakness of Death Knell gave him was the fear of fire. Seeing the dark glass thicken before his eyes, Klein felt a howling wind. That's so funny, dude. And he has fire abilities. Klein felt a howling wind sweep up from him before he could overcome the fear, causing him and Olger to fly up, passing through the invisible border and entering the vicinity of the ancient ruins. Bang. The duo fell to the ground simultaneously, producing the sound of crashing rocks. The thick shadows over their hearts vanished as the danger that hid in the darkness receded like the tide. Klein heaved a sigh of relief as he saw the grayish-white color that had spread his elbows turn fade and recede. He felt his physical condition was rapidly recovering after he left the zone. His back was covered in a perspiration that soaked his shirt, and what he left him most horrified was that he didn't know what monster had attacked him or what powers were used. His weaknesses are always funny. Yeah, it's always bad timing, dude. Whatever he gets. I can just imagine when, like, oh, he's scared of... Maybe there'd be one where he's scared of blood, so he'd be scared of fight. Did Death Knell's gunshot alarm sudden monster in the vicinity, or is it the existence that rules over this forest at night? Thankfully, it doesn't dare to enter the vicinity of the ancient ruins. This isn't necessarily good, nor this means that the deep in the ancient ruins is something that makes it fearful. I should be prepared to retreat at any moment. Klein stretched his hands and slowly stood up. At this moment, Olger escaped from the grayish-white layers. They turned to head to glance over. That zone was petrifying us. That zone, petrification. Klein nodded in thought as he walked towards the mostly collapsed building that was strewed with weeds and covered in vines. He then replied in a deep tone, "The problem now lies ahead." Olger didn't speak further as he sped up his pace, steadily walking by his side. After approaching, Klein looked at the building. His gaze swept the spires at stone columns, as well as the damaged walls that remained standing. He stopped and asked seemingly casually, "What kind of building do you think this room was in the past?" Olger remained silent for a few seconds before saying, "Cathedral." It was a cathedral? Oh, I was about... Literally, the title of the chapter was my next question. Whose cathedral? All right, chapter 810. Whose cathedral? We're going to lay back for this one. I'm going to read slow. Whose cathedral? Chapter 810. A cathedral. We came to the same judgment. Klein looked at the ruin ahead of him as he silently muttered to himself. At that moment, a tiny amount of crimson moonlight that penetrated the mist had scattered onto the collapsed building. Compared to the before, it was a lot richer in color, almost approaching the color of blood. Klein maintained Germansparrow's trademark cold attitude as he said in an unperturbed manner, "Where did you previously explore?" As he spoke, Klein glanced at the lantern in the hanged man's hand, which remained unshattered despite all the ordeals. He subconsciously tensed up his muscles and skin when he saw the glow from the flame. Although the flame was ultimately contained by the thick glass and metal frames, it still left him a little afraid. Olger didn't notice the minute change in Germansparrow as he raised his dagger, wielding right hand, and pointed at the grandest building amidst the ruin. There, all that was left of the building was its main structure. It was impossible to know what it originally looked like. The one thing that could only be determined were that it had thick walls with narrow windows, and the building's scales and its magnificence. Furthermore, it once had a spire and clock tower. Bit louder. I got you. Clock tower. It had a Spartan facade and an ancient architecture. How's this? Go like a little bit more. This is the architectural style from the early 4th epoch. There are records of these in the Church of the Storm's canons. It's said that in the period, the various churches used such styles to build their cathedral in a widespread fashion. Olger had a deep impression on the ruin. Over the years, he had flipped through many books and had acquired quite a bit of background. Its greatest trait
Its greatest trait is that temple found above, the catacombs found below. Life and death were both unified here. However, I cannot confirm that the ancient cathedral interior is as I described, as I've never ventured deep into it. This might be an architectural style left behind by the third epoch. Klein made a guess as he walked straight to the opening of the ancient cathedral ruins, a normally huge door. By keeping the lantern behind him, enjoying only the light emitted from it, he didn't need to suffer from his fear of fire. The duo quickly moved up the grayish-white stair as that were ridiculously high. As they arrived at the door opening inside they saw the remnant of the stone columns and the arches that extended upwards towards the center. Klein wasn't in a rush to enter. He reached his left hand into his pocket and took out a gold coin as he allowed it to weave between his fingers while seemingly muttered something. Suddenly, he flipped the gold coin and opened his palm to wait its descent while saying to the hangman, "How did you determine that deep in this cathedral is something of value that is no less than that of the cards of blasphemy?" After he said that, he looked at the gold coin that had fallen into the palm before putting it away. Alger pointed inside and said, "I've said it before that my strength was inferior to Quillingus, and I didn't go as deep as he did. I had no idea what he saw." What are we going to see, dude? Other than the judgment that there was something extremely precious and important inside from his remarks. Furthermore, it is something that only true Sequence 5 could have painted. However, the murals need the entrance and the marks of the ground might be able to explain something. Klein nodded and walked through the door opening at the crimson moonlight and was unable to illuminate it. The black trench coat he wore fluttered gently behind him as Alger held up a lantern and clenched his daggers while following behind. Passing through the opening, Klein used the crimson moonlight that shone in from the openings at the dome to see of the hall of the considerable depth up ahead. A few of the ancient stone columns supported it had already snapped. At the end wasn't an altar, nor were there any staircases that led upwards. It was only completely dark and difficult to tell the details. It appeared as though it led underground. Also, damn, 15 chapters in 3 hours. Very nice progress. I think this is a pretty good progress. Yeah. I think so too. I think we were able to lock in for a little bit. Let me get a little bit more cozy. It isn't a temple. Fuck, I dropped my thing. It's okay. It isn't a temple above. It isn't a temple above and a catacomb beneath. The temple is underground in the catacombs. It's impossible to determine that. We'll know only by venturing down. Klein subconsciously glanced around and discovered side doors along the two sides. But the regions they led to had already completely collapsed with no unusable path. The murals near the entrance and the marks on the ground, he recalled what the hanged man had just said, and he took 2 diagonal steps before releasing the invisible Wraith Centaur. With his night vision, he began observing the remnant murals. It was a really nice arc to look and prepare yourself to lock in and prepare yourself. Wow, I'm not wearing my glasses, so it's kind of hard to read chat from back here, but I can kind of vaguely read it. Oh wait, we're getting murals. Holy shit, something. Oh, we're gonna get some King of Angels shit, huh? The murals near the entrance and the marks on the ground, or it has to be something with Amon. No, we've got, it has to be Adam. Adam has to be the next person we get more info on. It's either Adam or it's going to be like another Kings of Angel shit that goes down. The murals near the entrance or something on the Evernight, because we found out Beware of the Red Moon. I'll be quiet. Just read and block in. Yeah, we'll just, let me just be quiet. The murals near the entrance and the marks on the ground, he recalled what the hangman had just said, and he took 2 diagonal steps before releasing the invisible Wraith Centaur. With his night vision, he began observing the remnant murals. The murals' background was of a towering and magnificent mountain, and at its peak was a gigantic cross that was covered in a lustrous glow, ancient sun god. In front of the cross were grand and abnormal figures that were clustered together. There were angels with 2 wings, 4 wings, or 6 wings. Klein did a cursory glance and felt a strong sense of familiarity. He had seen a similar mural before, back in the Blasphemy Ramon mausoleum. Okay. I think, no, there's no lag on my end. He had seen a similar mural before, back in the Blasphemy Ramon's mausoleum. Oh shit, I'm getting excited. When he focused again, Klein quickly noticed the difference. There weren't the 2 infant... When he focused again, Klein quickly noticed the difference. There weren't the 2 infants that represented Amon and Adam, nor were there any 12 winged angels. The grand figure in front of the cross held its arms to its chest as they held an ancient Spartan slate. The slate was drawn in extremely indistinct manner. Oh, uh-oh. Okay, I see lag on my end. 1 sec. Let me pause it and wait. All right, let's keep reading after technical difficulties. If it's bad, let me know again, then we'll pause and wait. When he focused again, Klein quickly noticed the difference. There weren't the 2 infants that represent... Oh, I almost disconnected my power cable.
There weren't the two. Oh, that would have been so bad. I would have been so mad if that happened. There weren't two infants that represent Amon and Adam, nor were there any of the 12 winged angels. The grand figure in front of the cross held its arms to its chest as it held an ancient Spartan slate. The slate was drawn in an extremely indistinct manner, yet it felt both ancient and young, holy and sinister. It was an extreme contradiction. Is it a blasphemy slate? Oh my god, it is a fucking blasphemy slate. Slate. Klein's pupils dilated slightly as a specific term flashed in his mind. It's a freaking blasphemy slate. Okay? Alright? This is likely the ancient sun god, the lord that created everything, which the city of silver worships. Indeed, the blasphemy slate is closely related to him. I wonder if this is the first blasphemy slate or the second. Klein roughly guessed at the cathedral's worshipping entity, and he also began to believe in the depths of the ruins hid items that were valuable and important. He withdrew Sinner's gaze and allowed the marionette to turn to face the ground. Apart from the slates being covered in cracks and some odd marks remaining, they were dark red in color, smaller than a human's forehead. They overlapped with one another at times and excluded all the way to the ends of the hall. At that instant, a scene naturally appeared in Klein's mind. Oh, bro gone. I'm telling you, the lore was so strong. We're literally lagging. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We're back in time and we literally disconnect again. Okay, we're back. Okay, we're just gonna finish this chapter and then we're gonna end stream and restart it. He withdrew Sender's and we'll also end the video and hopefully do another video. Sorry, bear with me right here, guys. I apologize. He withdrew Sender's gaze and allowed the marionette to turn to face the ground. Apart from the slates being covered in cracks and some odd marking remainings, they were dark red in color, smaller than a human's forehead. They overlapped with one another at times, and they extended all the way to the end of the hall. At that instant, a scene naturally appeared in Klein's mind. Devotee believers were prostrated on the ground as they proceeded forward, slamming their foreheads heavy onto the ground, after covering a certain distance, leaving blood oozing out. Noticing German Sparrow look around without any scrutiny, Olger probed the ancient sun god. At that moment, he felt the baffling sensation of a cold wind blowing from German Sparrow's side. He suspected that hidden around them were shadows of raves. Recalling the strange restraints and mutated curly-haired baboons was under, Olger made a vague theory that he didn't voice out. Upon hearing the hangman's question, Klein had wanted to chuckle and reply, "Oh, I think stream is back." Oh, I made it in time. Hello, Easy. What's up, Merlin? I think stream is back. Maybe. I'm not sure. Noticing German Sparrow look around with any scrutiny, I just read this. Well, I'm so lost because the whole thing is crashing. I don't know where we're at. Recalling the strange restraints and mutated curly-haired baboons was under, Olger made a vague theory about that he didn't voice out. Upon hearing that the hangman's question, Klein had wanted to chuckle and reply, "You can call him the Lord that created everything, the omnipotent and omniscient God." But he felt that such a tone and choice of words was closer to that of the fool and not German Sparrow. Hence, he held himself back and nodded slightly. "It's not hard to tell." Olger suddenly heaved a sigh of relief as he held a sense of anticipation from the item buried deep underneath the cathedral. The two simultaneously decided to walk towards the end of the hall. When they approached it, Klein finally saw the staircase that led downwards, an underground area. He asked succinctly. Olger shook his head. "I can't be sure. I've never gone down." Although Quillingus had attempted... Oh, stream stabilized. We're back. Everything's good now. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so we're back, right? We're all good? "I can't be sure. I've never gone down." Although Quillingus had attempted to venture in, he returned in less than 10 minutes with his aura beckoning relatively weak. Klein nodded thoughtfully and said in passing, "You seem to be very familiar with him." If it were said by anyone else, Olger would have pretended to have not heard it or answered directly, but deep in his heart, the world German Sparrow was Mr. Fool's blessed. His question could possibly represent the intentions of that existence, so he needed to view them seriously. After deliberating for a few seconds, Olger said in a deep voice, "We were fellow townsmen and we were servants at the same cathedral." What? The priest there was an easily irritated person who enjoyed punishing the servants. Quillingus couldn't bear it and escaped secretly to become a pirate. Whoa, what? We're getting his past? Peak lore drop, please. All right, we're gonna keep reading then. Oh wait, dude, no shot. What? The priest there was an easily irritated person who enjoyed punishing the servants. Quillingus couldn't bear it and escaped secretly to become a pirate. That's why he became a pirate.
So there was such a past. Mr. Hangman is also a man with a story. It's so cool, dude. Klein didn't probe deeper as he headed down the staircase in extremely sunny cathedral ruins. Although his footsteps were extremely light, they still didn't sound obvious in such an environment as they echoed. Soon the two of them came to the end of the staircase as they saw the opening of an arched door. On both sides of the opening were two shadows that stood there silently in an immature fashion. Klein and Augur halted at the same time as they looked at the two shadows, only to discover that they were two stone statues. They were both men, with their surface being grayish-white. One of them wore full-body armor that resembled a barrel, and the other wore a jacket that looked more contemporary. Their expressions were withering in pain as their eyes protruded, as though they were glaring at something. Upon seeing this scene, Klein realized something as recalled the encounter outside. Augur lore drop indeed. I didn't think we were getting Augur lore drop this chapter, dude. He and Augur had shown signs of petrification, and it was thankful to that extracted themselves of the effects, or they might have already become such. Wait, how did they avoid it? He and Augur had also shown signs of petrification, and it was thankful that they extracted themselves of the effects. Got it. Or they might have had really become statues. Don't tell me they're humans who... Oh, the statues. Don't tell me they're humans who met with the same situation. If we had been petrified, would we be moved down here, standing guard at this door, opening for centuries or even millennia? The source of that petrifying power isn't afraid of these ruins. Klein felt explicable horror as his scalp tingled. He controlled his emotions and turned his head to look at the hangman. He discovered that the pupils of the boorish man at sea had similarly dilated and was clutching the dagger tightly. Mr. Hangman had come to the same conclusion without me needing to speak further. Klein pointed at the door, opening, and said, "There might even be more stone statues inside." Augur nodded as he said wordily and jokingly, "Let's hope we don't see ourselves. If we're convinced that we have escaped the effects of petrification only to see our statues in the underground area, that would be quite the horror story." Klein thought for a few seconds and said to the hangman, "Do you have night vision?" His true meaning was that the light of the lantern was especially eye-catching in the dark catacombs, and they might easily cause unwanted developments. Therefore, shit, it lagged again. We're back. I apologize for that. Don't tell me that these... Oh, I read this part. If we're convinced that we had escaped the effects of petrification only to see our statues underground, or there'd be quite a horror story. Klein thought for 2 seconds and said to Mr. Hammond, "Do you have night vision?" Yeah, sorry. This is the worst time to have technical difficulties, dude. His true meaning was that the light of the lantern were... Thank you for following, dude. Thank you, man. Thank you, guys. His true meaning was that the light of the lantern was especially eye-catching in the dark catacombs, and that it might easily cause unwanted developments. Therefore, it was best to extinguish the flame if he had night vision, and he believed that Mr. Hangman was able to read in between the lines. Augur replied frankly, yes. As a beyonder of the sailor pathway who could dive, it was a given that he had night vision. Klein glanced at him without a word, but his meaning was obvious. Then why are you still using a lantern? Augur seriously replied, firstly, it's to misdirect the enemy into instinctively believing that I don't have night vision because of my use of a lantern. Okay, that's smart. When they destroyed my lantern and tried hard to create a dark environment, I'll give them a pleasant surprise. That is so smart. How sinister. Klein was momentarily lost for words. I'll continue. Secondly, it is to avoid situations similar to the City of Silver. There might be extreme danger lurking within complete darkness. Makes sense. Klein didn't insist that Augur extinguish the lantern as he first stepped past the two stone statues. Under their pain-frozen gazes, he stepped into the entrance that led underground. As he didn't know what the petrified statues represented, nor did he know if they were completely dead, Klein didn't attempt to shatter them to obtain their beyond characteristics and mystical items. Damn. Next. Okay, something crazy is about to go down. The picture in the catacombs, if we've gotten them on, next is Adam. And if it's not them, we're going to get like some crazy lore drop on like the ancient sun god. Or like his kinsman. All right, here we go, bro. You guys ready? 811. The picture in the catacombs. I'm ready. Are you guys ready? All right, yo, you guys gotta chill, man. You guys are kind of hyping me up a little bit for this chapter. The picture in the catacombs. All right, you guys are like, yo, who got the picture ready? All right, send it on Discord and we'll look at it right now when we're done. After passing through the door opening and going underground, there wasn't a silver sliver. Everything's updated? Yes. I lost my place. Let me just reread it. After passing through the door, opening and going underground, there wasn't a. Oh, I wasn't even done with the first line. There wasn't a silver of natural light in front of Klein and Olger. The ceiling was intact, preventing any crimson moonlight from seeping in after penetrating the mist. Olger raised the lantern in his hand, lighting up the area up ahead and with a limited dim yellow glow. Klein took a glance and discovered at least 6 stone statues of both sexes. They were entirely grayish white color, and it has to be the Orthodox gods, right? The 6 Orthodox gods that had the statues. They were entirely grayish white in color, and even their clothes looked. Now, why are they also here? And even their clothes looked like they were engraved. These stone statues included elves, giants, and humans that had ancient dress senses. Apart from the frozen expressions of pain and despair, there wasn't anything similar. Klein felt a chill down his back when he saw their eyeballs watching him without moving. Ah, that's so gross. Having made the connection that they were once alive. Oh, they were petrified. They felt the darkness ruled the depths of this passageway, as though a terrifying monster had widened its mouth as it lay in wait for 2 to walk into its belly. Okay, here we go. What are we going to fight? Reining in the stirring emotions, Klein and Olger remained silent as they passed through the grayish-white statues with warped expressions, and they proceeded forward. After walking for more than 10 seconds, Klein did need to use Sonor's night vision to see the damaged and dark mural thanks to the lantern. There were a few murals that were relatively intact, allowing them to recognize what was being depicted. They were no doubt focused on the cross that glowed at the grand figure that stood before him. This blurry and solemn figure either faced cities that have been flooded, stepped up the fractured lands, or looked up at the cosmos where it locked eyes with a pair of evil and maniacal eyes. When the apocalypse happens, the ancient sun god will rescue the world. This is somewhat similar to the murals that little sun and the others found in the true creator's temple, or perhaps it's just plagiarism from both sides. Okay, no more lag, no more laying back. I know I'm leaning forward now, dude. I'm good. I'm wide awake. With no one giving up work towards the goal, after all, it's to empathize that they were once the Messiah and a deity worthy of one's faith. Klein quickly swept his gaze across the wall as he slowly entered the depths of the passageway. Olger was also observing the damaged murals when he suddenly suppressed his voice and said, I suspect that the true fallen creator's description of himself was referencing to some of the content here. Art has been sent. We'll look at it right now. Indeed, everyone has the same views. Klein lowered Death Note and chuckled. I won't be surprised if we see matters related to the true creator up ahead. That might be a particular connection between him and the creator that the city of Silver believe in. Olger agreed with Germanspro's judgment. The duel continued ahead as they tried hard to soften their steps. However, there were still some echoes that reverberated in an extremely silent environment. At this moment, Klein's spiritual perception was triggered. He immediately took 2 steps forward and put himself in front of Olger, blocking out most of the lantern lights. Less than 2 seconds later, he heard a dull sound emitting from afar. Thump, thump, thump. The ground shook gently and the sounds became clear. Then Klein saw a figure nearly 4 meters tall walk out. It was also a grayish white in color with armor. Wait. Let me reread this part. I'm reading too quickly. Hold up. The ground shook gently as the sounds became clear. Then Klein saw a figure nearly 4 meters, 16 feet. 16 feet in freedom mutants, correct? Then Klein saw a figure nearly 16 feet tall walk out. It was also grayish white in color with armor plating patterns engraving on its body. Its head had goat horns and a mouth that resembled a hound's. Its half-open mouth revealing snarling fangs. And what attracted attention the most were its pair of eyes, which burned red, and the 6 pair of white membrane wings. An angel? Is it a grounded angel? Thump, thump, thump. The monster held an 8-meter long... Fuck is 8 meter? 24 feet? The monster held an 8-meter long stone trident as it slowly entered a passageway? What the fuck? How is that description of angel? Well, the wings, like, I know it doesn't look like a wing, but I'm like, hold up, the wings made me think. Did it not say wings? Membraned wings. Oh no, bat wings. Membraned wings. Not. Okay, hold up. Membrane wings is not like angelic wings. Got it. Membraned wings. Thump, thump, thump. Membrane wings, so like bats. I did not know that. Okay, membrane wings are bats. Got it. Definitely not an angel. The monster held an 8-meter long stone trident as it slowly entered the passageway. It shook the land with every step as its great weight was spread out. Along Klein had seen it before. He instantly recognized what it was. It was a 6-winged gargoyle. Its core crystal was one of the main ingredients of marionettes. What? Okay, we can probably kill one and then keep it for later. I don't know. We might need it for something. Its core crystal was one of the main ingredients of marionettes, and the beyond powers it possesses were extremely special and indefensible. Based on its external build and from what it's made of, it definitely has external potent combat strength while not being afraid of most damage. I wonder if we can make that our marionette. All it needs to cause terrifying damage is to storm over and perform a downward smash with its storm trident. Klein relaxed his left hand and wasn't in a rush to react. He and Olga remained in the spot of using his body and others using his clothes to conceal the lantern's light. All right, let's continue. Based on this, I read this. Klein relaxed as his left hand and wasn't in a rush to react. Wait, muted? No, we're unmuted now, right? We're good? Let me reread this part then, just since we had a pause. Based on its external build and from what it's made of, definitely has extremely potent combat strength while not being afraid of most damage. All it needs to cause terrifying damage is to storm over and perform a downward smash with its stone trident. Klein relaxed his left hand and wasn't in a rush to react. He and Olga remained on the spot on using his body and the others using his clothes to conceal the lantern's light. Thump, thump, thump. The six-winged Okay, we're good? All right, awesome. The six-winged gargoyle didn't look towards the duo and instead passed through the passageway. Footsteps slowly distanced themselves from them. All right, this is getting good, dude. Indeed, it's not very perceptive. It's no wonder Quillingus was able to venture deep down and return safely. Klein proceeded forward again when the stops were undetectable and he went past the crossroads. In fact, with his current strength and gear and his understanding of his target, killing a six-winged gargoyle wasn't something too dangerous. Really? Furthermore, the hangman could provide him with help, but the reason why he gave up attacking it was because he had no idea how many six-winged gargoyles there were in the catacombs. Once a battle ensued and large commotion could result in them swarming over. Oh, there might be several. When that happened, they could only escape using traveling. In addition, if they were to stir the existence in the ruins that even nearby Beyonder creatures were afraid of, the problem would only worsen. Curbing one's... I thought I said curbing's one enthusiasm. I was like, if you understand that, like, I understood that reference. Curbing's one greed was a premise for a risky exploration. Olga was also rather pleasant at the crazy adventure's calm and rational actions. His suspicion was that German Sparrow was under the orders of Mr. Full, thus resisting his urge to attack the six-winged gargoyle. The calmer he appears, the crazier he will be when he encounters his true target. As this thought flashed in Auger's mind, he followed Germansborough straight down the crossroads. The murals on both sides remained damaged, and they were still describing the greatness and holiness of the ancient sun god. Finally, Klein and Auger arrived at the ends of the passageway. Here, there was an 8-meter tall stone double door. It depicted various symbols of deaths, sleep, and new birth and beginnings. A tomb. His tomb? A tomb. Klein turned to say to Auger. Auger nodded and said it might also be a temple. Clearly, he was also wondering if it was both a temple and a tomb. The grayish-white stone door... Oh, shit. It probably is something... Because Amon's door was like a black door. So I was like, oh, maybe there's going to be a white door later. The grayish-white stone door before the duo wasn't shut completely. It was cracked open with a tiny gap that allowed a child passage. Auger glanced at... If Will can be reborn as a baby, who's to say, like, the ancient sun god can be reborn and be like a child, and he was able to escape? Auger glanced at the floor and walked... maybe that doesn't make sense. Putting the lantern down and securing his dagger, he pressed his hands onto one side of the door. He slowly drew a breath as he bent his knees, his arm muscles swelling suddenly. Suddenly, the gap widened significantly. Klein picked up his brows when he saw the scene, feeling somewhat astonished because the hangman's pushing of the doors didn't produce any sound at all. He didn't doubt an ocean songster's strength, but he didn't believe that it could prevent the stone door from making contact with the ground. As he moved his gaze down, Klein saw a pool of slightly sticky liquid gathering under the door. He quietly produced a lubricant effect. Mr. Hangman is very meticulous. Is this the power of a seafarer or an ocean songster? He probably also used the powers of a wind blast to control an air cushion, thus resulting in the door silently opening. Oh, that's why you can't hear it. Klein roughly figured out the reason. Although he approached the stone door, he wasn't eager to enter it. Through the widening gap, he observed the scene inside. Reflected in the eyes of the wraith was a corner of the room where there was a row of grayish-white stone coffins. Wait, there's more than one? Row of grayish-white stone coffins. It is indeed a catacomb. As for whether it's also temple, it's an unknown for now. As Klein thought, he took out layman's travels with his left hand. On it was the Beyonder powers that were suitable to handle the matters related to death domain. Meanwhile, he used a silver dagger to quickly create a wall of spirituality and steal the iron cigar case to prevent Azik's copper whistle from causing the dead to rise from the graves. Smart choice. Olger also drew his dagger again and placed his left palm over it before sliding his palm outwards. Amidst the light crackling sounds, the dagger swirled with silver bolts of lightning that snaked outwards. Having made this preparations, Klein, who was acting as a crazy adventure German Sparrow, was the first to pass through the door and into the tomb. Of course, Rafe Center had already acted as a scout by circling the tomb before he entered. To a marionettist, there was no need to take the risks on many matters once they had a marionette. The tomb ceiling was soaked with water droplets, a clear indication of humidity. The room was divided into 2 regions that each had 12 grayish white stone coffins. 12? Amon's tomb, or their sigil, was like a clock, split up into 12. So I'm seeing the number 12 repeat. That each had 12 grayish white coffins. In the middle was a circular region where there appeared to be a beautiful and complicated picture placed on the ground. Klein didn't approach it as he stopped Olger. Then he controlled Center to approach it as he quickly floated to the spot above the circular region. Admiral of Blood, Olger's facial muscles twitched. Although he had already guessed so, he couldn't stop his subconscious reactions when he saw it with his own eyes. What the fuck did he see? At this moment, Senor descended and was able to fully take in the scene in the central region. The picture had dark, dull colors, with the background being filled with blurry figures, and the foreground was a long table. On the table was a figure that table, okay. On the table was a figure that with a resplendent cross glowing from it, and surrounding the figure were three people shrouded in shadows. One was a handsome and a youthful, another solemn and bold, and the last looking wise with his white beard. The 3 pairs of eyes exuded an indescribable sense of evil, just like the actions of their owners. One of them had ripped off the figure's arm, stuffed it into their mouths, and nodded as blood was filling the mouth. Another held up a brain and sucked it at his juices. Ugh, it's gross. While the last had dug out a beating heart, chewing at it in a ravenous manner. Ugh. Ugh. In contrast to them, in the figure's chest was a long, wide crack. On his chest, it can be a god, right? In contrast to them, in the figure's chest was a long and wide crack, sitting cross-legging, and there was a dark and sinister infant who was masticating on the intestines that had fresh blood gushing down. What the fuck is this, dude? These 4 entities seemed to sense someone prying into their act as they looked up in unison, as though they were staring at any being that placed their eyes on the picture. What the fuck? The picture's reacting? Wait, these 4 entities seemed to sense someone prying into their act as they looked up. What? They looked up. Like, the ones in the picture on the ground looked up. Like, the things in the picture looked up. These 4 entities seemed to sense someone prying into their act as they looked up in unison, as though they were staring at any being that placed their eyes on the picture. What the fuck? Wait, is it? No, it's not the picture that's... Wait, let me look at what you guys sent. Hold up. Not the picture. No. No, the picture is captured when they looked up. Let me see what you guys sent. What? Okay, one sec. I can't show this on stream. This is gross, dude. What is this? What? So there's street. We showed it. Just show it easy. Let me show the one that's pretty good to see. Hold on. Give me a minute. Let me find a good one. Okay, this one is pretty good. Hold up. Fucking Doom. Hold up. I think this is the safest thing. I think this is the safest one we can show. This is crazy, dude. This shit straight up reminds me of Attack on Titan, when the king has the daughters eating the remains of Oh wait, hold up, spoilers. Sorry, I won't go into it. This straight up just gives me Attack on Titan vibes when the king has the kids eating the mom. Like, that's so to like consume her. Ymir. Shit, dude. What is this? Like, this is gross, dude. This is nasty. All right. Well, thank you to Nakiel? Do you realize who they are? No, I don't realize who these are. I mean, these are angels. Who is they? Like, so, okay, hold up. I assume the one on the bottom is like... Is this supposed to be like somebody being reborn? They don't watch the art reads ahead first. They don't watch the arts read ahead first. Wait, like, this is what I don't get. So is somebody dying and being reborn as the baby? But what I want to know is, why are they consuming him? That's what I want to know. Wait, hold up. Out loud. Why not try to reread the angel description? The next chapter has... Okay, so no, it's explained next chapter. Hold up. Before we just start rereading it, let's just do a live react before we go in depth onto what it is. Yeah, so let's read the next chapter, since the sense that they're going to be explaining it. But... Oh, wait. They're chopping off his head. What the fuck? Ugh, that is gross, dude. So, one angel's consuming his heart. The bearded angel's cutting the neck. The other angel is grabbing his arm. Is this supposed to... What is this referring to? Is this supposed to be like the true, the ancient sun god being reborn? Just like how, like, we know Will can be reborn, right? So is somebody being reborn? I think they're looking at Klein, but I can't say why. It'd be a spoiler. Okay, yeah, don't say why. Now, the thing that I find crazy, there have been so many mystical creatures that like look to Klein or are drawn to Klein. You know all of these, but you'll get confirmation. You know all of those, but you'll get confirmation next chapter. All right, let's read next chapter. Let me fix up my scene, by the way. One sec. All right, chapter 812. Let's see what this explanation is. Myth from another perspective. Upon clearly seeing the picture, also 3 of RI Mon were released. Oh, chapter 3. You know what? After this, we'll read it. I'll read the first 3 chapters, username. Good. Hey, thank you for reminding me. Yeah, after this, we'll read the Reverend Insanity Monwood remake. Chapter 812 is called Myth from Another Perspective. Upon clearly seeing the picture through Sinner's vision, Klein's heart raced so loudly that even he could hear it. As a seer who was good at interpreting revelations and symbolism, he felt his blood gush to his head, leaving his head swelling. It seems to prevent him from engaging and thinking deeper into it. Even so, there was an ethereal voice belonging to him that resounded in his mind. It was filled with alarm. That figure that dismembered and eaten likely represents the ancient sun god. Wait. That figure that's dismembered, that's what I said. That's eaten. I did say that. It's likely represents the ancient sun god, and maybe the baby is him being reborn. It's Klein. Oh, shit. Klein is the baby in the picture. And that's why they're all looking at him. Oh. Maybe? No? Original Klein. And original Klein just never knew it? And original Klein knew... No, you know, I'll be quiet. Let's keep reading. Hold up. It was filled with alarm. That figure that dismembered and eaten likely represents the ancient sun god, the Lord that created everything. Bro's cooking, but it's like there are so many entities that look at Klein. Maybe it's just because of the gray fog. Yeah. But read next chapter. Let's just keep reading. That figure that dismembered and eaten likely represents the ancient sun god, the Lord that created everything, the omnipotent and omniscient God, which the City of Silver believes in. And I've seen the 3 evil figures surrounding him before. And the underground ruin in Backlund, the place that sealed a terrifying evil spirit, they existed in the form of statues that didn't look as evil as the picture depicted them to be. They each respectively represent... Oh! The God of Knowledge, the guy was the one with the beard, right? The God of Knowledge had the beard, and he had like that weird sinister laugh. Ah, okay. Wait, the Orthodox gods devoured the ancient sun god? Okay. They existed in the form of a statue but didn't look as evil as the picture depicted them to be. They each respectively represent the eternal blazing sun, the Lord of Storms, and the God of Knowledge and Wisdom. What? Suddenly, Klein recalled the name he had once received. Once he had directly received when looking straight at the eternal blazing sun. White Angel? Well, I don't remember this. Suddenly, Klein... That was like volume 1. Suddenly, Klein recalled the name he had once received. One that he had directly received when looking straight at the eternal blazing sun.
White angel. So white angel is the baby? No way. Could it be the eternal blazing sun was once... Whoa. Could it be that the eternal blazing sun was once an angel by the ancient sun god's side? Whoa, let me read this again. I gotta slow it down. No way. Could it be that the eternal blazing sun was once an angel by the ancient sun god's side? Little Sun once mentioned that they had heard an, oh my god, ecclesiastic penitence and prophecy of a matter in afternoon town. One of the sentences was, the kings often came to the palace belonging to the dusk to conspire, one of the 8 angels. The eternal blazing sun was originally named White Angel. So the eternal blazing sun was originally one of the 8 kings of angels, which is also the king of angels, one that betrayed the creator. And he and the lords of storms and the god, he had the 8 king of angels, and he and the lord of storms and the god of knowledge and wisdom and the dark infant, who I have no idea what it represents, had benefited the most out of consuming the city of silver's creator. The Bibles of the various churches mention that the 3 of the most ancient deities were born of the original creator spirit. And since it's actually hinting at this dark history, I'm sorry, it was revealed that they were the 3 oldest gods, right? I guess it makes sense that the 3 of them are the one devouring him. If my theories are correct, Klein, your theories are better than anything I can think of. If my theories are correct, then the Lord of Storms and God of Knowledge and Wisdom, who are likely the King of Angels that serve the Creator, the ancient sun god of the City of Silver worships, perhaps they should be addressed as winged angels and wisdom angel. I think the infinite represents the true Creator. Is that what it represents? This way, all 8 kings of angels are accounted for. Dark angel, white angel, wind angel, wisdom angel, angel of imagination, angel of time, angel of fate, and red angel. From what Little Sun heard and from the subsequent developments of these kings of angels, it seems that apart from the 2 sons of gods, Ammon and Adam, and the other kings of angels had betrayed the creator. Why did they betray him? Had betrayed the creator. No way this ancient sun god ended up way too tragic. However, this picture might not be real. It might be sacrilegious. It's still suspect. I wonder who the dark infant sitting in the ancient sun... Okay, we don't know who this part is yet. Ascend, hold up. We don't know who this is yet. I wonder who the dark infant sitting in the ancient sun god's abdomen represents. It feels like the true creator is the greatest suspect. Klein instantly thought of many matters as he felt the urge to leave and pretend that he hadn't seen the picture, the deeper he pondered over the matter. At that instant, he felt irresistible the sense of fear, to the point of feeling the eternal blazing sun, the Lord of Storms, and the God of Knowledge, and the Wisdom were castrating their gaze down on the astral world in his imagination. Who left this picture behind? Who could have known so many secrets and clearly be on the ancient sun god's side? One of the other angels of saints that have been constantly following the City of Silver creators will with enduring faith. Klein's back oozed with sweat as his body trembled slightly. Although Olger's observations ability were inferior to Miss Magician, he had experienced beyonders in this environment that needed a high sense of vigilance and the awareness. It wasn't difficult for him to notice that something odd had happened to Sparrow. What happened? He asked with a suppressed tone. Klein suddenly snapped to his senses as he made Center move his gaze away as he pointed the circular region in his mind. You'll know just by looking. A picture that can make German tremble will it make me lose control immediately. It's probably not a problem since he's not stopping me, but suggesting that I take a look. However, I cannot eliminate the possibility that he has already lost his reasoning and is just acting normal. Nane's thoughts flashed through Olger's mind, but ultimately he steadily walked towards the central region with a lantern in hand. After about 8 steps, he saw the gloomy picture. In just 3 seconds, Olger's hands trembled with a dagger and lantern in his grip. It was as though he was suffering from some kind of mental illness. Thanks to the world German Sparrow, he had once seen the 6 Orthodox deities, anthropomorphic statues, in a Tyrant club. He naturally recognized that the arm-eating, the heart-ripping, and brain-guzzling fingers were respectively the Lord of Storms, eternal blazing sun, and the God of Knowledge and Wisdom. In the past, he had committed a disloyal act to the church whilst under Quillingus Coration. He joined the Terror Club and distanced himself from the chasm of the storms, believing that Mr. Fool and wished to gain more strength and power, and he leaked the church's intel and was unmotivated in certain matters. Even so, he ultimately believed himself to be a believer of the Lord of Storms, albeit someone who wasn't devout and passionate enough. But at that moment, he felt deep down in his heart that he had committed a grave sin of sacrilegious.
He never dug out his eyes in horror. To not kill myself directly, it means that I really have to become a false believer. Augur didn't dare take another look as he turned around and looked at German Sparrow. With a trembling voice, he asked, "Those three are the kings of angels?" Damn, they're fucking smart. "I can't give you confirmation. All I can say is that the eternal blazing sun is intimately connected to the white angel," Klein vaguely answered. Let me read this. "I cannot give you confirmation. All I can say is that the eternal blazing sun is intimately connected to the white angel," Klein vaguely answered. As expected, Olga immediately felt that the possibility that the lords of storms, the eternal blazing sun, and the gods of knowledge and wisdom were once kings of angels. What the fuck? As for German Sparrow not being able to confirm the situation, he wasn't too surprised. It wasn't odd since he was only a blessed and not Mr. Full. Olga was just about to say something when he heard a sharp screech. It was as though someone was using their fingernails to scratch the lid of a stone coffin. Is someone in the coffin reacting? What the fuck? Klein is lying. He can confirm it. He's like, Klein is like, "I can neither confirm nor deny." Wait. Aldrich was just about to say something when he heard a sharp screech. It was as though he heard something was using their fingernails to scratch the lid of a stone coffin. No, it wasn't an analogy. It was an analogy. And it was exactly what was happening. Screeching, rip, sizzle, sharp, jaggering sounds and scratching sounds from the three stone coffins on both sides. Then the heavy lids were either flung open or blasted open as three warped fingers stood up. One of them was an ancient white robe that was nearly turned gray. Its face was riddled with pock marks, and across its neck, forehead, and the back of its hands were deep eyes. Hell nah. Beside it was a figure with huge palms and thick... It's like fucking salad fingers, dude. Beside it was a figure with huge palms and thick fingers that looked as though they were made of wood. Slathered around its body was a layer of yellow-green pus as mitts, and the same color emanated out of it, seemingly capable of eroding away the stone coffin. Opposite the two was a figure in a tattered brown jacket with a triangular hat with a skull on it. Many parts of its skin had rotted away and revealed the bone beneath. Under its clothes and pants, thick and slimy tentacles had fish scales embedded inside, had burrowed out as it released a domineering, savage, tyrannous, and terrifying aura. This even made Klein feel as though he was facing a high squint beyond it from the storm pathway. However, its body didn't appear to reach that level. Oh god. He's farting. The three deceased bodies that crawled out of the coffin cast their eyes in the direction of German Sparrow and Olger. One produced silver bolts of lightning that cracked another, reflecting the duo's figures and the countless eyes it had. The last one spread its yellow-green mist and created brown vines. At the same time, they stormed over with loud and hurried footsteps as a six-winged gargoyle rushed over. Upon seeing this, Klein didn't panic. His layman travels wielding left hand reached into his pocket, tore open the wall of spirituality, and used his two fingers to pick out a Zig's copper whistle. Right on the heels of that... Wait, hold up. This is a fight. Hold up. Wait, let me read from right here. Right on the heels of that, he flicked his wrist and threw out... Go back to the song after the fight? Bet. Yeah, we'll go back to it after the fight. Upon seeing the scene, Olger's gaze froze before he made a decision. He threw his lantern and rushed for the door. His experience told him that while German Sparrow could deal with the three terrifying deceased, he needs to hold back the six-winged gargoyle to prevent it from interfering with the crazy adventurer barrel. Bang. Just as Oliver arrived at the door, he saw the double door crack. A six-winged gargoyle was charging in it with an 8-meter-long trident. He immediately drew a gasp as his eyes burned with rage. His muscles swelled, and under the aid of the wind, he charged forward and brandished the dagger that swirled with the silver lightning. Bang, he dodged the stone trident that smashed downwards as he cleaved at the gargoyle's abdomen with a dagger. Instantly, sparks flew as rubbed sprayed everywhere. Olger flew backwards as the gargoyles charged with disrupted bang. Olger heavily slammed into the ground, and he had created an air cushion in time. He didn't suffer any serious injuries. And at this moment, the three deceased bodies had gathered together in a vie for a Zig's copper whistle. Klein looked at them, calmly flipped into Lam's travels to a charred yellow page with complicated patterns and symbols. The lightning strike? This was the demigod level power that he recently recorded, Lightning Storm. Then Klein slid one finger across the note page with his death knell wielding hand. Oh! At the same time, he looked at the three mutated deceased bodies who were vying for a Zig's copper whistle. With a deep voice, he greeted them bye-bye. Ah, so badass, dude. Amidst the sizzling sounds, bolt of lightning burst forth, meshing together to form a hurricane enveloping the region where Zig's copper whistle was. As well as the three deceased bodies, the entire doom was instantly lit up with its daytime. Even Olger nearly failed to open his eyes. His body instinctively trembled as a result of the terrifying aura. With the aid of the wind, he leaped up with a hurricane taking form in his eyes. He once again charged the six-winged gargoyle that attempted to attack German Sparrow. Next chapter, dude. All right, chapter 813, Tyrant. Aside from the sailor pathway, good luck, Merlin. Yeah, good luck, dude. Don't worry, the VOD will always be up. Aside from the sailor pathway ranging below, Olger knew that he didn't have any powers that were adept against the six-winged gargoyle's strong body due to its immunity to lightning strikes. Of course, directly creating a resonance with its hearing, organs, and body of heart and mind through the use of his singing was the most effective method. If this encounter had been anywhere else, Olger definitely would have exploded. The gargoyle's great weight and lack of agility to circle around. Then, as he sang to affect it, he would attack the same spot with sharp wind blades, slowly grinding away at his enemy through the cumulative damage over time. But now he was in the catacombs, and due to the environment's limitations, an axe of directly avoiding it would only cause the gargoyle to turn its gaze to German Sparrow. It would then attack the crazy adventurer with its 8-meter-long trident, preventing him from seizing the opportunity to finish off the three deceased bodies. And most important of all, Olger suspected that his singing will have more adverse effects on German Sparrow than the white gargoyle was capable of. Bang. The stone trident crashed heavily into the ground, blasting open an exaggerated crater. It left the catacombs shaking as if an earthquake happened. As for Olger, he didn't attempt to parry it. With the help of the strong winds, he dodged to the right and soared up, agilely dodging the gargoyle's attacks as he dashed for the monsters ahead. At that moment, he saw a grayish-white eyes which burned with flames. Olger's mind turned sluggish and his body instantly stiffened. What the fuck? It's like the puppet ability. He had the feeling of being petrified again, but this skin didn't show any signs of spreading grayish-white colors. Thanks to inertia, he continued soaring upwards, but he wasn't able to brandish his dagger. He slammed straight into the gargoyle's head before loudly being repelled backwards, his body aching in pain. The heavy grayish-white trident reflected in his eyes again as his thoughts were sluggish, making it impossible for him to put up any effective resistance. Suddenly, a hand grabbed him by the shoulder and pulled him to the side. Bang. Rubble flew as sparks were produced. The gargoyle's heavy trident blasted open a huge crater again. Olger's body trembled as his vision regained its clarity while his thoughts were rapidly restored back to normal. He was likely someone who woke up from the irresistible nightmare which he was hoping against as he regained control over his body. Only then did he realize that German Sparrow had appeared by his side. There were still remnant flashes of lightning and sizzling sounds in the corner where the three deceased bodies were. Do not lock gazes with it. Attack its chest. As Klein pulled Olger away quickly in a bid to dodge the stone trident, he successfully advised his companion. Olger had personally experienced and witnessed many battles, so without further explanation for German Sparrow, he knew what the latter meant. He stopped receiving an aid as he nimbly circled the gargoyle's flank. Yo, what's up, dude? Tap, tap, tap. He ran towards the gargoyle and waited for the stone trident to sweep over him before soaring high up with the help of the strong gales to dodge the attack. Whoosh. Another hurricane pushed Olger towards the gargoyle's chest. During this process, he closed his eyes, pulled back his right arm, and bulged his muscles. Then, with his ability to judge the distances at a seafarer, he threw out his dagger-wielding right fist. Damn. Howling wind blades and sizzling lightnings were emitted along with his first bang. Olger's right fist heavily struck the gargoyle's chest, producing an explosive effect. It caused gargoyle stone to be covered in fine cracks as silver lightning snaked around. Following that, the cracks widened the depressed into a pit. With a cracking sound, his dagger exploded, turning it into countless fragments that scattered everywhere. The strong recoil sent Olger flying back in midair. He saw through the corner of his eyes that the hatred of German Sparrow had at some point in time circled to the front of the and cocked his revolver. Right on the heels of that, the cold adventurer suddenly raised his hand and aimed the black barrel right at the gargoyle. Bang. Amidst a loud echo, a bullet tore through the pit in the gargoyle's chest and pierced it. Following the explosive boom, the grayish-white stone monster convulsed a few times before the flames in its eyes were extinguished. After a brief pause, it collapsed like a mountain, producing an exaggerated sound and earthquake-like shaking. Death Knell had delivered a lethal blow, and at this moment, Olger had just maintained his balance and found his footings thanks to the wind. Yeah, I know it was 79 user. Wait, already here? Yeah, we've been reading for quite a bit today, dude. Death Knell had delivered a lethal attack, and at this moment, Olger had just maintained his balance and found his footings thanks to the wind. Klein didn't speak to him or searching for spoils of war. He immediately turned around and headed for the charred area where Zig's copper whistle sat silently. Slippery tentacles covered in fish scales moved to the deceased body with nearly half its body gone. Instead of bolts of lightning continued snaking around its body. It was domineering, savage, tyrannous, deceased body that tore a tattered brown jacket with triangular captain's hat. It was missing its left arm and right leg, as well as having half its head. Its body was covered in traces of charred and mottled flesh, but even so, it didn't sleep in peace. It was still attempting to fuse with the surrounding flesh and blood in order to obtain a stronger state. When he had to know that Klein had used Lightning Storm, which he had recorded from the Sea God Scepter, even if the act of recording had reduced its might, it was definitely the beyond powers at the demigod level. Just the fact that the other two deceased went silent without letting out a grunt was a testament of its might. This awkward deceased body is problematic. Klein's heart stirred as he made Senor leap onto the smooth surface of his Ix copper whistle before attempting to reflect onto the deceased fish scales on its slippery tentacle. At that moment, through the marionette, Klein sensed a tyrannical and high-level repulsive force. The Wraith was unable to possess it. Senor was even repelled as it couldn't help but lose his invisibility. Upon seeing this, Olger didn't question the situation. He raised his hands and created a spiraling wind around the deceased body, hoping to restrain its actions. However, the wind didn't sweep inwardly. This is such a cool fight, dude. However, the wind didn't sweep inwardly as though it was afraid of something. It was forcefully dissipating as it rapidly vanished. The only thing to be happy about was that the deceased body didn't immediately attack the duo. Instead, it jumped to the left, bent its back, and attempted to pick up a Zig's copper whistle. Klein immediately flicked his wrist and precisely flipped Layman's Travels to the page where the abyss shackles. I forgot he had that, dude. This was a beyond power which Emlyn had recorded, only belonging to a Sequence 7 vampire. As Klein scrolled I forgot, dude. Emlyn recorded his own abilities. As Klein, well, he only did like 5, right? As Klein swiped his Death Knell wielding right hand onto the notebook, the shadows around the deceased body suddenly came to life and manifested chains that shackled it firmly to the ground. Taking advantage of his opponent's brief pause, Klein raised his revolver in a deadpan manner. Different colors, red, green, and white, immediately appeared in his vision. Aiming at the white, Klein pulled the trigger. Bang. I assume that's a soft spot. A pale golden beam shot into the head of the deceased body, causing it to rupture immediately into a spray of blood. At the same time, the purifying bullet also emitted its sun-like radiance that illuminated the target's body. The deceased body melted like wax and it bent its waist and lost its balance, collapsing right beside a Zig's copper whistle. Monsters without any intelligence that only moved on instinct are much easier to deal with the beyonders of the same level. However, I am letting the copper whistle down. Ever since it was given to me, it has suffered explosions, the catastrophes of lightning, and the purification of sunlight. Life sure isn't easy for it. Klein repented for a second before controlling Center to pick up the ancient and exquisite copper whistle and stuffed it inside his body. He didn't directly head over, afraid that the deceased body would awaken it. Hence, he continued letting Senor to investigate this fellow who could resist the possession effect. Klein suspected that the deceased had an item of a rather high level. Of course, it freaking better have something. Soon Senor in his non-wraith form touched at something and pulled it out. It was a card of blasphemy. Okay. On the face of the card was a man wearing a papal tiara. What does that even mean? Was a man wearing a papal tiara? What is a tiara? It sounds like a clothing. A jeweled ornamental band worn on the front of a woman's hair. Okay. A papal tiara with both hands held up. Before him were prostrated believers, and beneath him was a lightning, dark clouds, galaxies, waves. Klein was very familiar with the man because he had a portrait of this person in another set of attire. It was Emperor Rizal. Oh shit, dude. Tiara, queen crown. Okay, queen, a queen. And to the top of the left was the pontiff dressed Rizal. There was a line of text formed with resplendent starlight. Sequence 0 Tyrant? What the fuck? It's a big crown that props up that the Pope used to wear. Oh, Tiara. How do you pronounce? Damn, why can't I pronounce it? And to the top left of the pontiff dressed Rizal, there was a line of text formed from the resplendent starlight Sequence 0 Tyrant. The card of blasphemy from the storm pathway. Oh, Oliver can use this. Okay. The card of blasphemy, he's Sequence 0 is Tyrant? I feel, no, we've known this. Oliver be like, yeah, can I use that, dude? Like, you don't need that, right, bro? Tiara. Oh my god, thank you, Merlin. Tiara. I knew I've said it before. I knew I said it correctly before. It's a tiara. The card of blasphemy from the storm pathway, the Tyrant card. Klein instantly recalled how the Church of the God of Knowledge and Wisdom addressed the Lords of Storm's Tyrant. Oliver also saw the card of blasphemy as his gaze froze instantly. Flames of greed flared up in his eyes like, yo, bitch, give me that fucking card. He took a deep breath and moved his gaze away as he looked to the side and said, the battle was intense. Perhaps other entities deep inside the cathedral have been awoken by us, so let's store away the beings as quickly as possible and prepare to leave. Mr. Hangman, don't you think I'm not aware of that? There's no need for you to nag. He's not nagging. What do you mean? What happened to our tactic teamwork from before? Huh, indeed, the Tyrant card has affected you. You can hardly calm down and you have become talkative. All of a sudden, he wants to talk to him. As Klein got Rafe Center to pick up the card of blasphemy and enter one of the deceased bodies and accelerate the production of the Beyonder characteristics, he coldly said, you've already wasted 5 seconds. Oliger was taken aback without saying another word. He walked to the remains of the six-winged gargoyle and dug out the eyeball that glowed red. Then he patiently waited for so he got the gargoyle's eye. Then he patiently waited for a moment and reached into its shattered back to extract a gargoyle translucent crystal. Elsewhere, with the Wraith's help, the deceased body was covered with a yellowish-green pus produced a blob of brown soil. It had roots to it with hidden blood vessels. It appeared rather strange. Without wasting time to guess the sequence or pathway it belonged to, Klein got Sinner to store it away before heading to the deceased body, whose slippery music... Yeah, let's change it. Good catch. Oliger was taken aback without saying another word. He walked to the remains of the six-winged gargoyle and dug out the eyeball that glowed red. Then he patiently waited for a moment and reached into the shattered back of the extracted gargoyle translucent crystal. Elsewhere, with the Wraith's help, the deceased body was covered with yellowish green pus produced a blob of brown soil. It had roots to it. Hidden blood vessels appeared rather strange. Without wasting time to guess the sequence or pathway it belonged to, Klein got Sinor to store it away before heading for the deceased body, whose slippery tentacles were still twitching slightly to accelerate the production of the Beyonder characteristics. Seeing what looked like a jellyfish with azure blue seawater in it take form, Klein and Oliger suddenly heard a dragged out sigh. Slippery music. The sighing came from deep within the cathedral, bringing along it with an indescribable sense of ancientness. What the fuck is this ancient aura that's sighing in the background? Oh, it's the baby. Is it the baby from the picture that's sighing in the background? And the baby's like, you've woken me from my slumber. Okay, hold up. Next chapter, 814, is called This Appeared. Okay, let's keep reading. Yeah, so we're going to end stream because Ellie clearly misses me. Look at that. Hi, Ellie. Hi. I'm sorry we've been reading. I know. We're going for a little walk now. So we're going to end there. More SS. Yeah, so this is the plan. We're going to end stream, upload this. We're going to take Ellie for a walk. And then I'm going to listen to somebody read Shadow Slave. Like just how I've been listening, just how you guys have been listening to me read Lord of the Mysteries. I'm going to find somebody that's reading Shadow Slave and I'm going to listen to them while I'm walking with Ellie. Just the first 7 chapters. At least up to where I read. So it'll be like my audiobook version. So if you guys have any recommendations on people that read Shadow Slave, let me know. So the goal is to read Shadow Slave on either Tuesday or Monday. So what I'm probably going to do on this is going to be the... Tomorrow, we're just going to be reading... Tomorrow, I'm going to schedule stream for only Lord of the Mysteries. But my plan is to stream like 8 hours early or so, like early in the day. And see if I can do like a early stream, and then we still have that late stream. So potentially tomorrow we'll do 2 streams. I know, only 19 chapters. I should have read one more, man. I should have read one more to get that perfect 20. So that's the plan. What was I saying? This is a really bad outro. Hold up, let me put the overall thoughts timestamp. 1 sec. Hey, very productive stream. Yeah, it was a little bit productive, right? Yeah, so that's the goal. We're gonna read only Lord of Mysteries tomorrow. Actually, no, I lied. Since I can't read the Revered Insanity manhwa right now, we'll read the Revered Insanity remake manhwa tomorrow, and then we'll go into Lord of the Mysteries, and then Tuesday is when I'll resume reading Eliseed, because I have my watermark filter thing set up for manhwa react, so that's fine. So after Eliseed, we'll jump into SSS for about 1 hour. And then the remaining 2 hours will be Lord of the Mysteries. Tomorrow before LOTM is good. Yeah, so I'm gonna see if I can do 2 streams tomorrow. RI and then 2 streams on Monday. And then that's Monday and Tuesday planned. Wednesday, I plan to read Omniscient Reader Viewpoint manhwa for like 1 hour. And then Lord of the Mysteries for 2 hours.
I'm saying all this as if it's set in stone. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be set in stone. I don't think we're gonna change the schedule, but I'll let you guys know tomorrow. But that's the goal. I don't think I'm gonna be streaming Friday that much. I know, Ellie. I know we're going out because Friday I was gonna go watch Fantastic Four, but I am gonna watch the episode off stream. So I'll watch the episode off stream when it drops. Hopefully have it edited and up before I go watch the movie Friday night. So we'll see how it goes. So either the reaction for Friday will be up right away. Will be up like Saturday morning. But we'll see how it goes. How long till we finish chapter 4? Any plans? I do plan to read just as much as I can. Like today, we got like 20 chapters out of the way. So I think we're good. I think tomorrow, my goal tomorrow is to read more than 20 chapters. Knock on wood, but that is my goal. My goal for tomorrow is to actually read more than 20 chapters. If I can read 30 chapters tomorrow, that's good. That is the goal. That is my goal for tomorrow. And that's my goal every stream. I want to keep reading as much as I can for Lord of the Mysteries. Just because I realize it's a really long series. And I don't want to... I know it feels like I'm rushing it, but I do want to finish it as quickly as possible. That way, you know, we have more time to, like, do other stuff in between. You know, like whatever we read next. Hi, Ellie. Here, let me grab Ellie for our outro. So if you like what you see and you want to see more, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Comment. Hi, Ellie. Come here. Come here. You have to say bye. Oh, you look so pretty rolling over. Look at you. Look at you. You're so pretty. You're going to be in our outro today. So if you like what you see and you want to see more, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Thank you to all our beautiful members. We're currently like at over 30 members. So we can add like, I think 2 to 3 more custom emotes. I definitely need to do clown makeup. Sorry, Easy. Everyone is busy talking French. Yeah, dude, I'm like, I don't know French. I was going to comment on that. I was like, what are you guys speaking? Is the sun rising from the west? Nah, bro. The sun is currently setting on the west, which is why... Sorry, I'm going to end the video when Ellie closes her eyes, okay? Look, I'm putting her to sleep. All right, this is going to be a very, hopefully, short or long intro. Once Ellie closes her eyes, we'll end stream. He's ending stream. We're ending stream. We should close her. Clencher will release Russian and Hindi dubs. Oh, really? Okay. Shh. Look. Close your eyes. Get some rest. Okay. I'll just end stream now. I love you, Ellie. Alright, guys. Peace. I'll see you guys all very soon. And tomorrow, we should hopefully read more than 20 chapters of Lord of Mysteries. And then next week, we should hopefully have a consistent schedule, a consistent week schedule. Yeah, we're ending. I do apologize. So hopefully, no. I'm sorry. So hopefully next week, we have a good consistent schedule where we read majority Lord of the Mysteries with a lot of other stuff in between. We'll see how it goes. What is this feeling betrayal? I know, I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I betrayed you guys for people that just tuned in. All right, I'm gonna see you soon, okay? Peace. Have a beautiful day. Can you see I'm not allowed on my outro because Ellie's already sleeping? I'm sorry. Charizard, we've been live for like 5 hours. I'm sorry. I'll have the video up right away. All right, thank you to all our beautiful mods, members, people that have been tuning in regularly, people that just tune in, like the video, follow the channel. It means the world to me, and I'll see you guys all very soon. Peace. And have a beautiful day. And Ellie says thank you. All right, later, guys. 35 chapter read through. Kyle, man, you better watch tomorrow, man. Tomorrow, my goal is to read more than 30 chapters. And if we're already doing more than 30 chapters, let's just do 40, bro. Like, fuck it, man. Let's just pull the band-aid. Let's see how much we can read tomorrow. So I hope you guys are free. Because I think I'll tell the missus we're free. I'll just tell her we're sick. Later, guys.